Chapter 59-58. The northernmost island was able to stand outside of the 5 Heaven Step Islands and become an independent money-squandering establishment. Li Zixiang thought that the island lord really couldn't be underestimated. If his internal injuries and old injuries were healed, his strength would be improved. "Boss, let's go, otherwise we won't even get the soup." Languza also felt Li Zixiang's strength and suddenly became anxious. The strongest two in that battle were only at the mountain opening stage. If Li Zixiang wanted to quell the dispute, it would only take a few breaths. Languza didn't want to miss this rare opportunity to fight. Lin Yi nodded and rushed to the scene with Languza. Fortunately, the distance was relatively close. In less than a dozen breaths, the two arrived at the scene of the battle. What made Languza depressed was that Li Zixiang really solved the battle in an instant. The 5 practitioners were all knocked down to the ground. They didn't even have a chance to fight back. The northernmost island is a fair and just place. Everyone can pay the price here and get everything they want, but everyone needs to abide by the rules of the northernmost island. Li Zixiang's face was as calm as water. His cold eyes glanced at the audience. When he said the words, "kill without mercy," everyone felt a chill in their hearts. For example, this one prohibits anyone from fighting in the commercial area of the northernmost island for any reason. Those who violate it will be imprisoned, fined, or even killed without mercy depending on the seriousness of the circumstances. The 5 powerful cultivators who had fallen to the ground were even more pale. They wanted to say something to beg for mercy, but their strength was sealed by Li Zixiang, so they couldn't even open their mouths. For a moment they were nervous, not knowing what kind of punishment they would face. Although imprisonment was shameful, it was much better than losing their lives. But Li Zixiang obviously felt that their matter was a bit big. Ordinary punishment was not enough to warn others. In view of the relatively wide scope of their fight, the impact caused is very bad. I, Li Zixiang, in the name of the northernmost island lord, announced that they will be sentenced to death without mercy. Before his voice fell, Li Zixiang flicked his fingers. 5 finger winds shot out and aimed at the eyebrows of the 5 people. Once hit, they would definitely die. "Uncle Li, wait." Lin Yi had just arrived at the scene when he saw Li Zixiang announce the punishment in a fit of rage, and then directly make a move to kill. He was immediately shocked and hurriedly opened his mouth to stop him. Li Zixiang's fingers moved, and the 5 finger winds were slightly deflected, avoiding the 5 people on the ground. Instead, they pierced through their shoulders. "Nephew Lin, do you know them?" Li Zixiang's expression was calm as he looked at Lin Yi. No one knew what he was thinking. However, just a moment ago, Li Zixiang had already announced that these 5 people would be killed without mercy. Even if Lin Yi pleaded for leniency, he might not be able to change his verdict. After all, the rules of the extreme North Island could not be broken. However, he had no choice but to give Lin Yi face for the time being. "Uncle Li, I don't know them, but this is too much of a coincidence. I think we should interrogate them and see if we can find any clues. Who knows, we might get some unexpected rewards." Lin Yi used telepathy to communicate with Li Zixiang so that the news wouldn't leak out. Li Zixiang suddenly understood. He was too angry just now and did not consider this layer. It seemed that he had been in closed-door training for too long, and his brain was a little rusty. Fortunately, he had announced the charges before executing these people. Otherwise, during the battle, he would not have confined their cultivation, but directly killed them with a slap. However, it seemed that it was not appropriate to change what he said just now. Li Zixiang was secretly annoyed. At this age, his killing intent was still too heavy. No wonder he would be possessed by the devil during cultivation. It seemed that after going back, he needed to properly cultivate his mind for a period of time before he could continue to cultivate. Just when he was in a dilemma, Li Ziyu hurried over with a group of northern garrison guards. "Old man, you are finally willing to come out? As a young master, I have to work hard for the auction every day, but you are always doing God knows what. Have you ever considered my feelings?" Li Ziyu was secretly surprised when he saw that his father had finally come out to take care of things. However, his mouth still muttered some words that did not match his heart. "Brat, you know that I am not feeling well, yet you still make me worry so much. Since you are here, I will leave these troublemakers to you. I will go back and have a good rest. Let's go." Li Zixiang laughed and scolded. He just happened to throw this difficult matter to his son. At the same time, he vaguely gave Li Ziyu a look. After Li Zixiang finished speaking, he said goodbye to Lin Yi and Languza, then turned around and left in a hurry. Although Li Zixiang and Li Ziyu, this strange father and son pair, did not behave properly when they were together, in fact, the two of them absolutely understood each other. With just a look, Li Ziyu had already understood each other. Damn old man, you only know how to be lazy. This young master has been ordered around by you for so many years at such a young age. Li Ziyu nagged at Li Zixiang's back discontentedly. Then he pointed to the northern garrison guards beside him and said, "You guys, go and put these guys in prison first." The old man said that they should be killed without mercy, but this young master will put them in prison for 8 to 10 years. Lin Yi was secretly amused. The father and son really had a tacit understanding. They had resolved the previous embarrassing situation while laughing and scolding. If he had not transmitted his voice to Li Zixiang and Li Ziyu, he would also think that it was a melodramatic play of a rebellious son going against his father. Canceling the island master's order in such a manner, not only would no one say anything, most people would even smile knowingly. After all, everyone had grown up in their youth and many of them were already parents, so they had a deep understanding of this situation. "Brother Lin, what happened just now?" After Li Ziyu ordered the northern garrison guards to disperse the crowd, he walked to Lin Yi and asked in a low voice. He came late, so he only heard Lin Yi hinting at him not to kill people. He did not know the details, but the old man's eyes seemed to also want him to ask Lin Yi. "Let's go and ask those 5 guys first. I don't know the details now." Lin Yi also said in a low voice, and pulled Li Ziyu to the direction of the prison. Languza looked dissatisfied and he bitterly followed behind. He finally had a chance to fight, but he could not make it because he was too slow. It was the same with the shape-shifting spirit beast last time. It seemed that he had to find a way to increase his speed by 6%. In a distant attic, Zheng Tianqing and Yu Ziqing regretfully shook their heads. They seemed to be very dissatisfied with Li Zixiang's sudden appearance. What a pity. It was supposed to be a big mess. I didn't expect Li Zixiang to appear so quickly. Speaking of which, the island owner of the extreme north island is really powerful. 2 mountain opening stage masters were fighting, but he directly intervened and knocked them down with one move. The strength is too strong. Yu Ziqing sighed softly, and he became less and less confident in his plan. Chapter 59-59. With such a powerful master around, even Uncle O would not be able to stop Li Zixiang, let alone Aunt Lan. Don't worry, creating chaos is not the goal. The goal is to let the Li family in the extreme north investigate the cause of the chaos, so that they can be distracted. Zheng Tianqing was quite proud of himself. The battle between the 5 cultivators was caused by his poisoning, and the plan this time was also formulated by him. The only regret was that the poison was provided to him by the organization. If he could concoct it himself, it would be very awesome. It was a poison that could even kill a cultivator at the opening mountain stage. If there were enough of it, Zheng Tianqing believed that he could definitely unify Middle Island and sweep across the East Continent. Unfortunately, his superior said that the ingredients for the poison were precious and difficult to make, so there were not many in stock. He could only use 6 portions and they were all given to Zheng Tianqing this time. Zheng Tianqing had just used 1 portion and the effect was really good. He could not wait to find the next target. He was even considering if he could give one to Lin Yi. That would be such a beautiful scene. However, when he thought that Lin Yi's detoxification method seemed to be better than his own, he immediately gave up the idea. "Child Zheng, you have to stir up the chaos as soon as possible. Otherwise, our plan won't work." Aunt Lan was a little anxious. It was getting dark and tomorrow's dawn was getting closer and closer. If they could not divert the attention of the Li family in the extreme north to these things, the possibility of their failure was basically 100%. The consequences were too serious for Yu Ziqing to bear. "Don't worry, in the next hour, Li Ziyu and the North Garrison will keep stopping the fights, and then they will start to investigate the cause. Take this opportunity to finish what you need to do. When I'm done, I can go and help you." Zheng Tianqing was very enthusiastic. The more he did not know, the more he wanted to know. If he was not the only one who could do the poisoning, he would definitely follow Yu Ziqing closely. Yu Ziqing also wanted to cry but had no tears. He wanted to F***king throw this matter to Zheng Tianqing, but time waits for no man. If he couldn't take advantage of the opportunity that Zheng Tianqing created, when Li Ziyu came back to his senses, it would be completely over. "Tianqing, you are indeed loyal. But you won't be able to make it in time. As long as you can attract the attention of the Li family and the Northern Sentinel, it will be a great achievement." Yu Ziqing sighed and patted Zheng Tianqing's shoulder with regret. Zheng Tianqing also felt that it was a pity. They were already so close to the truth, but they had no choice but to distance themselves again. "Young master, we don't have much time left. We have to prepare for the operation. Please leave the rest to young master Zheng." Aunt Lan nodded politely to Zheng Tianqing, then pulled Yu Ziqing away. Zheng Tianqing was quite satisfied with Aunt Lan's attitude. In the past, this woman had never given him any face. After all, whether it was his strength or status, Zheng Tianqing was not worth mentioning in Aunt Lan's eyes. Now, Aunt Lan was begging Zheng Tianqing, which greatly satisfied his vanity. If it wasn't for the organization's mission, he might have hesitated a few more times before agreeing to help. "Don't worry, I won't let you down." Zheng Tianqing laughed and casually cupped his hands to bid farewell to Ziqing and Aunt Lan. Yu Ziqing's face darkened. "You can go now. You don't even know how to say something auspicious. I don't know what the F***King organization sees in this idiot follower. Is it because this idiot is innocent enough?" In fact, Yu Ziqing also knew that although Zheng Tianqing's strength was not as good as his, and there was a huge gap between him and the real geniuses in the East Continent, Zheng Tianqing was really good at poisoning. Even if it was an unorthodox method, it could play a huge role when used in the right place. Maybe that was what the organization saw in him. After Ziqing and Aunt Lan left, the deep male voice came from the communicator in Zheng Tianqing's ear again. "Zheng Tianqing, you have to do it well. Our organization has handed over all the drugs to you. If you can't do it well, the organization will reevaluate your ability. Remember, this is your only chance. If you don't succeed, find another way." "Got it?" Zheng Tianqing curled his lips impatiently. "I just felt a little better, but it was ruined by you again. What a bummer. Hurry up. After a while, all the people in the auction house will leave. Who are you going to target?" The deep male voice could not help but raise his voice. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Zheng Tianqing's delay. From this detail, it could be seen that this person was definitely watching nearby. Otherwise, how could he know Zheng Tianqing's movements so well? Zheng Tianqing was shocked. He quickly agreed, jumped out of the building and quickly ran to the crowded place. Lin Yi and Li Ziyu brought the 5 captured practitioners to the dungeon. They first detained one of them in the early stage of the mountain opening stage and interrogated him alone. "Tell me, why did you want to fight in the extreme North Island? Don't you know the rules here?" Li Ziyu personally went up and stared at this guy with cold eyes. Needless to say, that expression was exactly the same as when Li Zixiang announced the death penalty. He really was his biological son. This mountain opening stage powerhouse could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Although Li Ziyu's cultivation was similar to that of an ant in his eyes, now that his strength was restricted, any ordinary person could crush him like an ant. "I didn't want to fight with anyone. I was completely forced to protect myself. Actually, if you ask the people nearby, you should know that I was really the passive defensive party. You people from the extreme North Island can't be unreasonable, right?" This guy had a shadow in his heart about Li Zixiang. However, Li Ziyu's demeanor and appearance were extremely similar to Li Zixiang. If one had to describe it, it would be that Li Zixiang suddenly looked a lot younger. Therefore, this mountain opening stage powerhouse was completely suppressed by Li Ziyu when he opened his mouth. Because of this, what he said was somewhat credible. Lin Yi frowned slightly. If this guy was really passive defensive, then the problem could only be with the other mountain opening stage powerhouse. "Brother Li, go and interrogate the other mountain opening stage powerhouse first. The other 3 mysterious ascension late stage peak are probably just following the 2 leaders. We won't be able to get anything out of them." Lin Yi used sound transmission to give his suggestion. Chapter 5960. Lin Yi was also on the side. He also wanted to know the truth as soon as possible. This matter itself was strange. However, before the 2 of them walked to another interrogation room, a northern guard rushed in. He came to the 2 of them and said, "Young Island Master, there are cultivators fighting in the commercial area again. This time, the Island Master has told us in advance that he will not come out unless it is an emergency. So, you need to personally command this battle." "There are cultivators fighting again?" Li Ziyu felt a headache. He had not figured out the situation here, and there was another one? The damn old man deliberately did not show up. Who was the Island Master of the extreme North Island? Lin Yi released his divine sense and found that there were 2 groups of people fighting in the commercial area. This time there were more people, nearly 10. Although there were no mountain opening stage giants, they were basically masters of the mysterious ascending stage. Perhaps this was the reason why Li Zixiang did not make a move. A group of mysterious ascending stage guys were making trouble, and he, the Island Master of the Earth opening stage, had to make a move. The extreme North Island was indeed too weak. "Boss, let's go and deal with these small fries." Languza popped out from an unknown corner. He rolled up his sleeves and had an excited expression on his face. He was ready to fight at any moment. "Brother Li, leave the outside matters to me and Languza. You need to figure out the reason why these people are fighting as soon as possible. Since it is not an accident, The reason behind it is even more worth thinking about. Lin Yi did not talk nonsense and directly told Li Ziyu their respective tasks. Languza was overjoyed. Finally, he had the opportunity to make a move. Now he was afraid that Li Ziyu would not agree, so he looked at Li Ziyu eagerly. Li Ziyu had no objection. Of course, he could rest assured with Lin Yi's help. Moreover, it was very important to figure out the reason why these guys were fighting. Brother Lin, then I'll leave it to you. Li Ziyu nodded decisively. At the same time, he ordered the Northern Guard, go and take some people with Master Lin. Be sure to listen to his command. At the same time, mobilize a Northern Guard to strengthen the patrols to avoid similar situations. Yes, young master. The Northern Guard saluted and immediately went out to give the order. Lin Yi and Languza could not wait for the Northern Garrison Guards to arrive. They rushed to the scene first. At this moment there were 9 cultivators present, and they were basically evenly matched. It was 4 against 5, and the side with fewer people was stronger. It was a well-matched situation. It was precisely because of this that the damage caused was maximized. If one side had an overwhelming advantage, the battle might have ended long before anyone arrived. Languza let out a strange cry. He didn't wait for Lin Yi's order and directly rushed into the battle. He didn't care which side they were on, he just wanted to beat up whoever was next to him. Lin Yi did not make a move. Instead, he fully activated his divine sense and carefully observed the people on the battlefield to see if there was anything unusual. At the same time, he searched for any suspicious people among the onlookers. Languza's ability was completely invincible among those of the same level. Even if it was a giant in the mountain opening period, he could still wrestle with him. Hence, when he charged into the chaotic battle, he did not feel any pressure at all. He easily took down one of them. No matter which one was knocked down, it meant that the balance was broken. One side took the opportunity to retreat and wanted to leave the battle, but the other side did not give up and continued to attack. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, the side that did not give up was actually the group that Languza had knocked down. Languza, take them down. Don't waste time. Lin Yi saw something strange and directly told Languza to finish the battle quickly. Languza agreed. It was rare to have a chance to fight. He originally wanted to play for a while, but since the boss had spoken, he could only find a chance to play next time. Violent vital energy exploded in an instant. Languza was practically a human bulldozer. Wherever he went, resistance would be completely flattened. Within the span of a few breaths, these people were all lying on the ground, moaning and groaning. Boss, I did well, right? I didn't kill a single one. Languza suddenly appeared beside Lin Yi. He clapped his hands and smiled, asking for credit. Did you fight to your heart's content? Lin Yi looked at Languza with a smile that was not a smile. This guy fought for leisure and entertainment. What was there to ask for credit? I didn't enjoy it. Next time, boss, you have to let me do it. Languza smiled embarrassedly and immediately booked the next opportunity to fight. What a jinx. Do you want a next time? Lin Yi was also speechless. Li Ziyu was already in a terrible mess and Languza still wanted a next time. Could he think of something better? The soldiers of the Northern Guard rushed over, but they could only clean up the mess because the matter was already settled. Just like when Lin Yi and Languza rushed over, Li Zixiang had already finished his work. Languza was very satisfied with this. He finally experienced the treatment of a master like Li Zixiang. You guys take these troublemakers to the prison and let young Master Li interrogate them, especially those few. Lin Yi pointed at the few guys who were still pestering the Northern Guard. He also wanted to ask about the situation of Li Ziyu's interrogation. However, after 2 consecutive incidents, Lin Yi felt that this matter would not end so easily. Maybe something new would happen. Therefore, he wanted to continue patrolling with Languza to nip it in the bud. Before that, Lin Yi wanted to ask the bystanders how the fight had happened. Perhaps he'd be able to get some useful clues from the witnesses. Friend, may I ask if you've been here from the beginning? Why are these people fighting? Lin Yi picked a cultivator who was closest to the fight, walked over and asked politely. The cultivator who was asked by Lin Yi was also a mysterious ascension stage cultivator. His strength was around the peak of the late stage. He probably had just broken through not long ago and was not very stable. Seeing Languza's power just now, he didn't dare to be slow in the face of Lin Yi's question. He hurriedly cupped his fists and replied, "That's right, I've been watching it from the very beginning until now. Come to think of it, it's quite strange. Those 2 groups of people were originally going their own ways and didn't seem to know each other at all, but the leader of the smaller group suddenly launched an attack on the other group." Lin Yi frowned slightly. Suddenly launched an attack? Could it be a premeditated surprise attack? But what the spectator said next immediately overturned this idea. Chapter 5961. Why did that person suddenly attack the other party? Did anything strange happen before that? Lin Yi really couldn't figure it out, so he could only continue to ask. Unfortunately, after this cultivator carefully recalled, he shook his head slightly apologetically, indicating that this was all he knew. Thank you. Lin Yi couldn't help it. He could only clasp his fist and thank him. Then he turned around and asked the other two onlookers. The answers he got were almost the same. It was basically consistent with what the first person said, and no one knew why the leader suddenly went crazy. Boss, do you think that guy will suddenly go crazy and then he will bite anyone he sees just like the rabies in your secular world? Languza was rarely imaginative, and he was very active in providing an idea. There is also this possibility. If you can find a mad dog or something on the island in the far north, it is probably like this. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said perfunctorily. While he was talking, his divine sense suddenly discovered that in another place 3 streets away from here, there were another 6 mysterious ascending stage cultivators suddenly fighting, and they attacked without any warning. The party that was attacked was not prepared at all, and one of them was directly injured. Compared to the second wave of people who were fighting, they were obviously much more unlucky. Boss, someone is fighting again. Languza also noticed the fluctuations of the battle, and he immediately shouted excitedly. His expression of wanting to see the world in chaos made Lin Yi feel very embarrassed. But he didn't have time to talk to him. Lin Yi fully exerted the extreme butterfly microsteps, and his whole person turned into an afterimage and flew out, and he jumped directly from the roof. Languza suddenly admired him. Boss is the boss, he can even think of such a shortcut, it is really much faster. So he quickly followed up, and almost collapsed the house. After a few ups and downs, the two had already arrived at the scene. Languza shouted, "Boss, I'm coming," and rushed into the battle again. Naturally, Lin Yi would not snatch the opportunity to fight. What he did was to use his divine sense to repeatedly check everyone nearby to see if there was anyone similar or overlapping with the previous one. Perhaps this was the key to solving the mystery. Unfortunately, no matter how Lin Yi checked, he couldn't find anything similar. This made him wonder if it was really a coincidence. Languza was having a lot of fun. He beat them up, but he didn't use too much force so that the cultivators could continue to attack. In the end, it became a situation where he was fighting against 5 people alone. The one who was ambushed earlier wanted to retreat, but he couldn't. Languza, have you had enough? Lin Yi was also speechless. Was this guy here to help or cause trouble? Now he had to end the battle as soon as possible. He was still having fun. Boss, it's almost done. Languza answered and quickly increased the frequency of his attacks. If the boss got angry and forbade him to beat people up, it would be a big problem. Once Languza got serious, these mysterious ascending stage cultivators were no match for him at all. They were knocked down in an instant. The patrolling northern guards also arrived at the scene. According to Lin Yi's instructions, they took them to the prison and handed them over to Li Ziyu. Unfair, this is too unfair. We were the ones who were ambushed. How can we be arrested like these bastards? Where is the fairness of the extreme North Island? Can't we fight back when we were ambushed? Can't we just wait for death? The guy who was ambushed first did not participate in the subsequent battle, so Languza did not imprison his cultivation, and the northern guards did not take him away. That was why he protested immediately. Lin Yi was stunned. This guy's words made sense. If someone dared to ambush him, he would probably kill them first regardless of where he was. Lin Yi was not the only one who heard this. The onlookers not far away also began to talk about it. That's right. If that's the case, who would dare to come to the extreme North Island? If we are ambushed, we will die if we don't fight back. Are we here to die? That's not a big deal. Aren't you worried that you will be killed inexplicably on the road? Why do I feel that a lot of people here are showing signs of going crazy? I heard that the same thing happened just now. We were attacked inexplicably while walking. What should we do? It seems dangerous to stay, but tomorrow is the last day of the auction. It will be a waste if we don't participate. Don't go out before the auction starts. Leave as soon as it ends tomorrow. Don't come back again. This place is a bit strange. There were all kinds of discussions. An emotion called panic was quietly spreading. Lin Yi suddenly felt that something was wrong. If this continued, the extreme North Island would fall into chaos. At that time, the sea beasts would take the opportunity to attack. It would be a problem both inside and outside. Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Was this deliberately created by the sea beasts? To make the extreme North Island fall into chaos? If that's the case, wouldn't the sea beast's attack start soon? Languza, come here. Lin Yi yelled as he took out a recording pen. He put it to his mouth and quickly said a few words before passing it to Languza, who was running over. Boss, what is this for? Languza took the recording pen and wanted to listen to the content. Lin Yi stared at him. It's not for you. You go to the ancient warship immediately and pass the recording pen to Captain Okuda. After that, don't come back. Just stay on the ancient warship and help me keep an eye on the movements in the sea. In the sea? Boss, are you saying that those guys are coming again? Languza was not willing to run errands and missed the opportunity to fight. However, he was excited when he heard that something might happen in the sea. Compared to fighting with the people on the extreme North Island, Languza preferred to fight the sea beasts in the sea. It was his home ground and it was easier for him to use his strength. I hope I'm wrong. Go now. Lin Yi waved his hand. After sending Languza away, he found another northern town guard. Go and find young Master Li and tell him to speed up. Also, the investigation that I mentioned before needs to be done as soon as possible. Ask him to send someone to inform me if there's any news. Lin Yi was vague, but he believed that Li Ziyu would understand. If it was possible, Lin Yi would definitely go and ask about the situation in person. However, it was not the right time. According to the current situation, the next wave of fighting would probably start soon. Chapter 5962. What Lin Yi was most worried about was whether someone would take the opportunity to sneak up on his enemy and come up with some inexplicable reason. Anyway, this had happened a few times before, so he could say anything. Lin Yi had to find out the reason before the situation got out of hand. He had to put an end to the possibility of someone taking advantage of the situation. Fortunately, the north garrison that Li Ziyu had set up was already in place. There were people patrolling all the busy areas, so it was of some use. Normally, no one would dare to provoke the north garrison for no reason. As soon as this thought flashed through Lin Yi's mind, his divine sense suddenly discovered that someone really did sneak up on a team of patrolling north garrison. This was going to turn the world upside down. Because of the 2 consecutive fights, Lin Yi's divine sense had completely covered the entire bustling area of the far north island, constantly searching for suspicious people, things. However, no one was obviously abnormal. Before he went crazy, he really couldn't tell anything. Even the person who dared to sneak up on the north garrison, Lin Yi didn't notice anything wrong before. It was only when the person suddenly went crazy that Lin Yi discovered it. This was a master in the early stage of the mountain opening stage. Facing the 5-man team of the north garrison, he easily killed one guard and moved on to the next one. Lin Yi didn't care about hiding his trump card. One after another, lightning arcs flashed continuously. In a flash, he had arrived at the scene of the battle. The dragon-shaped murderous aura of the 5 elements rushed forward and completely shattered the attack of the master in the mountain opening stage. The guy's attention immediately shifted to Lin Yi. He gave up on chasing the north garrison and rushed directly to Lin Yi. His attacks became even more fierce. Lin Yi secretly frowned. This guy in the mountain opening stage looked extremely ferocious, and there was an inexplicable madness in his eyes. It was as if Lin Yi had killed his father, and he would absolutely not stop until Lin Yi was dead. This situation was obviously abnormal. Lin Yi was almost sure that this guy must have been tampered with. However, he did not know how he did it. There was no one around him except for the patrolling North Guard. There was no one within 500 meters of him. After a few consecutive fights, the originally lively commercial area had quietened down. Moreover, it was extremely quiet because of the previous commotion. Otherwise, the guy in the mountain opening period might not have been able to attack the North Town Guards. The dragon-shaped 5 elements killing chi whistled in the air, instantly pouncing towards the mountain opening stage expert from the side. This guy who had fallen into madness did not lose his battle instincts at all. His body twisted strangely and he actually dodged this attack. Moreover, he continued to pounce towards Lin Yi without losing any momentum. Lin Yi stood there without moving. 3 pill fire divine sense whirlpools were instantly activated, completely surrounding the mountain opening stage expert in a triangular formation. In fact, using the soul hook was the most suitable way to end the battle silently. However, Lin Yi still needed this guy to be sober enough to answer his questions, so he had to give up on the soul hook. The mountain opening stage expert who crashed into the pill fire divine sense whirlpool immediately let out a shrill scream. His primordial spirit felt like it was being torn apart and burned. This kind of pain was not something that anyone could bear. The dragon-shaped 5 elements killing chi whistled and chased after this guy. Taking advantage of the fact that his primordial spirit was injured, it fiercely hit his back, forcibly turning his scream into a mouthful of blood. Then he softly fell to the ground. This was even when Lin Yi was merciful. Otherwise it would be easy to kill him directly. The divine sense whirlpool and the 5 elements killing chi attacked from both inside and outside. Under the mountain opening stage, it was almost impossible to resist this kind of damage without a divine sense defense tool. Capture him and send him to prison to young island owner Li. Lin Yi calmly ordered. The remaining 4 northern town guards quickly followed his order, their eyes full of respect. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was used to this. Ever since the last time he fought Uncle Li and Uncle O, he had a clear understanding that as long as he didn't get ganged up on by a mountain opening practitioner, he wouldn't be afraid of any mountain opening practitioner in a one-on-one situation. Even if he couldn't beat a peak opening practitioner, he wouldn't be killed by them. This was the 4th ambush and the bad effects had spread far and wide. Other than the North Guard, Lin Yi's consciousness couldn't see any tourists wandering around outside. They were all rushing back to their residences, afraid that they would be ambushed out of nowhere, or that they would go crazy for no reason and become the perpetrators of the ambushes. This is good, at least no one will be targeted anymore. Lin Yi sighed softly. It was not easy to eliminate this kind of panic, but he did not need to worry about it. Li Zixiang and Li Ziyu would naturally have a way to deal with it. Pass down the order immediately. Keep a visual distance between the northern town guards and pay attention to any suspicious people approaching. If a member of the northern town guards is attacked, you must know who passed by and where he went. Do you understand? Lin Yi called a northern town guard over and gave the order in a low voice. Since Li Ziyu had given him enough authority, he would not pass on the responsibility. If the mastermind still wanted to make the soldiers of the northern town guards go crazy, then they would be caught by the tail and pulled out. Lin Yi estimated that this guy could not make people go crazy on a large scale. Whether it was the time of the skill, the chi limit, the number of times and the quantity limit of the items and medicines, there must be some drawbacks. Otherwise, the entire northern island would have been turned upside down. This kind of attack from time to time was mainly to cause panic, so that the northern town guards would be exhausted. At the same time, all the guests on the northern island would feel fear and quickly flee the northern island. Yes, Master Lin. Your subordinate will pass down your order immediately. This northern town guard was extremely respectful to Lin Yi. He even called himself his subordinate. It seemed that Lin Yi's performance had established his prestige in the northern town guards. However, before Lin Yi's order was passed down, there was a new battle. This time, it was not in the commercial area, but in the residential area of the inn. Lin Yi's expression suddenly changed. All the residential areas would basically have a barrier to block divine sense. No matter how shallow it was, it could prevent other people's divine sense from prying. It was not difficult to force one's divine sense in, and Lin Yi could do it easily. However, it was impossible to hide it from the people inside because it was not spying but a blatant invasion. Even Li Zixiang, the owner of the island, did not have the right to do so. Chapter 5963. Damn it! Will I still be controlled after returning to the station? Lin Yi cursed and instantly disappeared. From this, it could be inferred that this kind of attack was not instantaneous. There would be a lag time, so it would be more difficult to find the culprit. Because Lin Yi did not know how long the lag time was. 3 minutes? 5 minutes? 10 minutes or even half an hour? 1 or 2 days? If he could not determine the time, how could he find the culprit behind the scenes? Lin Yi's speed was already extremely fast, but when he arrived, the outcome of the battle between the two was already clear. After all, there was a relatively large gap in strength between the two. Otherwise, the other 8 people would not have been killed. The guy who killed all his own people was covered in the blood of his companions. He was like a fierce god struggling out of hell, roaring ferociously. When Lin Yi appeared, he did not say a word and launched a new round of attacks. A wisp of saber chi appeared in front of Lin Yi. The direction of the attack was erratic. It clearly felt like it was aimed at the chest, but in the next moment, it could appear at the throat. This guy really had a skill. Even in a state of madness, his control of martial arts was still excellent. Lin Yi's phantom let the saber chi pass through his body, but his real body appeared behind the guy like a ghost and slapped the back of the guy's head. Unexpectedly, the guy reacted very quickly. His body made a 90-degree turn and the saber chi reversed. The saber chi slashed into Lin Yi's body like a waterfall. Unfortunately, it was still just a phantom. The essence of the Cloud Dragon's 3 appearances was that it could switch between the real body and the phantom at any time. So no matter how fast the guy's reaction was, he could not keep up with the speed of Lin Yi's attack. When the attack appeared behind him again, the guy had no way to deal with it. He could only collapse to the ground and fall into a coma. Poor guy, when you wake up and know that you killed all your companions, I wonder if you will feel that it is better to die than to live. Lin Yi sighed softly and looked at the guy on the ground with some pity. Perhaps it would be better for him to kill him now? The nearby northern guard quickly arrived and took control of the guy, who was both a murderer and a survivor. According to Lin Yi's order, he was sent to Li Ziyu. As for what would happen to him after he woke up, Lin Yi could not care less. Master Lin, this is the message from young master. A northern guard rushed over and handed Lin Yi a scroll sealed with a restriction formation. Thank you. Lin Yi nodded and took it. He quickly opened it, but there were no words on it. Instead, a phantom of Li Ziyu appeared and spoke to him directly. He did not know what kind of technology it was, but it was a bit similar to the 3D video recording in the secular world. Brother Lin, after the interrogation, the mountain opening stage cultivator in the first batch did not lie. It was another guy who suddenly attacked. Because the old man sealed their cultivation, the guy who attacked regained his consciousness. According to him, when he was walking, he discovered his lifelong enemy. Then, the killing intent in his heart could not be suppressed, and he immediately launched a surprise attack involuntarily. In fact, his opponent was a stranger that he had never met. It had nothing to do with his lifelong enemy. It was all his own illusion. And this is not a special case. In the second batch of people you sent here, the leader of the surprise attack was in the same situation. There was almost no difference. We haven't had time to interrogate the rest of the people, but we can confirm that this is the reason. According to my speculation, they must have been poisoned by an extremely powerful hallucinogenic drug. The problem is that they don't know when they were poisoned. Fortunately, this hallucinogenic drug is not contagious. Otherwise, the entire northernmost island would have completely fallen. Now I'm only worried that the culprit still has a lot of hallucinogenic drugs, and then the northernmost island will be in chaos. Brother Lin, please help me pay more attention in this aspect. In addition, I've also sent a city guard to patrol the commercial area. We must ensure that there are enough people to control the situation. I'll leave their command to Brother Lin. At this time, the extreme North Island must not have any panic disorder. If there is a trend, I ask Brother Lin to suppress it. I'll bear all the consequences. The shadow of Li Ziyu, who was only the size of a palm, had a very dignified expression. It was estimated that he was under a lot of pressure to say such words. Usually, Li Ziyu did not have the intention to kill, but now he even gave the authority to suppress it to Lin Yi. It could be seen how serious the situation of the northernmost island was in his heart. In the end, Li Ziyu did not say what he was going to do. However, Lin Yi could roughly guess that the culprit behind the scenes was definitely not the main target of the panic and chaos in the northernmost island, unless he had a lot of hallucinogenic drugs that could make people fall into hallucinations on a large scale. Unfortunately, Lin Yi speculated that the possibility was very low. Otherwise it would not have happened only 5 times. Li Ziyu also had this suspicion, so he arranged to defend some more important places. However, there seemed to be a total of 7 guard stations in the northernmost island. The guard station in the north was imprisoned and isolated because of the incident with the spirit beast and the tunnel. The guard station in the north was also sent to guard it. The commercial area was originally guarded by a guard station in shifts. Now that 2 more guard stations were transferred here, it meant that there were only 2 guard stations left to defend the other places. This was a bit too dangerous. Luring the tiger away from the mountain? Making a feint in the east and striking in the west? Lin Yi murmured. Then he trembled and immediately issued an order to the northern guard next to him. Immediately send the 2 transferred guard stations back to their original positions. We don't need so many people here. The northern guard bowed and cupped his fists. Yes, Master Lin. However, it is not all of the 2 guard stations that were transferred here. To be exact, it is 2/3 of the guard stations. They each left 1/3 of their men to guard their original positions, so there will be no problem. Go and pass the order. Send all the people that were transferred here back. Don't make me repeat myself. Lin Yi did not have time to explain at all. After he raised his voice, he directly rushed out of the courtyard. The North Guard didn't dare to say anything else. He was just trying to explain, he wasn't trying to disobey Li Ziyu's order. Li Ziyu's order aside, the prestige that Lin Yi had built up in such a short period of time was enough for him to obey. Chapter 5964. It was also because of Qibing's words that Zhao Guangxi left Songshan and came to Donghai to do business. Of course, since he continued to give Zhao Guangyin a large sum of money every month to the hidden Zhao family, he quickly gained a foothold in East Ocean City. However, he was no longer able to go to a higher level. House Zhao had chosen a new business representative, the chairman of Donghai Chamber of Commerce, Lei Daming. Just now, it was Lei Daming's order to chase them away. Naturally, he couldn't disobey Lei Daming's request, since they were on the same side. It seemed that he had kicked an iron plank. He had to make it clear to Lei Daming that the Hidden House Han had to be suppressed by the Hidden House Zhao, but he, Zhao Guangxi, wasn't able to do so. Elder Bai didn't have the ability to get the Hidden House Zhao to help, but Lei Daming could. I understand, don't do anything rashly, just serve them the dishes. Don't show yourself, I'll arrange for someone else to go. Guangxi said. Yes, Mr. Zhao. The manager quickly replied. After putting down the phone, Guangxi couldn't wait to call Lei Daming. Mr. Zhao, is it done? Lei Daming was eating at the Northern Ice Seafood restaurant, and naturally thought that it was done after receiving Guangxi's call. As far as he was concerned, this wasn't a big deal at all. Guangxi was the boss here, and if he didn't want to do business with a table full of customers, then so be it. What else could Peng Zhan do? Done what, Mr. Lei? You've screwed me over, they have a backer too. Since Zhao Guangxi was related to Zhao Guangyin, he wouldn't be too humble in front of Lei Daming. He cried and complained. They invited someone from the Hidden Han family. His name is Han Xiaopa, and I couldn't suppress him anymore. Not only did Han Xiaopa threaten me to get out of East Ocean City, but he also wanted me to take away all my businesses. Mr. Lei, you can't just ignore this. Hidden House Han? How are they related to Peng Zhan? Lei Daming said. Elder Bai frowned, confused. All right, you don't have to worry about it, I'll report this to the boss. The boss Lei Daming was talking about was naturally Guangyin of the Hidden House Zhao. Lei Daming was his representative, and the reason why he didn't want Peng Zhan to enter Donghai was because Peng Zhan's business overlapped too much with Lei Daming's. Hotels, shopping malls, real estate, all of them were profitable projects. If Peng Zhan were to come, he'd have to take responsibility for Guangyin's actions. Lei Daming's business would be affected, and if Guangyin were to blame him, he'd have to take responsibility. So, Lei Daming didn't feel that he was in the wrong. He called Zhao Guangyin directly. Boss, there's trouble. What kind of trouble? Zhao Guangyin's attitude towards Lei Daming was quite good. After Lei Daming was promoted, he quickly made a name for himself in East Ocean City. He brought in a lot of profits for the Zhao family every month, and there was a lot of sustainable profits. Therefore, Zhao Guangyin had high hopes for him. I told you before, I've teamed up with the local merchants in Donghai, trying to force an outsider out of business. After all, his business overlaps with ours. Lei Daming explained the situation, proving that he wasn't trying to make a personal grudge with the Hidden House Han. Yes, I know. Does this outsider have a background? Guangyin quickly connected the dots. That's right, the Hidden House Han is here to support them. Lei Daming nodded. His name is Han Xiaopa. What? Hidden House Han's Han Xiaopa is the outsider's backer? Guangyin paused. Didn't the Hidden House Han not do business? Could it be that after the Hidden House summit, the Hidden House Han had bared their fangs and were ready to start a business? That's right. Here's what happened today. Lei Daming didn't hide anything and directly told Zhao Guangxi about how he met the outsider at the Arctic Ocean Seafood restaurant and how he made Zhao Guangxi embarrass him. Well, you did the right thing. Guangyin nodded. Lei Daming was arrogant, but he was doing it for the sake of the Hidden House Zhao's business, so Guangyin had to stand up for him. Moreover, even if this didn't happen, the Hidden Zhao family couldn't take it lying down. After the Hidden Family Summit, the Hidden Han family was no longer as cautious and low-key as before. Instead, they began to move around in the East Ocean City and made their voices heard. It seemed like they wanted to compete with the Hidden Zhao family. At the Hidden House Summit, the Hidden House Han used their relationship with Lin Yi to make the Hidden House Zhao feel bad. After Lin Yi left, the Hidden House Han was still jumping around and even supporting an outsider. Guangyin couldn't tolerate this. If he gave in this time, he believed that the Hidden House Han would take advantage of him and make it worse. Therefore, he had to kill their ambition as soon as they showed their fangs. Boss, what should we do now? Lei Daming asked carefully. Isn't it just Han Xiaopa? Guangyin smiled coldly. He really thinks he's someone important. Don't worry, I'll let Qibing and Elder Bai come out and teach this arrogant bastard a lesson. Does he really think that the Hidden House Han can compete with the Hidden House Zhao? He's overestimating himself. That's great. Lei Daming was overjoyed. He didn't think that Guangyin would send Zhao Qibing, the heir of the Hidden House Zhao, and Elder Bai, the core member of the Hidden House Zhao. Just you wait, they'll be here soon. Guangyin couldn't make Elder Bai move, but he could make Qibing move. If Qibing went, Elder Bai as his master had to go as well. After all, Han Xiaopa was an Earth-class early phase. If Han Xiaopa made a move, then Qibing would be at a disadvantage. But if Elder Bai went, the situation would be different. Elder Bai wouldn't just sit and watch, and Han Xiaopa wouldn't dare make a move. Yes, thank you, boss. Lei Daming said quickly. In Lin Yi's room, Han Xiaopa closed the door unhappily and walked to Lin Yi with a smile. Boss, what's going on? Chapter 5965. But things were different now. Sun Jingyi had become their daughter, and it would be hard for Faubert to fight with Meng Yao for a man. On one side was his biological daughter, and on the other side was the miss who wasn't even his biological daughter but was more like one. Plus, Peng Zhan was the one who took him in. Faubert was in a dilemma. But it seemed like Peng Zhan wasn't against it, and since Meng Yao could accept Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao, she might be able to accept Sun Jingyi. Faubert let out a breath of relief. The family was talking happily when the door of the private room was pushed open. They thought it was the waiter who came to serve the dishes, but the person who came in was not a waiter, but a person who looked like a lobby manager. I'm sorry everyone. Our chairman just called, saying that you're from the Arctic Ocean. You've entered the wrong door. Unwelcome guests of the Fresh Restaurant, please leave. As soon as the lobby manager came in, he didn't wait for anyone to ask and said this in a flat tone. Peng Zhan didn't think that Lei Daming would actually do something like this. Pressuring the chairman of the restaurant to send someone to ask Peng Zhan to leave was a very humiliating action, but it was also extremely sinister. Even business competitors wouldn't do something like this. Not only would it make people think that Lei Daming was being sinister, but it also meant that there was no room for negotiation between Peng Zhan and Lei Daming. What kind of restaurant is this? Which rule says that you can ask a guest to leave? Peng Zhan had a restaurant in Songshan as well, but he'd never done something like this before. Even if it was a competitor, he'd treat them well. Our chairman's words are the rules. The manager said faintly. If you guys don't leave, we'll have to ask the security department to step in. The chairman said that we'll use diplomacy before force, so please make your decision quickly. A threat. This was a blatant threat. Peng Zhan felt that this Lei Daming was going too far. This wasn't business at all, it was like a gang. Chapter 2345, Wrong Door Entering the Wrong Door. This was the boss style. After the manager's words, there was an awkward silence. Peng Zhan, on the other hand, felt like a scholar meeting a soldier. Lin Yi, on the other hand, frowned. He was about to say something when someone else spoke up. Boss, I'm here. Han Xiaopa rushed into the room, but he didn't seem to notice the awkward atmosphere in the room. Instead, he chattered to Lin Yi, I'm sorry I rushed all the way here, but this restaurant is a little far from my house. To express my apology, I'll treat you. Treat? There's no need to invite us. You've come for nothing. Our chairman doesn't welcome you. You can leave now. The lobby manager was a little amused. This person didn't even know what was going on here and still wanted to treat them? Han Xiaopa was taken aback. Only then did he realize that the person in front of him was not wearing a waiter's uniform, but a lobby manager's uniform. Moreover, the next moment he also noticed that the atmosphere in the private room was not quite right. Meanwhile, Lin Yi was frowning. *CKME. Who is the chairman of this restaurant? Han Xiaopa was really shocked. Was there something wrong with this person's head? He even dared to chase away Lin Yi? What did he mean by he wasn't welcome? Of course, the boss didn't need to do anything. As a follower, Han Xiaopa could take care of this. The Hidden House Hans had always kept a low profile, but that didn't mean that Han Xiaopa would do the same because of Lin Yi. How dare this person tell him that they were all unwelcome guests? Who do you think you are? Han Xiaopa said angrily. Huh. The lobby manager's eyes widened. He didn't expect this person to be even more arrogant than he was. Tell your chairman that I'm Han Xiaopa from the Hidden House Hans of Donghai. If he doesn't welcome me, I don't welcome him either. He can get the hell out of Donghai tomorrow. My family will take over his hotel and properties. Han Xiaopa's voice wasn't loud, but it was intimidating. Donghai's Hidden House Hans had this confidence. Although they had been keeping a low profile all these years, they weren't afraid of trouble. They could tolerate other things, but insulting their boss was definitely not. Hidden House Hans? The lobby manager was stunned. Although he didn't have the ability to reach that level as the lobby manager of the most luxurious restaurant in Donghai City, he had heard of the two big families in Donghai City, the Hidden House Zhao and the Hidden House Hans. These two giants were not to be messed with. Therefore, the lobby manager's face changed. The Hidden House Hans. He couldn't stay calm when he heard this. He didn't have the arrogant attitude he had when he entered the private room. Instead, he said directly, Sorry, I went to the wrong room. Then, he ran away with his tail between his legs and went to call the chairman with a long face. Although the lobby manager vaguely knew that the chairman had some power and background, it seemed that he didn't have much power and background. Therefore he wisely chose to swallow his anger. President Zhao. The lobby manager called Zhao Guangxi the chairman of the Guangxi Group, which was behind the Arctic Ocean seafood restaurant. Well, how is it? Did you finish the things I asked you to do? Zhao Guangxi asked. President Zhao, it's bad. People from the hidden house Hans are here. They say their name is Han Xiaopa. He's with the person in the private room that you wanted to kick out. The lobby manager said with a bitter face. As soon as he came, he shouted that you should get out of Donghai City. He said that his family will take over your business. What? People from the hidden house Hans? Why are they here? Zhao Guangxi was shocked when he heard the lobby manager's words. He didn't expect people from the hidden house Hans to interfere. Didn't the hidden house Hans not do business? How did he get involved in this matter this time? Zhao Guangxi suddenly had a headache. If it was before, he naturally wouldn't be afraid of this hidden house Hans. On one hand, he and the young master of the hidden house Zhao Guangyin were relatives. He was considered a peripheral business member of the Zhao family. He gave a lot of money to the hidden house Zhao every year, so the hidden house Zhao would naturally support him. On the other hand, before the hidden house summit, the hidden house Han was still a small and weak family. They were the target that all the big hidden houses wanted to divide. However, after the hidden house summit, the situation suddenly changed. The hidden house Han miraculously gained a stable foothold, and the hidden house Zhao seemed to be afraid of them and didn't suppress them as much as before. Although Zhao Guangxi, as a peripheral member, didn't know the inside story, he knew that the hidden house Hans were not to be messed with. Besides, he was completely marginalized by the hidden house Zhao now. Because of his son Zhao Fafa's matter, he was dragged into it. Chapter 2346. Elder Bai comes out because of Zhao Qibing's words. Zhao Guangxi was kicked out of Songshan and came to Donghai City to do business. Of course, since he continued to give Zhao Guangyin a large sum of money every month to the hidden Zhao family, he quickly gained a foothold in East Ocean City. However, he was no longer able to go to a higher level. The hidden house Zhao chose a new business representative. This person was the chairman of Donghai Commerce, Lei Daming. Just now, it was Lei Daming's order to chase them away. Naturally, he couldn't go against Lei Daming's request. After all, he and Lei Daming were on the same side. It seemed like he had kicked an iron board. He had to make it clear to Lei Daming that the hidden house Hans had to be suppressed by the hidden house Zhao. However, Zhao Guangxi didn't have the ability to ask the hidden house Zhao to come out, but Lei Daming could. I understand. Don't do anything rashly. Just serve them the food step by step. Don't show yourself. I'll arrange for someone else to go. Zhao Guangxi said. Yes, Mr. Zhao. The manager quickly replied. After putting down the phone, Zhao Guangxi couldn't wait to call Lei Daming. Mr. Zhao, is it done? Lei Daming was eating at the Northern Ice Sea seafood restaurant. Naturally, he thought that it was done after receiving Zhao Guangxi's call. As far as he was concerned, this wasn't a big deal at all. Zhao Guangxi was the owner of this place. If he didn't serve a table of customers, then so be it. What could Chu Pingzhan do? Done what, Mr. Lei? You screwed me over. They have a backer too. Zhao Guangxi was related to Zhao Guangyin, so he wouldn't be too humble in front of Lei Daming. He cried, they invited a hidden house Han Xiaopa. I couldn't handle it anymore. Han Xiaopa not only threatened me to get out of Donghai City, but he also wanted me to take away my business. Mr. Lei, you can't just ignore this. Hidden house Hans? How are they related to Chu Pengzhan? Lei Daming frowned, confused. All right, don't worry about it. I'll report it to the boss right now. The boss Lei Daming was talking about was naturally Zhao Guangyin of the hidden house Zhao. Lei Daming was his spokesperson at the moment, and the reason why Lei Daming didn't want Pengzhan to enter the Eastern Sea market was mainly because Pengzhan's business overlapped too much with Lei Daming's. Hotels, shopping malls, real estate, all of them were profitable projects. Pengzhan wasn't weak, and his capital flow wasn't small either. It was very possible that it would affect Lei Daming's business, and if Guangyin were to blame him, he'd have to take responsibility. So, Lei Daming didn't feel like he was in the wrong. He called Guangyin directly. Boss, there's trouble. What trouble? Guangyin's attitude towards Lei Daming wasn't bad. Ever since Lei Daming was supported, he'd been doing very well in Donghai, bringing House Zhao a lot of profits every month. There was also a lot of sustainable profits, so Guangyin had high hopes for him. I told you before, I'm working with the local merchants in Donghai, trying to force an outsider out of the market, not letting him do business in Donghai. After all, his business overlaps with ours. Lei Daming explained the situation clearly, proving that he wasn't trying to make a personal grudge with the hidden house Hans. Yes, I know. Does this outsider have a background? Guangyin quickly connected the dots. That's right, someone from the hidden house Hans is here to support them. Lei Daming nodded. The person is called Hans Xiaopa. What? The hidden house Hans Xiaopa is the outsider's backer? Guanyin paused. Didn't the hidden house Hans not do business? Could it be that after the hidden house summit ended, the hidden house Hans also bared their fangs and prepared to do business to make money? That's right. This is what happened today. Lei Daming didn't hide anything. He directly told Zhao Guangxi about how he met the outsider at the Arctic Ocean seafood restaurant and how he made Zhao Guangxi embarrass him. Well, you did the right thing. Guangyin nodded after listening. This Lei Daming was arrogant and despotic, but at the end of the day he was thinking about the hidden house Zhao's business, so Guangyin had to stand up for him. Moreover, even if this didn't happen, the hidden house Zhao still couldn't take it lying down. After the hidden house summit, the hidden house Hans were no longer as cautious and low-key as before. Instead, they started to be active in Donghai City and made their voices heard. It seemed like they wanted to compete with the hidden house Zhao. At the hidden house summit, the hidden house Hans used their relationship with Lin Yi to make the hidden house Zhao suffer enough. After Lin Yi left, the hidden house Hans were still jumping up and down, even supporting an outsider. Guangyin couldn't let this continue. If he gave in this time, he believed that the hidden house Hans would take advantage of him and get more serious every time. He had to kill their ambitions the moment they bared their fangs. Boss, what should we do now? Lei Daming asked carefully. Isn't it just Hans Xiaopa? Guangyin smiled coldly. He really thinks he's someone important. Don't worry, I'll let Qibing and Elder Bai come out and teach this arrogant bastard a lesson. Does he really think that the hidden house Hans can compete with the hidden house Zhao? He's overestimating his own strength. That's great. Lei Daming was overjoyed. He didn't think that Guangyin would send Zhao Qibing, the heir of the hidden house Zhao, and Elder Bai, the core of the hidden house Zhao. Just you wait, they'll be here soon. Guangyin couldn't order Elder Bai around, but he could order Qibing. If Qibing went, Elder Bai as his master had to go as well. After all, Hans Xiaopa was an Earth-class early phase. If Hans Xiaopa made a move, then Qibing would be at a disadvantage. But if Elder Bai went, then the situation would be different. Elder Bai wouldn't just sit and watch, and Hans Xiaopa wouldn't dare make a move. Yes, thank you, boss. Lei Daming said quickly. In Lin Yi's room, Hans Xiaopa closed the door unhappily and walked to Lin Yi with a smile. Boss, what's going on? Chapter 5966. That's right. Third brother, has my seclusion gone smoothly? Patriarch Xianzhen asked. All these years he had focused his energy on cultivation and alchemy. He had basically stopped managing the sex affairs. He only knew about Patriarch Xianzhen's plan but did not participate in it. Second brother? Patriarch Xianzhen paused and said sadly, it's not going well. Second brother, something big happened a while ago. What? Something big happened? What happened? Patriarch Xianzhen's expression froze. He stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Patriarch Xianzhen. What happened? Second brother, Taganlong has been crippled. Patriarch Xianzhen sighed and said bitterly. What? Taganlong has been crippled? Patriarch Xianzhen was shocked when he heard that. What's going on? How did he get crippled? Second brother, it's like this? Patriarch Xianzhen explained Taganlong's situation to Patriarch Xianzhen. When he was done, he said, originally, I placed my hopes on second brother. I thought that after second brother came out of seclusion, he would be able to refine grade 4 elixirs. Then he would be able to refine the Great Return Pill and the Great Meridian Channel Conduit Pill, but if he could refine a grade 4 elixir, boss would also. Patriarch Xianzhen smiled helplessly. I haven't been able to make any breakthroughs in the past 3 years. I reckon that in the next few years, I won't be able to make any progress. There's no hope for a grade 4 elixir. So, I acted on my own and activated the backup plan. After all, a person with a 5 elemental constitution is quite difficult to find. After searching for so many years, we finally found Taganlong, a 1 in a billion person with a compound constitution. Patriarch Xianzhen said. The backup plan. Patriarch Xianzhen nodded. He knew a thing or two about the backup plan, but it wasn't too detailed. Are you confident about the backup plan? The chances are 50-50. Whether or not the spy succeeds will depend on what happens next, Patriarch Xianzhen said. He lowered his voice and whispered in Patriarch Xuanzhen's ear. Patriarch Xianzhen invited them to eat. Patriarch Black Earth was actually afraid that Little Fool and Little Three would hear it. After all, only he and Little One knew about this matter. Xianzhen Ancestor nodded and said, I hope it will succeed. I didn't think that such a big thing would happen during this closed-door training. There's nothing I can do. If I don't succeed this time, I can only slowly search for someone with a suitable physique. Patriarch Xianxin sighed helplessly. Taganlong, other than using grade 4 pills, is there no other way to recover? Patriarch Xianxin asked. Second brother, you can go and take a look. Other than that, I really can't think of any other fortuitous encounters. Patriarch Black Earth said. Let's go take a look then. At this point, Patriarch Xianxin could only try his best. The two of them quickly came to the room where Taganlong was recuperating. Although Taganlong's injuries were under control, he had not woken up yet. His pulse was very messy, and Patriarch Xianxin was only temporarily holding on to his life. It was impossible for him to recover. Patriarch Xianxin carefully felt Taganlong's pulse. His brows furrowed deeply and he remained silent for a long time. In the blink of an eye, it was time for school to end at noon. There was no class in the afternoon, so Linny said goodbye to Wang Xinyan and walked out of the classroom with Han Jingjing. Xiaolong wanted to go over and talk to Wang Xinyan, but thinking of the embarrassing incident today, he gave up in the end. He guessed that if he talked to Wang Xinyan now, she wouldn't give him a good attitude, so he could only give up. Moreover, he had an appointment with Right Coiling Tiger to go to the natural ski resort in Jiduan City to investigate first, so he left the classroom with Right Coiling Tiger. Big bro Lin Yi, are you trying to scam Right Coiling Tiger's herbs again? Han Jingjing asked Lin Yi after leaving the classroom. Yes, we don't have any herbs on hand, so we can only get them from Right Coiling Tiger again, Lin Yi said. Since this kid came to us voluntarily, there's no need for us to let him go. Oh, then how do you need Jingjing to cooperate? Han Jingjing nodded. She didn't refute Lin Yi's suggestion at all. Next time he comes to talk to you and asks you something, just say that you lack herbs. Every time he comes, you ask him for herbs until he realizes that he's been tricked and stops falling for it, Lin Yi said. Yes, Han Jingjing nodded. After Right Coiling Tiger realizes that he's been tricked, he won't look for trouble with me, right? If he does, just tell him that I'm the one who told you to do this. Tell him to come to me. Lin Yi took the trouble directly. He wasn't afraid of Right Coiling Tiger. Jing understands, Han Jingjing nodded. There were no classes in the afternoon for medicine, but Meng Yao and Yushu had classes in the afternoon. Lin Yi called Meng Yao and asked her to have lunch together. Lin Yi and Han Jingjing arrived at the Economics Faculty's building, and saw Meng Yao and Yushu not long after. Seeing the smile on Yushu's face, Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Shu's problem was solved, but Lin Yi couldn't figure it out. Who was the one who told Shu to assassinate him? Who could order Shu around? Or, in other words, what reason did they have to make Shu do this? It was just that Shu didn't want to talk about it and Lin Yi couldn't force her. As long as she looked fine, Lin Yi was relieved. Lin Yi looked at Meng Yao and Meng Yao nodded at him, indicating that Shu was fine. What do you want to eat for lunch? Lin Yi asked. Do you want to eat in the cafeteria or outside? Let's eat outside. Shu wants to have a big meal, Yushu said after some thought. Today's incident allowed her to get away with it, and it made Shu feel like she survived a disaster. Especially since she didn't have to target Lin Yi anymore, she was very happy. She wanted to have a big meal to celebrate. Okay, let's go out for a big meal, Lin Yi nodded. Should we call Xinyan sis? Yushu suggested. I'll ask. If Lin Yi was eating in the cafeteria, he wouldn't call Xinyan, but it was better to ask if he wanted to eat outside. He dialed Wang Xinyan's number and asked, Xinyan, where are you? Jing, Yao Yao and Shu are going out to eat, do you want to come? Chapter 5967. But the situation was different now. She didn't want the Sky Elixir sect to be angry at Lin Yi, so she purposely kept her distance from Lin Yi. I'm not going, I'll go to the cafeteria with Mei Wei and Ling. Xinyan, who's treating you to dinner? Mei Wei's voice came from the other side. It's Lin Yi, you guys still have classes in the afternoon, let's go to the cafeteria, Xinyan said. Afternoon classes start at 2:02, it's still early. Mei Wei snatched the phone from Xinyan. Lin Yi, you don't mind if Ling and I go with you, right? Naturally, I don't mind. Lin Yi smiled, then called by Wei Tuo and Zhao Xingji over as well. Sure, Mei Wei agreed right away. Xinyan was really pissed off. Chapter 24 was funny, but she couldn't explain it. What should she say? Was she afraid that her fiancé would do something to Lin Yi? If she told the truth and Xiaolong heard about it, how would she explain it? She hoped that Xiaolong wouldn't see it and agitate him. Xinyan comforted herself in her heart. Let's go then. Xinyan helplessly took out her car keys and prepared to go to the parking lot. Mei Wei, on the other hand, called by Wei Tuo. Xinyan saw Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Meng Yao, and Yushu from afar when she got to the parking lot. She was familiar with all of them, but it was awkward to see them again. She'd just rejected Lin Yi's confession yesterday, and now she was eating with Lin Yi. It was weird. Meiwei and Xiaoling were used to Lin Yi being surrounded by beauties. It was something between Xinyan and Lin Yi after all. Xinyan says she'll bro missed you so much. He kept looking left and right. Yushu called out to Xinyan. Xinyan blushed a little, but Lin Yi, on the other hand, was happy. He wasn't happy that Yushu had spoken up for him, but that Yushu was back to her usual playful self. It seemed that her problem had been solved. Yeah, Lin Yi's been nagging you the whole time. Chapter 24-24. Death unexpectedly. Mingyao put in a good word for Lin Yi when they bumped into each other. Ah, really? Xinyan's heart skipped a beat. This feeling made her heart beat faster. Had she really fallen for Lin Yi? But what could he do? Wang Xinyan realized that ever since Lin Yi confessed to her, her heart had been a little unsettled. Originally, Xinyan thought that she could pretend to be a normal friend in front of Lin Yi, but some feelings couldn't be faked. Her heart raced when she saw Lin Yi. It was a feeling that scared her, but it made her yearn for it. Meiwei and Xiaoling looked at Mengyao and Yushu, a little surprised. Lin Yi had said that he was asked by a relative to take care of Mengyao and Yushu, and lived with them. But Mengyao and Yushu were so pretty, and Lin Yi was living under the same roof as them. Meiwei and Xiaoling wouldn't believe it if they said that there wasn't anything going on between them. After all, who wouldn't be moved by two pretty girls in front of them? So naturally they thought that Mengyao and Yushu were Wang Xinyan's enemies. But now, hearing that both Mengyao and Yushu were helping Lin Yi chase after Wang Xinyan, they were a little surprised. Xinyan, it seems like you and Lin Yi are quite close. You're already thinking about him after class. Meiwei teased with a smile. Yao Yao and Shu are joking, right? Xinyan said nervously. Haha, joking or not, we all know about your relationship with Lin Yi. Xiaoling said with a smile. Sigh. Xinyan was really helpless. It seemed like her relationship with Lin Yi couldn't be explained no matter what. She just hoped that Xiaolong wouldn't hear about it. Otherwise he'd ask Kang Mingming for help in a fit of anger. After a while, Bai Weitua and Zhao Xingji ran over in a hurry. Bai Weitua said breathlessly, I say Lin bro, why didn't you say earlier that you were going to treat us? Zhao Xingji and I were waiting in line to sell our food, and it was almost our turn. We wasted 20 minutes just like that. We should have gone back to the dorms and rested. It was an impromptu decision, Lin Yi said with a smile. Why do you have to talk so much when you're here to freeload? 2 cars, a Grand Cherokee and a Porsche Cayenne, left the school one after another. They arrived at a rather luxurious restaurant near the school. The restaurant looked nice, but it didn't have a private room. It was probably because it was close to the school and the cost of living here was lower. It wasn't worth it to get a private room. There were booths in the hall, and Lin Yi and the others chose a bigger booth and walked over. Halfway there, Lin Yi felt a gloomy and resentful gaze directed at him. Lin Yi turned around and saw Xiaolong and Tiger Right, as well as Tiger Right's 2 colorful followers. They were sitting in a booth not far away eating. Xiaolong was naturally furious when he saw Lin Yi and Xinyan walk into the restaurant side by side. If it was before, Xiaolong wouldn't be this angry. After all, he didn't have the right to be angry. House Kong had always been a weak existence in front of Lin Yi, but it was different now. He was the brother of the last disciple of the Sky Elixir sect's 5th elder. His confidence was inflated, and Xiaolong didn't know his place anymore. But Lin Yi only glanced at Xiaolong faintly. He didn't have the slightest intention of greeting him. He turned around and continued sitting in the booth with Xinyan and the others. Fuck. Xiaolong cursed, but he was afraid that Lin Yi would beat him up if he heard it, so he lowered his voice. His confidence was inflated, and he thought that he had the background to compete with Lin Yi. But he wasn't an idiot. He didn't think that Lin Yi wouldn't dare beat him up if he cursed at Lin Yi. Although there were a lot of rules in Boss Bai's class, if you scolded and provoked others first and got beaten up, Boss Bai probably wouldn't stand up for you as long as you weren't beaten to death. It looks like Xinyan is interested in Lin Yi. Tiger Right clicked his tongue when he heard Xiaolong's cursing. That should be the case. Do you have any good ideas, brother you? Xiaolong was a PhD, but he knew nothing about picking up girls. He could only ask Tiger Right for advice. Chapter 59-68. After all, love was free now, and whether Lin Yi liked his disciple or not was another matter. Boss Bai couldn't care so much. He actually really wanted Lin Yi and Xinxin to communicate more. Although Lin Yi didn't know alchemy, his medical skills and theoretical knowledge were quite powerful. Especially today, the speed and effect of Lin Yi's healing for Han Jingjing made Boss Bai gasp in amazement. And it was naturally his wish to have Lin Yi visit his home often. That was why he said that. He didn't expect Xin to misunderstand. Okay, let's talk later. See you later. Boss Bai didn't hear the negative emotions in Xin's tone. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Xin hung up the phone and couldn't help but pout. She thought to herself, I don't care what kind of young talent you are. I guarantee that you won't want to eat again after eating, and won't dare to come again. After the call, Linny returned to Boss Bai's office, and Boss Bai had just finished the call. Mr. Bai, have you made the arrangements? Linny asked. Yes, everything is arranged. Let's go together. Boss Bai said, stood up and walked out of the office with Linny, walking to the family area of the school. Boss Bai lived in a separate professor's villa in the university. His status was superior, so he was naturally qualified to enjoy the villa. As they walked, Boss Bai introduced, this disciple of mine not only makes rapid progress in alchemy, she also has a very outstanding ability in identifying medicinal herbs. You can often discuss and compare notes. Especially her ability to identify medicinal herbs, she is not worse than you. Boss Bai said, currently she is already a first-grade alchemist, and she is trying to break through to the second grade. So good? Linny couldn't help but be a little surprised. Boss Bai used to be a genius alchemist. As long as his disciples' aptitude met the requirements, and some were not so stupid, it was not surprising that she became a first-grade alchemist. But in identifying medicinal herbs, this was talent. Lin Yi had this kind of talent, and even Old Man Lin was slightly inferior to him. So when Lin Yi heard that there was someone who was similar to him, he was naturally interested. Of course, if it weren't for your good relationship with Han Jingjing, I would have introduced her to be your girlfriend, Boss Bai said. Oh, I'll pass. You can introduce me to Bai Weitua or Bai Weikai. Lin Yi said. Do you think I don't know that Bai Weitua has a girlfriend? Isn't she called Himeiwa? Boss Bai said, and even if he doesn't, I won't introduce him. They are not the same kind of people and they won't be happy in the future. But you are different. You are both cultivators and you both have talents in this aspect, so Bai Weikai can't. Hee. Lin Yi smiled and didn't continue. His current love life was already very complicated. Naturally, he would not accept Boss Bai's kindness. As the two talked, they came to the school's family area. In front of Boss Bai's villa, Lin Yi looked at the medicinal herbs planted in Boss Bai's yard and couldn't help but be a little surprised. It was already winter. Although these medicinal herbs were in the self-made greenhouse, it was quite difficult to cultivate them. It seemed that Boss Bai still had some ability in cultivating medicinal herbs. He should even be a little better than Old Man Lin. After all, the geographical location of West Star Mountain Village was like spring all year round, which was more suitable for the growth of medicinal herbs. But here it was different. Without some special methods, it was difficult to let the medicinal herbs grow. Are you interested in my medicinal herbs? Boss Bai saw that Lin Yi was looking at the medicinal herbs in the yard, so he asked with a smile. Yes, but they are all medicinal herbs used to make first-grade pills. The second-grade pill only has one kind of medicinal herb, which is laxative pill. Lin Yi said. My disciple is currently a first-grade alchemist, so I planted some medicinal herbs needed for first-grade pills. As for second-grade pills, she is currently only a trial, so she can't form pills yet. So any pill is the same. The medicinal herbs used for laxative pill are easier to grow, have a higher yield, and are easier to cultivate, so I planted this one. Boss Bai explained, when she truly becomes a second-grade alchemist, I will cultivate it again. Lin Yi nodded and didn't say anything else. In the kitchen of Boss Bai's house, a beautiful figure was busy. If Lin Yi was here, he would definitely be surprised because this person was actually Xiao Shi Guan Xian. According to Boss Bai's instructions, Guan Xian made 8 dishes and 1 soup, all of which were meticulously made by her. Although she didn't really want to get to know some young talent, he was after all someone her master admired. Since Boss Bai had already asked, Guan Xian couldn't refuse, but it was impossible for her to use her best cooking skills to entertain the guests. This was also because Boss Bai was usually too kind to her. If it was a master and disciple in a normal sect, then how could the disciple dare to disregard the master's words and execute them? However, Guan Xian was Boss Bai's last disciple, and because of her rapid progress in alchemy, Boss Bai doted on her a lot. This was also the reason why Guan Xian dared to cook terrible food. In her eyes, the dishes she cooked only needed to look good, and if the taste was bad, even if the guests were unhappy after eating, they wouldn't be able to say anything, and at most they wouldn't come to eat again. In the end, she made a big mistake. It turned out that the young talent her grandpa had been talking about was her sweetheart, Lin Yi. At that time, Guan Xian regretted it so much that she wanted to die. She finally got to show off her cooking skills in front of her sweetheart, but she didn't think that it would be ruined by her own hands. Fortunately, Linny didn't mind, or Guan Xian would be really embarrassed. Sigh, it's been a few months since I've been Boss Bai's disciple. I wonder how Lin Yi is doing? She hadn't heard from him for a long time, and she couldn't help but think of Lin Yi's tall and straight figure. Thinking of Lin Yi, Guan Xing couldn't let the young talent who came today have any feelings for her. What if he really took a liking to her and came to visit often? At that time she wouldn't be able to kick this senior or junior brother out because of her master's face, and that would be troublesome. Therefore Guan Xing gave it her all, displaying her cooking skills to the fullest. The dishes she made were as beautiful as they could be, but the taste was as bad as it could be. It was guaranteed that people who ate it once wouldn't want to eat it a second time in 100 years. The doorbell of Master Bai's villa rang as the delicately made, fragrant and tasty dishes were served on the table. Chapter 59-69. Guan Xing was embarrassed, but she couldn't say it out loud. She didn't know how to explain. At that moment, Lin Yi had just finished making the last steamed pork with preserved vegetables, and had just come back. Hearing Boss Bai's question, Lin Yi explained with a smile, "Well, this is actually what happened." Lin Yi then told Boss Bai and Madame Bai about his visit to Guan Xuemin's house. Coming from Lin Yi's mouth, it was naturally interesting. Boss Bai and Madame Bai were amused and didn't blame Guan Xing anymore. "Ah, so that's how it is. Alright, then let's have a taste of Lin Yi's cooking." Boss Bai picked up another piece of meat and carefully put it in his mouth. But this time he wasn't confident enough to swallow it all at once. Instead he savored it slowly. But this time, as soon as it entered his mouth, the rich aroma made him swallow the rest of the meat as well. Delicious. Even better than Xian's cooking? Mistress Bai took a bite of the cold dish, nodding to herself. Changing a dish was much harder than cooking, and Guan Xian's dish was already disgusting, but Lin Yi was able to turn it back into a delicacy after putting it back into the wok. Just how skilled did he have to be to do that? This is not something that can be done by just anyone with good cooking skills. Guan Xian's face was also full of admiration. Lin Yi didn't do anything last time, so she didn't know that Lin Yi had this kind of ability. Now that she saw Lin Yi, she was even more moved. No wonder her grandpa and master admired him so much. So when Boss Bai said that Lin Yi was better than her, she wasn't angry. Instead she felt proud. Yes, Lin Yi is actually very good. Haha, I thought that XN wouldn't be happy if Lin Yi was the senior brother, but it seems like that won't be the case, right? Boss Bai asked with a smile. Yes, of course not. Guan Xing nodded matter-of-factly, but she was curious. Lin Yi, you know alchemy too? I won't. Lin Yi simply shook his head and said, my constitution is very strange. I can condense a pill fire, but I can't control the intensity and temperature of the fire. Is it because your body lacks the wood attribute? Guan Xing paused. That's not it. Maybe there are too many attributes, so it's a mess, Lin Yi said. That's right. Lin Yi's body has too many attributes, and they aren't fusing well with each other, causing them to restrain and restrict each other. That's why he's in such a situation. These days I've been looking through some ancient books left behind by my sect, hoping to find a reliable solution. Boss Bai nodded and said, but we haven't found anything yet, but we have found some clues. In Lin Yi's case, he lacks an opportunity. If we can combine the several mutually restraining attributes in his body and form a small cycle in his body, the problem will be solved. Minor circulation? Lin Yi didn't expect Boss Bai to find a solution. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. In other words, it's still possible for me to make alchemy, right? That's right. Boss Bai nodded and said, you can indeed make alchemy, and similar situations have happened in the past generations of my sect. It's just that when I left, I took too little information with me. Most of the information I took was related to alchemy, not the records of those strange things. It's impossible to go back and ask about it now. Lin Yi nodded. He wasn't too disappointed. After all, what Boss Bai said was already a pleasant surprise for Lin Yi. Before, Lin Yi thought that he couldn't make alchemy at all, but now it seemed that he could. It was just that the attributes in his body hadn't fused and formed a small cycle, so there was a situation where they mutually restrained each other. It's okay as long as there's hope, Lin Yi said. As for the specific method, we can slowly study and explore it. Well, come to my study after dinner. I'll show you that book, Boss Bai said. Okay. Lin Yi nodded readily. Guan Xing was confused. These attributes mutually restrained each other, a small cycle. She hadn't come into contact with it before, so she didn't really understand it. However, she only understood one thing, and that was that Lin Yi couldn't make alchemy, but there was hope for him to make alchemy. Senior brother Lin Yi, then you have to work hard. Xin is already a first-grade alchemist, and I'm trying to break through to second grade, Guan Xian said with some pride. She finally had something better than Lin Yi, and could finally become his right-hand man. Guan Xian was very happy today. Originally, she didn't have much interest in learning alchemy. She only wanted to learn medical knowledge so that she could go back and help Lin Yi's company. Boss Bai's ardent hope made Guan Xian have no choice but to learn alchemy. Now, it seemed that Lin Yi had also come into contact with alchemy, so Guan Xian felt that learning alchemy was a wise choice. She finally had something to surpass Lin Yi. Hee okay. Lin Yi said with a smile. Right, Xin, you're already trying to break through to second-grade alchemist? Is there any difficulty? Difficulty? Not for now. This thing is practice makes perfect. Guan Xian shook her head. I haven't made a second-grade pill yet. Actually, that's not the case. Boss Bai suddenly opened his mouth. The reason why Xin's success rate is so low is because the second-grade medicine cauldron I have here is a bit too broken. There's a crack on it, and during the alchemy process the pill's aura will leak out, so the success rate is naturally much lower than normal. Under these circumstances, Xin's low success rate is understandable. Crack. Lin Yi paused. Teacher Bai, wouldn't you use a medicine cauldron without a crack? This medicine cauldron is what I used when I was learning alchemy. I brought it with me back then as a souvenir. I can't even make pills myself, so what's the point of carrying a good medicine cauldron around? Boss Bai smiled bitterly. Who would have thought that after a few decades, I would be able to take in a disciple and teach her alchemy? The reason why Boss Bai was teaching outside was to stay away from the disputes of that place, and to find a wood-type inheritor according to the ancestors' teachings. A girl who was born with an extremely keen intuition for herbs. But when Boss Bai saw Guan Xian, he found that she not only had the talent of an inheritor, but also an alchemist, so he taught her alchemy. Regarding that, Boss Bai really couldn't ask Xianqin for a second-grade medicine tripod. After all, Xianqin was only inclined to Boss Bai to find a pure successor, not to raise an alchemist. To be continued. Chapter 5970. Morning Jing. How did you sleep last night? Did you have any nightmares? Lin Yi asked. No, I dreamt that I went to fight monsters with Lin Yi Gich. I slept very well. Han Jingjing didn't seem to be affected by yesterday's events at all. Jing sent all the information to the cloud disk and set a password. Even if the tablet was stolen, it wouldn't be a problem. I don't have to worry about them cracking the password. I can delete it from other apps at any time. Oh. Lin Yi didn't really understand. He only nodded and let out a sigh of relief. He was worried about Han Jingjing's emotions, but it seemed like she wasn't affected at all. Breakfast is ready. Let's go eat together. Okay. Han Jingjing nodded and went to wake up her brother Han Xiaoqiao, and went to eat with Lin Yi. On this day 3 things happened in the school. The first was that the school was going to host a charity gala. This was an event that was held every year. The school consciously cultivated the students' love. During the gala, some items would be auctioned. Some of these items were donated by students and some were donated by celebrities. However, the money from the auction would be donated according to the situation. For example, in remote mountainous areas, welfare homes, orphanages, and so on. The donation targets were randomly decided by the school. However, when Lin Yi heard the news, the first thing he thought of was Yu Xiaoka's orphanage. Although the students were the main group in the school's auction, there were many successful graduates and celebrities participating. There weren't many of them, but the amount of money they donated was much more than the students. Especially in a provincial city like Donghai, these celebrities would donate at least 1 million, so the total amount of money raised in every charity gala was quite sizable. So Lin Yi had an idea. For this kind of thing Lin Yi could only ask Boss Bai. Given his special position in the school, Lin Yi thought that he could help, right? As expected, after Boss Bai received Lin Yi's call, he agreed without hesitation. Okay, I understand. I will suggest it to the school. It's not a big problem. If you want me to give this money to you personally, I definitely can't do it. But donating it to the orphanage is naturally doable. After all, this money was originally going to be donated to people who needed it. Thank you, Teacher Bai. After what happened yesterday, the relationship between Lin Yi and Boss Bai was much closer. Now that Boss Bai agreed to help, there shouldn't be much of a problem. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. Boss Bai smiled and said indifferently. The second thing was that Zhao Qibing's floating cloud bar had opened near the school. Su Jiaonong found some students and started distributing flyers in the school. Lin Yi received one as well. Qibing's action surprised Lin Yi. This guy was actually trying to get close to him? Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up? The third thing was that Pinliang had returned to school, but this time he kept a low profile. He didn't challenge anyone, nor did he challenge Lin Yi directly. Instead, he went to school with Xiaofu as usual and went to class as usual. Although Lin Yi got the news, the two didn't do anything special. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't cause trouble for them. He was happy with the peace and quiet. After the first class, Lin Yi called Yu Xiaoka, planning to ask her about the orphanage's situation. Yu Xiaoka had quite a headache recently. There was a saying that people were afraid of being famous just as pigs were afraid of being fat. The orphanage was famous now, and the new building was beautiful and practical. As a result, the number of orphans had increased a lot. Especially the sick orphans. They were all sent to Yu Xiaoka's orphanage from hospitals all over the country. In fact, this couldn't be helped. Some poor people had children and the children were sick. They didn't have money to treat them, so they could only leave them in the hospital. It wasn't the parents' fault. They had no other choice. As far as they were concerned, if there was a kind-hearted person or an orphanage that took them in, the child might be able to live. But if they couldn't treat them, they would die. However, this kind of sick orphan was rarely adopted. Even if those infertile couples adopted children, they would adopt healthy ones. Who would adopt a sick baby? And so, the monthly medical expenses had become the second biggest expense after the orphanage's construction and food, and it was increasing every day. Yu Xiaoka couldn't just ignore these sick abandoned babies, could she? She wouldn't be Yu Xiaoka if she were that heartless. And so, Yu Xiaoka was willing to lower the standard of the orphanage's food in order to save the money for these filial children. At this moment, Yu Xiaoka was thinking about accepting a mission from the thief's door. She couldn't find a suitable one. The ones with too much money were too dangerous or they were unrealistic. The simple ones were too little money and they wasted a lot of time. Yu Xiaoka really didn't know what to choose. Lin Yi's call came in. Yu Xiaoka was a kind-hearted person, and she didn't want to answer the call from her admirer. But Lin Yi was her savior, and it wouldn't be good if she didn't answer. She had no choice. Hello? Lin Yi, you're looking for me? Oh, I'm just asking. How's the orphanage? Do you have enough money? Lin Yi frowned when he heard the bad tone in Yu Xiaoka's voice. What was wrong with Yu Xiaoka? Did she eat gunpowder? Did she have this attitude every time he saw her? It's all right. You don't have to worry about the money, I'll take care of it myself. Yu Xiaoka said coldly. I'm ready to accept a mission from the thief's door. It's a bit hard, but if I do it well, I'll get 10 million, right? You're going to accept a mission from the thief's door again? Lin Yi paused. He was about to say that he hadn't learned his lesson from the grave robbery. But then he realized that his identity was Lin Yi, not the male thief. How would he know about the grave robbery? Yu Xiaoka only mentioned the mission to him, but she didn't tell him the details. Lin Yi quickly changed his words. The missions there are very hard, right? It'll be hard even for me. If you go, you'll be at a disadvantage. Do I need your concern? Yu Xiaoka didn't know why, but she was unhappy whenever Lin Yi cared about her. Chapter 5971. She felt that Lin Yi had an ulterior motive towards her, and so she tried her best to distance herself from Lin Yi. What if I don't accept the mission? You really don't know how expensive it is if you don't take care of the household. The orphanage receives many sick and abandoned babies from all over the country, and it's a huge expense just to treat them. What should I do if I don't accept the mission? I see. Lin Yi didn't expect the orphanage to have such a huge amount of problems, but he didn't want Xiaoka to be too tired. Don't make it hard for yourself, I'll help you think of a way. Other than the necessary investment from Fatty Lai, I'll help you think of other ways. In a few days, our school will have a charity banquet, and there will be an auction to raise money. I've already told my teacher that all the money raised will be donated to your orphanage. Donated to me? Xiaoka froze for a moment and then became happy, but after the happiness, deep worry flashed in her eyes. Lin Yi was really too eager to help her. Xiaoka didn't believe that Lin Yi was just helping the orphanage. Even if he was a great philanthropist, there was no need for him to do this, right? Unless Xiaoka was a staff member of the orphanage, wouldn't that happen? In fact, Lin Yi wasn't so simple. Lin Yi was doing this because of the other male thief's identity, but Xiaoka didn't know about these things. And the money raised this time should be quite a lot. According to my teacher, the charity banquet every year can raise at least 10 million, up to 100 million, so forget about that thief's door mission. Lin Yi said. How old are you? You should enjoy life at this age and do things that are appropriate for a girl your age. What should a girl my age do? Xiaoka was confused. She really didn't know what she should be doing at her age. Ever since she grew up, she had been running around for the orphanage. She didn't know what she should be doing. For example, going shopping, going to a beauty salon, buying some pretty clothes. Linny thought about it and told Xiaoko what the Miss and Shu often did. Xiaoko was speechless. Do you think I'm a Miss Perfect? Where would I get the money? I'll give it to you, Linny said. Bye. Xiaoko was so angry that she almost threw the phone on the ground. If it weren't for the fact that she had to buy a new phone, she would have thrown it out a long time ago. However, she still hung up on Linny angrily. Humph, you finally revealed your fox's tail, haven't you? You're giving me money? You want me to go shopping for clothes? Isn't this the same as providing for me? I finally figured out what you were thinking. You really are interested in me? But what to do? If Linny is really interested in me, can I reject him? If I reject him, what if he stops collecting money for the orphanage? But she couldn't let the male thief down. If she hadn't met him before, she wouldn't have rejected him like this. It wasn't easy to find someone who could support the orphanage's expenses, and it wasn't a bad idea to be his sugar mom. For the sake of the orphanage's children, it was fine. She could accept it. But now that Xiaoko had someone else in her heart, her way of thinking couldn't help but change a little. She was very repulsed by the meaning Linny revealed. So annoying, what should I do? Xiaoko was troubled again. She couldn't reject the temptation of Lin Yi's money, but she didn't want anything to happen between her and Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't look like an idiot who didn't ask for anything in return, so Xiaoko knew that if she owed more and more favors like this, she'd be in big trouble in the end. Whatever. She'd just deal with the things in front of her first. She didn't directly respond to Lin Yi anymore. It was his business if he was willing to give her money, but if things really came out, she'd just reject him. He couldn't ask for the money back, could he? The male thief was still the nice. He gave her so much money and good stuff without asking for anything in return, much better than Lin Yi. If Lin Yi knew what Xiaoko was thinking, he'd probably be depressed. How much did the male thief give her? His identity as Lin Yi gave her more than 10 times what the male thief gave her. But at this moment, Lin Yi looked at the phone in his hand curiously. What was wrong with Xiaoko? Did she just hang up and say goodbye? And it seemed like she was going berserk? He just asked her to go shopping. Did she have to be like this? Could it be that she had shopping rejection syndrome? Lin Yi shook his head but didn't call Xiaoko again. He told her everything he needed to know, and when the money from the auction came out, he just donated to the orphanage. At noon after class, Boss Bai was done with this matter. He directed the donation to the orphanage in Songshan, and announced the details of the charity party in front of the whole class. On this Friday night, our school will hold an annual charity evening party. Boss Bai said, I think many students have already seen the news on the BBS forum of our school. As for the details, I still have to tell you. The charity evening party is divided into 2 parts. The first part is the auction. The so-called auction is for everyone to donate some auction items and put them up for auction. There is no specific type of auction item, anything is fine, but it has to be something worthy, otherwise it might not pass the audit. This is a voluntary donation, and there are no special requirements. The people who will participate in the auction are us students, and some alumni from the previous years, as well as the school staff and celebrities from the society. Everyone is willing to bid, and all the money from the auction will be donated to the orphanage. The second part is a voluntary donation, and there are no restrictions on the amount of money you can donate. As for the third segment, it's a masquerade ball. However, there's a limit to the conditions for participation. Only those who have donated and successfully traded items in the previous auctions, or those who have successfully bid for the items, can participate. Of course, this is also voluntary. Those who meet the requirements can also participate or not. However, this activity has always been a tradition of our school. At the masquerade ball, everyone can guess the identity of others. If you guess correctly, you can ask the person who is recognized to promise the other person one thing. Chapter 5972. Xinyan didn't wait for Lin Yi's reply before falling asleep. Lin Yi didn't know if he should laugh or cry. Was she too tired yesterday? That couldn't be. Xinyan went to school like normal yesterday, and didn't do anything that drained her energy. Lin Yi had to continue practicing, so she went to bed early. Why was she so sleepy today? But since Xinyan said so, Lin Yi had no choice but to leave her be. He went out to talk to Meng Yao and started eating breakfast, but Lin Yi prepared a portion for Xinyan in a lunchbox. He'd bring it to school later. Lin Yi had delayed going to school as much as he could, but even so, Xinyan was still drowsy when she woke up. She followed Lin Yi to the car and fell asleep in the car again. Lin Yi, is Xinyan sick again? Can you give her a checkup later? Meng Yao felt that something was wrong with Xinyan. She hadn't been like this yesterday when Lin Yi had gone to the tomb yesterday. Xinyan had woken up in high spirits, completely different from today. How could there be such a drastic change in just one day? Alright, I'll check her when we get to school. Lin Yi nodded. They parked the car at school and Xinyan had to get up no matter how reluctant she was. She couldn't just sleep on the side of the road, could she? She didn't have the ability to sleepwalk yet. Do you want me to carry you to class? Lin Yi asked, seeing how sleepy Xinyan was. Xinyan was almost tempted by Lin Yi, but she couldn't provoke Xiaolong in school. She gritted her teeth and shook her head. No need, I can walk myself. All right. Lin Yi didn't insist and went to class with Xinyan. Wang Xinyan's head was heavy and her feet were light. She almost fell a few times and when she reached her seat she fell asleep before Boss Bai came. Lin Yi took the opportunity to examine her, and found that Xinyan's body, which had just recovered, was showing signs of weakness again. This situation surprised Lin Yi. Xinyan had been drinking the medicine Lin Yi made for her every day, and her body should have been getting better and better. Why was it getting worse and worse? Lin Yi frowned, not understanding what was going on. Xinyan had been so energetic last night, why was she like this morning? Before Lin Yi could think about it, Boss Bai walked into the classroom and a new lesson started. Lin Yi saw that Xinyan was too tired, so he didn't disturb her. He took her notes and started making notes for her. It was fine if Lin Yi didn't remember these things. He was Boss Bai's special student after all, and he only came to class out of interest. Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi and Xinyan, a dark look in his eyes. He didn't know how his brother Kong Mingming was doing in the Sky Elixir sect, and what kind of position he had. Watching his fiancée get close to another man really pissed him off. Kong bro, why don't you give your brother a call and ask him how he's doing? Panhu Wright suggested, noticing Xiaolong's displeasure. I want to, but I don't have the guts to ask. You know that House Kong isn't even a normal noble house. How can we talk to an ancient sect? Xiaolong smiled bitterly. When Kong Mingming left, he communicated with us through your hidden house you. If we go to the Sky Elixir sect directly, they might not even respond to us, and even if they do, we don't have their contact information. I can give you their contact information, but you're right. Panhu Wright nodded. How about this, I'll go back and ask around for you. Thank you. Xiaolong said gratefully. Xinyan didn't wake up until her afternoon nap. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked at the time on her phone. She jumped in shock. It's already noon? I've been sleeping all this time? Yeah, you looked really tired, so I didn't want to disturb you. Lin Yi smiled as he pushed a box of food in front of Xinyan. I bought this from the cafeteria. Hurry up and eat it, it's getting cold. There's also breakfast here. If it's not enough, you can have some. With that, Lin Yi took out the breakfast he prepared this morning. He saw that Xinyan hadn't woken up yet, so he asked Bai Weituo to buy 2 boxes of food. He ate in the classroom. I'll eat your breakfast. I like your food. Xinyan took the breakfast Lin Yi made, a little embarrassed. Lin Yi's food was much better than the ones in the cafeteria. Xinyan had been living in Lin Yi's villa for a while now, and she'd gotten a lot pickier. Normal food didn't taste good anymore. It's up to you. Lin Yi smiled. In the afternoon, Xinyan was still in good spirits. She yawned a lot, but it was much better than the morning. After a whole day of classes, she went home with Lin Yi. Coiling Tiger Wright discussed with his uncle and grandpa about Xiaolong when he got home. Coiling Tiger, it's best if we don't mess with that Lin Yi. Him hitting on Xiaolong's wife has nothing to do with us. We shouldn't interfere, right? Yu Zhentian pondered for a moment before giving his opinion. You're right, but Kong Mingming is the disciple of the Sky Elixir sect's 5th elder. If he inherits the elder's position in the future, it'll be like a man ascending to the heavens. No matter how strong Lin Yi is, he won't be as strong as the Sky Elixir sect. He won't be able to go against them, right? Right. Coiling Tiger thought about it a lot, which was why he agreed to Xiaolong's request. Zhentian and Coiling Tiger are right, old Yu said. However, if we call the Sky Elixir sect secretly, Lin Yi won't know. It's just a small effort. Coiling Tiger, don't go against Lin Yi on the surface. If Xiaolong wants to go against you, just watch. You can attack him behind his back, but don't let him have anything to use against you on the surface. Old Yu thought more. He already knew what happened to the hidden house Yu. On the hidden level, Zhao Qibing's kidnapping of Yu Ning wasn't a secret anymore. Lin Yi was able to walk out of the hidden house Yu unscathed, which proved the hidden house Yu's attitude. If the hidden house Yu couldn't do anything to Lin Yi, then what did the hidden house Yu have to go against Lin Yi? I understand. Right. Coiling Tiger nodded. How could he not know that Lin Yi couldn't be messed with? As a result, he kept a low profile in school. He knew that Han Jingjing had the notes, but he didn't dare to take it from her in public. What if Lin Yi found out and killed him? He wouldn't be able to explain himself. Chapter 5973. I'll call the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect now, said Old Man Yu. Yu Coiling Tiger and Yu Jintian didn't dare to speak. They waited quietly on the side and watched Old Man Yu respectfully call the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect, Silkworm Transformation. Although Silkworm Transformation wasn't old and was about the same age as Yu Coiling Tiger, he was the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect. His status was respected. It wasn't something that Old Man Yu could compare with. Hello, I'm the old master of the Hidden Yu family. May I ask if the young master is here? Old Man Yu said respectfully to the person who answered the phone. He didn't expect Silkworm Transformation to answer the phone personally. Oh, it's Master Yu. The young master isn't here. What's the matter? Asked the woman who answered the phone. Oh, when will the young master be free? Should I call again? Old Man Yu asked when he heard that Silkworm Transformation wasn't here. Our young master has been practicing in seclusion recently. He's preparing for a big event. He won't be able to answer your phone for a while. If you have anything you can tell me, said the woman. I see. Old Man Yu was a little puzzled. What big event was Silkworm Transformation preparing for? But he didn't dare to ask. So he said, it's like this. Isn't Kong Ming Ming from the Kong family accepted as a disciple by the fifth elder? Now the Kong family wants to know how Kong Ming Ming is doing recently, so they asked me to help them find out. Well, that's it. I'll ask Kong Ming Ming to call you back, said the woman after listening. She was the personal maid of Silkworm Transformation. Her status in the Heavenly Elixir sect was naturally not ordinary, so she didn't have much respect for the disciple of the fifth elder. Okay, thank you. Old Man Yu said with a sigh of relief. Kong Ming Ming was refining the pill nervously at the moment. Success or failure depended on this. This was his second time refining the marrow and bone cleansing pill. The previous refining failed. The second refining must succeed. Because there wasn't much time left until the Silkworm Transformation's requirements, so he had to give it his all. Kong Ming Ming knew that his current status and strength were all given to him by the Heavenly Silkworm Transformation. If he failed to refine the bone and marrow cleansing pill, the Heavenly Silkworm Transformation would naturally not think so highly of him, and he would not be able to gain a foothold in the Heavenly Elixir sect. If Lin Yi was here, he would be very surprised because Kong Ming Ming was now a Heaven rank master, a yellow rank level 3 alchemist. This speed of leveling was simply akin to riding a rocket. Of course, in order to cultivate Kong Ming Ming, the Heavenly Elixir faction had fed him the Essence Gathering Pill, the Small Qi Gathering Pill, the Medium Qi Gathering Pill, and the Qi Gathering Pill. Kong Ming Ming's strength could be said to have skyrocketed. Very quickly he became a Heaven rank expert and a Yellow rank level 3 pill master. The Qi Gathering Pill was concocted by the Xianjun ancestor. Otherwise, with the Heavenly Elixir factions Heaven, Earth, and Man, although he could also concoct it, the success rate would not be so high, and he would not have had the time to give it to Kong Ming Ming. The fact that Kong Ming Ming received such care showed how important the bone and marrow cleansing pill was to the Heavenly Elixir faction, or rather to the Five Elements sect. In the secret room sat Kong Ming Ming. His forehead was full of sweat as he concocted the bone and marrow cleansing pill. Beside him sat the Heavenly Elixir factions Heaven, Earth, and Man, as well as an old man that most people in the Heavenly Elixir faction did not recognize. This person was actually the Xianjun ancestor. The Xianjun ancestor was actually sitting here personally to supervise and guide Kong Ming Ming. One could imagine the importance of this pill concocting mission. Slowly increase the temperature, increase the intensity of the fire. The Xianjun ancestor ordered Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming carefully followed the instructions. Stabilize the temperature, continue to increase the intensity of the fire. The Xianjun ancestor continued to order. Kong Ming Ming continued to follow the instructions. The Heavenly Silkworm female servant did not find Kong Ming Ming. She only saw the fifth elder, so she passed the elder Yu's call to the fifth elder. I understand. However, Kong Ming Ming is currently doing something big. Once he is done, he might be able to communicate with the outside world without any obstructions. The fifth elder was a little relieved and a little emotional at the same time. If his disciple successfully concocted the bone and marrow cleansing pill, he would become the eighth elder of the Heavenly Elixir faction. Although his position would not be as high as the fifth elder, he would still be an elder. This was his disciple, so the fifth elder was naturally happy. However, think about how much effort he had put in to become an elder of the Heavenly Elixir faction. However, Kang Mingming's luck was good. Not only did he have someone to assist him in leveling up, but he also concocted a pill. This allowed him to stabilize his position as the 8th elder. All right. The heavenly silkworm female servant nodded and then left respectfully. She did not respect Kang Mingming much, but she was very polite to the 5th elder. In the heavenly elixir faction, the elders had a very high status. Other than the heavenly silkworm female servant, they had the highest status. As for the 5th elder, his eyes were fixed on the door of the secret chamber, and he was extremely nervous. All right, slowly retract the fire. Ancestor Xianzhen shouted and said excitedly. Yes. Kang Mingming also felt that the pill was completed, so he quickly began to retract the fire. When Kang Mingming finished retracting the fire, the ancestor Xianzhen didn't care about the heat and directly opened the lid of the medicine cauldron. Instantly, the room was filled with fragrance. The bone and marrow cleansing pill was successfully concocted. Kang Mingming wiped the sweat from his forehead, and a proud smile appeared on his face. He had been waiting for this moment and he finally succeeded. He was going to become the 8th elder of the heavenly elixir faction. What Lin Yi? What Kang Xiaobo? They were all trash. No matter how powerful Lin Yi was, he was just jumping around in the aristocratic family level. Would he dare to go against the ancient level? What was there to be afraid of if even the hidden level didn't dare to provoke them? Poor Kang Mingming still didn't know about Lin Yi's achievements during this period of time. He still didn't know that the hidden level didn't dare to provoke Lin Yi anymore. He still thought that Lin Yi was the same as before he left. Very good, but the quality is a bit lacking. Ancestor Xianzhen looked at the bone and marrow cleansing pill in his hand excitedly, and then directly swallowed it. This scene made Kang Mingming dumbfounded. The ancestor Xianzhen was also dumbfounded. This bone and marrow cleansing pill wasn't for him to consume. Didn't it have other uses? Why did ancestor Xianzhen swallow it directly? Ancestor Xianzhen looked at the two dumbfounded people in front of him and smiled. After I consume it, I can continue concocting. Although Zhao Ming can also concoct it, his skills are still not as good as mine. After I consume it, I can concoct a better quality bone and marrow cleansing pill. Oh. The ancestor Xianzhen nodded. He was shocked earlier, thinking that ancestor Xianzhen had suddenly changed his mind. Although it was ancestor Xianzhen's turn to concoct the bone and marrow cleansing pill, Kang Mingming was also a great contributor to the heavenly elixir faction and 5 elements faction. Furthermore, the heavenly elixir faction and 5 elements faction had spent a lot of resources to nurture him. Making him the 8th elder was reasonable. Chapter 5974. Is that so? Yushu wasn't interested in the boots at all. Han Jingjing went back to her house after dinner, while Mengyao, Yushu and Xinyan went upstairs to sleep. Lin Yi didn't ask Xinyan to stay, afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop himself from practicing in the middle of the night. Xinyan, on the other hand, was too embarrassed to stay anymore. She'd been helping Lin Yi with his practicing before. What excuse could she use now? Lin Yi went back to his room and called Boss Bai to tell him that he was safe. He then asked, Master Bai, how is the inheritance in my body? Is there any news? I'm looking for information for you, but there's no news yet. Sigh, if only I was still in the 5 elements sect, but I can't ask them now. Boss Bai said helplessly. It's okay, there's no rush. Lin Yi said that, but he was still very worried. How about this, I'll call my second disciple and ask him if I have the chance. Boss Bai naturally understood what Lin Yi was thinking. He hesitated for a moment before making his decision. His relationship with Xianzhen wasn't good, but his relationship with Xianzhen was very good. Boss Bai's alchemist had passed away a long time ago, and he barely taught him anything, and Xianzhen's alchemy skills were all taught by him. As a result, he had always been close to Xianzhen. It was just that they hadn't contacted each other for so many years, and he didn't know if Xianzhen was still the Xianzhen from before, or if he had turned to Xianzhen's side. There won't be any side effects, will there? Lin Yi asked worriedly. I'll try. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. Boss Bai laughed and said indifferently, at most I'll lose face. What's the big deal? Thank you, Master Bai. Lin Yi sighed, the former head of the 5 elements sect. He was the former master of the 5 elements sect, but he asked his former junior brother and he might lose face. All of this was for him, so how could Lin Yi not dare to do it? If you can grow up, that will be my greatest joy. I still hope that we can return to the 5 elements sect together one day. Boss Bai said. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Words of gratitude were unnecessary. It all depended on his future actions. Boss Bai hung up Lin Yi's call and hesitated for a long time before he finally called Xianzhen. In the Five Elements sect, Xianchen and Xianzhen's satellite phone numbers had not changed for many years. However, he had never taken the initiative to call them. He would rather forget about it. But today, for the sake of Lin Yi, for the sake of his disciple, he had to call Patriarch Xianzhen. Old ancestor Xianzhen was studying the pill recipe that Kang Mingming had brought back. It was a tier 4 pill recipe, and this time around it was flawless. However, he was unable to refine it. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If eldest senior brother Shintian was here, he would definitely be able to refine this pill, right? Eldest senior brother. Are you alright? The profound truth patriarch only dared to reveal his true feelings when no one was around. Over the years, under the pressure of the profound earth patriarch, the profound truth patriarch did not dare to reveal his true feelings. He could only swallow his anger for the sake of the sect's grand plan. He could only cooperate with Xianchen. A phone rang. The profound truth patriarch thought that it was Patriarch Xianchen calling to ask him to return to the sect. After all, Patriarch Xianzhen had been staying in the Heavenly Elixir sect all this time. However, when the profound truth patriarch saw the caller ID on the phone, he was slightly stunned. It was actually an unfamiliar number. Hello? How are you? The profound truth patriarch picked up the phone. Because the satellite phone number was special, the possibility of calling the wrong number was relatively small. Therefore, although he didn't know who it was, he still picked up the phone. Xianzhen, is that you? When Boss Bai heard the profound truth patriarch's voice again, he was filled with emotions. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was young and brought Xianzhen to refine pills every day. That time was always so happy. You are eldest senior brother? The profound truth patriarch's eyes widened. The moment he heard the voice, tears filled his eyes. He didn't expect that the person he had been talking about just now would actually call him. Yes, it's me. Xianzhen, are you alright? Boss Bai asked. Eldest senior brother, I'm sorry. The profound truth patriarch had a lot of words to say, but in the end, it became that he was sorry because he didn't know how to express his current complicated feelings. It's all in the past. I don't blame you. Boss Bai laughed. He had already thought through what happened back then. It shouldn't have anything to do with Xianzhen. He was just used. The person who did this should be Xianchen. No, it's my fault. I'm too cowardly. After so many years, I didn't dare to find you and bring you back to the sect. Sob, sob, sob. The profound truth patriarch cried loudly like a child. However, he didn't care. In the secret chamber of the Heavenly Elixir sect, no one would know. At this moment, Boss Bai also understood that Xianzhen didn't walk the same path as Xianchen. His personality was still as cowardly as before. Although he had become the patriarch of a sect now, he was still a child in his heart. Xianzhen, don't cry. I know what happened back then had nothing to do with you. Boss Bai comforted him. Yes. Hearing this from Boss Bai, Xianzhen relaxed a lot. I came to find you this time because I have something to ask of you. Boss Bai was a little relieved. It seemed that his second junior brother could be trusted. Lin Yi's inheritance method should be settled. Eldest senior brother, please don't say that. If there's anything you need, just say it. It's not a request. If you want me to do something, just say it. The profound truth patriarch hurriedly said, but, you also know that there are some things that I can't do with Xianchen around. Are you asking me not to target your disciple in the Five Elements sect? It's not that. Boss Bai denied. I won't make it difficult for you. It's something else. That's good. The profound truth patriarch let out a sigh of relief. He didn't dare to go against the profound truth patriarch. The Five Elements sect could be said to be completely under the control of the profound truth patriarch. He, the second patriarch, was actually just an empty shell. His force was only the Heavenly Elixir sect. However, it was only a force in the dark. On the surface, the Heavenly Elixir sect was still under the control of the profound truth patriarch. He couldn't do too much. Otherwise, the profound truth patriarch would see his flaws. He would be fine, but his two disciples would definitely be unlucky. Chapter 5975. Senior brother, you don't have to check this. I know. Although Xuanzhen ancestor found it strange why Boss Bai asked this, he didn't ask. Instead, he agreed without hesitation, I'll tell you now. You remember now? That's great. I'll record it. Boss Bai was a little excited. He didn't expect that what he had been worrying about for many days would come to him so easily. Xuanzhen ancestor still respected him as much as before and would do his best to help him. This made Boss Bai very happy. However, if it weren't for this, Boss Bai wouldn't have called to ask for help. This was a blessing in disguise. Okay, senior brother, you're talking about the inheritance of the original power from the virtual attribute to the real attribute, right? Not the inheritance of the ordinary inheritor? Xuanzhen ancestor asked. Yes, this kind of inheritance. Boss Bai nodded and said, the inheritor doesn't need to spend so much effort to understand the inheritance. You just need to go to the source of the attribute to comprehend it. I don't need to call you. There are two ways to inherit the power of the origin. The first is the orthodox way, which requires a series of complicated preparations. After consuming the marrow and bone cleansing elixir, you will head to the land of inheritance to inherit the power of the origin. This is a very complicated process. If you want to know more, I will copy it down as soon as possible and find an opportunity to mail it to you, Patriarch Xuanzhen said. Okay, then be careful. Boss Bai said gratefully. It was very dangerous for Xuanzhen ancestor to do this. Although Xuanzhen ancestor could go in and out of the Five Elements sect's scripture pavilion at will and read the books inside, it was very difficult for him to copy the original power inheritance and mail it to Boss Bai without anyone noticing. According to Xuanzhen ancestor, Xianchen ancestor was basically in charge of the Five Elements sect now. His spies were everywhere. If the Xuanzhen patriarch did this without telling the truth, he would have to work very hard. For example, reciting a section every day and copying it when he went back. Otherwise, if he took the book away directly, Xianchen ancestor would definitely be suspicious. Xuanzhen ancestor was focused on alchemy. Why would he suddenly be interested in the inheritance? Boss Bai knew very well that there must be something fishy going on. Don't worry. I'll be careful. All these years, Patriarch Xuanzhen had gotten used to living under surveillance. If it were not for the surveillance, he would not have been able to cultivate his own force in the Heavenly Elixir sect. By the way, what's the other way of inheritance? Boss Bai continued to ask. Another method of inheritance. It's a crooked path, but it's also a shortcut. Old ancestor Shenzhen said, that is to let the virtual person and the inheritor of this branch dual cultivate. Through dual cultivation they can obtain the inheritance of the source power. The disadvantage of this method is that the inheritor must be a virgin. Otherwise it won't have any effect. Oh? You can pass down the power of the origin in this way? Boss Bai was surprised. Is this method accurate? It should be accurate. That was what was recorded in the sect's ancient books. The reason why I remembered was because Xianchen had researched about this before, about inheritors. Xianchen is in charge. Xuanzhen Patriarch said, although this method is simple, it is not very realistic. First of all, the known inheritors are prioritized for that plan. It will be very difficult for you to find other inheritors. First Marshal brother, on your side. Who are you asking about this for? Oh, it's a friend of mine. I just want to know. It wasn't that Boss Bai didn't trust Xuanzhen, but he didn't want to reveal too much about Lin Yi. It seems that only the first method is more realistic? That should be the case. Old ancestor Shenzhen nodded. First Marshal brother, don't worry. Wait patiently and leave the rest to me. Okay, then we'll keep in touch. When you're done, just call me. Boss Bai said. After hanging up, Boss Bai immediately called Lin Yi and told Lin Yi what old ancestor Shenzhen said. After hearing this, Lin Yi was shocked. Dual cultivate with an inheritor? What does he mean by dual cultivation? Lin Yi had to admit that his thoughts were a little devious. There were many types of dual cultivation, and Yanghua and Dragonesses was also called dual cultivation, but most of the dual cultivation in novels referred to dual cultivation in bed. I didn't ask about that. Since the inheritors have to be virgins, then dual cultivation should be. You know. Boss Bai said. Oh, okay. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. His second wife should be an inheritor, and if he dual cultivated with Xiao Xiao, would he be able to fill up one of his void attributes? Let her become a real slave? But the Ice Palace's requirement for Xiao Xiao was to maintain her virginity. That conflicted with dual cultivation, so Lin Yi didn't know what to choose. But isn't it a bit unrealistic for me to dual cultivate with 7 inheritors? Indeed, so I'm leaning towards the first method. But we'll have to wait for my junior brother Shenzhen to come back with a copy of the method. Boss Bai said. He's under Xianchen's control right now, and he can't touch the core secrets of the Five Elements sect. Xianchen is also working on the inheritors, but Shenzhen doesn't know much about these things and I don't either. Then what should we do if we dual cultivate? Lin Yi asked. I didn't ask about that in detail. If you're interested, I'll go ask. Boss Bai said. Okay, there's no harm in knowing more. Lin Yi nodded. After hanging up, Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Boss Bai's news was good news, but it wasn't anything. Dual cultivating with an inheritor wasn't very realistic for Lin Yi. Even if Xiao Xiao was an inheritor, How long would it take to gather the other 6 inheritors? Even if he did, would they dual cultivate with him? Xiao Xiao would be fine, but what about the others? Lin Yi didn't want to do anything to force them. Plus, even if Lin Yi wanted to force them, would they be so easily forced? The inheritors all had ancient powers behind them, there was no way Lin Yi was going to force them. Shaking his head, Lin Yi decided not to think about this for now. Instead, he placed his hopes on the first inheritance method that Xuanzhen mentioned. Chapter 5976. Chapter 2796. Someone from the Holy Fist Palace. Although Lin Yi was suspected to be a sneak attack, but whether it was a sneak attack or not, it showed how strong Lin Yi was. Gu Xian believed that if it was him, he wouldn't be able to do it. Plus, he clearly felt that the skill Lin Yi used was the 15th move of the Heaven class. This skill could only be used by a Heaven class mid-phase master, but Lin Yi was only an Earth class mid-phase master. Lin Yi, I'll see you in the test. Zhang Naipeo finally held back and didn't attack Lin Yi on the spot. Firstly, he was afraid that he would kill Lin Yi directly and affect the test plan. Secondly, if he didn't use his ultimate move, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to fight against Lin Yi. If Lin Yi took the initiative to attack him, it would be fine, but if he continued to attack his right-hand follower, then Zhang Naipeo would become a commander without an army. Oh, Lin Yi said casually. Zhang Naipeo humphed coldly and said to his other follower, Mo Ba, carry Mo Jiao, let's go. Yes, gunslinger. Mo Ba's follower was scared. Lin Yi injured Mo Jiao with one move, so he obviously didn't have much strength left. If he used another move, then he wouldn't be able to block it. Hearing Zhang Naipeo's words, Mo Ba was relieved. He carried Mo Jiao and quickly left the restaurant with Zhang Naipeo. They came and left in a hurry and didn't succeed in showing off. Gu Xian, you stopped me just now because... Lin Yi turned to Gu Xian and asked. Ah. Only then did Gu Xian come back to his senses. The scene just now really shocked him. He didn't expect that the legendary Zhang Naipeo, who killed a disciple of the Holy Fist Palace on the trial road, would actually be defeated. And the person who defeated him was an individual cultivator that he just met, an individual cultivator that he didn't pay much attention to. Before, when Lin Yi said that he injured Feng Nidian, Gu Xian was only impressed. After all, he didn't see it with his own eyes. After all, a long time had passed and he didn't really see any godly skills, so naturally he didn't pay much attention to it. But now Gu Xian finally understood why Lin Yi could defeat Feng Nidian. Before, I heard that disciple of the Holy Fist Palace also hit Zhang Naipeo once and became a cripple. I suddenly thought Naipeo just stood there and let you hit him would be a problem? Gu Xian explained. I thought of this too, so I didn't hit him. Instead, I hit one of his followers. Lin Yi nodded. He'd been thinking of getting rid of as many as he could. Naipeo had brought 2 followers with him this time, which was something he was wary of, but now that he'd gotten rid of one, things were much easier. As long as he formed an alliance with Feng Shisan in the test, they should be able to fight against Zhang Naipeo. He would deal with Zhang Naipeo and Feng Shisan would deal with Mo Ba. Unless Mo Ba was on the same level as Lin Yi, Feng Shisan and early phase Sky class, should be able to deal with him for a while. Yeah, although I don't know what's going on, but thinking about it, Zhang Naipeo didn't even make a move before the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was crippled. This is very strange and he took the initiative to let you hit him. I feel that this is very strange, Gu Xian said. That's why I stopped you, Lin Yi nodded. I'm worried about this too. This Zhang Naipeo is a disciple of the demon sect, and we can't use common sense to judge him. It seems that we need to investigate carefully. Don't worry, I'll try my best to find out, but the things I can find out are only on the surface. I can't do anything if it's too secretive, Gu Xian shrugged and said helplessly. Not long after Zhang Naipeo left, 3 practitioners came. They were obviously here to participate in the test, but one of them was alone. He looked like he was very unlucky, and the other 2 were on guard against him, as if they wanted to keep a distance from him. That disciple with the noob face is the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. One of his companions was crippled by Zhang Naipeo, and because he has a grudge with Zhang Naipeo, the other 2 don't dare to get too close to him. Gu Xian explained to Lin Yi and the others in a low voice. Then where are the other 2 from? Lin Yi asked. I don't know about that, but I have news about that Holy Fist Palace disciple because they fought with Zhang Naipeo, Gu Xian said. Young hero, why don't you come and sit with us? At this time, Feng Shizhang stood up and threw an olive branch to the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. In fact, he was not stupid, but he was straightforward and honest. He also knew that Lin Yi and Zhang Naipeo were rivals, and he sat with Lin Yi before, so it was inevitable that Zhang Naipeo would treat him as an enemy. The enemy of an enemy was a friend, and this disciple of the Holy Fist Palace had crippled his companion, so he must hate Zhang Naipeo to the core. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was stunned. He didn't expect that someone would take the initiative to recruit him. The disciples of other sects avoided him, afraid that they would provoke Zhang Naipeo's revenge. He was thinking about whether he should continue to participate in the test when someone called him. "Hello. Are you calling me?" The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace pointed at himself and asked with uncertainty. "Of course I am Feng Shizhang, a Sky-class early-stage spiritual master, a disciple of the ancient Feng family. May I know your name, young hero?" Feng Shizhang asked with a smile. "My name is Li Siba, I am from the Holy Fist Palace, a Sky-class mid-stage spiritual master," Li Siba said with fear and trepidation. Usually the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was very arrogant. Although the other party was a disciple of the ancient Feng family, he was only a Sky-class early stage, so he would definitely look down on him. However, the situation was different now. Feng Shizhang took the initiative to talk to him, which was already giving him a lot of face. "Haha, young hero Li, sit down, let me introduce you to the others." Feng Shizhang pointed at Lin Yi and said, "This is young hero Lin, a late-stage Earth-class master." Speaking of Lin Yi's strength, Li Siba's eyes flashed with disappointment. In his opinion, Lin Yi's strength was too low. Among the people here, Feng Shizhang was the strongest, but it was impossible for him to compete with Zhang Naipeo and the others. "Young hero Li, don't underestimate Brother Lin. Although Brother Lin is only a late-stage Earth-class master, he just destroyed a mid-stage Sky-class subordinate of Zhang Naipeo with one move. So, Brother Lin's strength is the strongest among us." Feng Shizhang also saw Li Siba's disdain and explained. He even respectfully called Lin Yi Brother Lin. Li Siba was stunned and looked at Lin Yi in horror. Chapter 5977. Li Siba of course knew how strong Zhang Naipeo's men were. They were real heaven-class masters and Lin Yi could cripple them in one move? What kind of terrifying strength was this? He had suffered under Zhang Naipeo's hands before, and he knew how strong they were. Although he was also a heaven-class master, he didn't get the upper hand against two of Naipeo's men. If he didn't run fast enough, he might have been crippled. But he didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to cripple Naipeo's men, and he was still eating here as if nothing had happened. It was unbelievable. Li Siba greets young hero Lin. "Brother Lin, you are really my idol. Brother Lin, you may already know that our Holy Fist Palace disciple suffered under Zhang Naipeo's hands, and I thought there was no hope for revenge. I didn't expect Brother Lin to help me vent my anger. I'm so grateful." Li Siba looked at Lin Yi with admiration. "Zhang Naipeo and I are enemies and I crippled him in the Ice Palace last time. It's normal for him to come looking for trouble. It's not like it has anything to do with you," Lin Yi said nonchalantly with a wave of his hand. "Damn, Brother Lin, you are so strong? You crippled Zhang Naipeo last time, did you cripple Feng Nidian as well?" Li Siba suddenly turned to look at Feng Shipian. He didn't know why Feng Shipian was sitting with Lin Yi. Didn't Lin Yi cripple someone from the Fengs? "Don't look at me like that, Brother Li. I know my cousin very well, he's arrogant and domineering. He tried to rob Brother Lin's treasures in the Ice Palace trial, and he got crippled by Brother Lin. He deserved it." Feng Shipian shook his head and said, "This doesn't affect my relationship with Brother Lin." In actuality, Feng Shipian wasn't an idiot at all. He came here to get medicine for Nidian, but he didn't show any hostility towards the person who injured Nidian. Instead, he showed friendliness. This was enough to show that Feng Shipian was the type of person who looked like a fool. "I see." Li Siba nodded. "Since Brother Lin is so strong, why don't we nominate Brother Lin to be our captain? We'll form a team and join the trial under Brother Lin's leadership." "I think it's a good idea." Gu Xian also admired Lin Yi and nodded in agreement. "Of course I have no problem with that. With Brother Lin leading us, our team is like a tiger that has grown wings," Feng Shipian said with a smile. "Lin Yi is my boss, I'll be fine," Chikuan said. Therefore Lin Yi inexplicably became the leader of the group, which made him feel somewhat helpless. "By the way, Xiai Ba, where are the two disciples who came with you from? It seems like he's on guard against you," Lin Yi asked. Since everyone had elected him as the team leader, he wouldn't decline and just called Li Siba Siba. "Those two are from the Dark Palace, average strength, Earth class mid-phase. Of course, it's not that I look down on Earth classes, a master like Brother Lin is even stronger than us Sky class masters." Siba was worried that Lin Yi wouldn't be happy, so he added, "These two were trying to get on our good side on the way here, wanting to join me and my disciple, but then we met Zhang Naipeo and my disciple was crippled, so the two of them just kept their distance from us." "A disciple of the Dark Palace?" Linny had heard of the Dark Palace before, back when Linny came back from West Star Mountain. Linny had heard of them before. All of a sudden Linny felt a headache. Linny remembered the trip to West Star Mountain and suddenly felt like his memories were a little fragmented. There were a lot of things missing but he just couldn't remember them. Brother Lin, what's wrong? Do you have a grudge against the Dark Palace? Li Siba saw the frown on Lin Yi's face, and thought that Lin Yi had a grudge against them. Do you need me to teach them a lesson? Nope, don't do anything stupid. Lin Yi waved his hand. I was just thinking about something else, it's nothing. Alright, Li Siba had wanted to show off in front of Lin Yi, but he didn't have the chance. After a while more disciples came into the restaurant, some that Gu Xian and the others knew, and some that they didn't. The one that caught Lin Yi's attention was a female disciple from the Ice Palace. Lin Yi thought that either Zhao Qijiu or Yu Bing would come, but they didn't. In truth, the Sky Elixir's test was full of danger, and both Yu Bing and Qijiu were people that Lin Yi had asked Xiao Xiao to take care of. Naturally, Xiao Xiao wouldn't let them come to such a dangerous test. Plus, Xiao Xiao didn't know that Lin Yi was going to participate in the Sky Elixir test. After all, the last time Lin Yi participated in the Sky Elixir test was a coincidence, and Lin Yi didn't have much to do with the Sky Elixir test. At first, Lin Yi thought that he wouldn't meet anyone he knew in the test, but then the door opened and a cool girl in black tiptoed in carefully, not greeting anyone. She found a corner and sat down. Lin Yi spat out the drink in his mouth when he saw who it was. Who else could it be other than Yang Qiqi? What Lin Yi didn't expect was that Yang Qiqi would participate in the test as well. What was she doing here? Was she here to trade for some medicine for her friend's illness? Bro Lin, what's wrong? Shipian asked curiously. Nothing, I just saw someone I know, Lin Yi said. Then tell her to come sit with us? Shipian said passionately. It's okay, she's a bit of a loner. We'll see. Lin Yi shook his head. Lin Yi understood Yang Qiqi's personality. If there wasn't anything, Lin Yi wouldn't bother her, lest she tried to kill him. After dinner, Lin Yi and the others went back to their rooms to rest. There were a lot of practitioners in the restaurant, and Yang Qiqi didn't notice Lin Yi. She left alone after dinner, and it seemed like she didn't have any friends here. Naipeo didn't know if it was because he was defeated by Lin Yi, but he didn't come back down after he went upstairs. He didn't eat either. Bro Lin, what's this spirit beast of yours? Why does it look like a pet? It shouldn't be of much use in this test, right? Gu Xian was a knowledgeable man, and he found the spirit beast in Lin Yi's hand strange. Chapter 5978. But now he had finally settled down. Although there were still dangers in his life, it was different from before. Lin Yi had a goal and a sense of existence. This was also the first time Lin Yi had looked at the ninth princess after Yuning. I've said it before, you are my team member. I will not give up on any team member. Lin Yi said. Oh. Qiqi suddenly felt that this sentence was familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had heard it. She only thanked Lin Yi silently. She decided that if they could leave this place successfully, she would do everything she could to help Lin Yi find out what Lin Yi needed in Europe. Don't worry too much, there will be a way. Let's eat something first. Are you hungry? Lin Yi asked. Yeah. A little? Qiqi rubbed her stomach. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to leave this place, but after hearing what Lin Yi said, she was really hungry. Then wait for me here, I'll go catch some fish from the lake over there, Lin Yi said as he stood up and walked towards the lake that the pig had pointed him to. Qiqi looked at Lin Yi's back and felt very conflicted. She felt very guilty. She had treated Lin Yi badly, but Lin Yi didn't care and helped her every time she was in danger. Qiqi wasn't someone with a heart of stone, how could she not be touched? Naturally, Lin Yi didn't know that Qiqi's opinion of him had changed. He caught 4 or 5 fish in the lake and quickly went back to where he'd come from. He prepared the fish quickly and skillfully before putting them in a clean place and starting to roast them. Alright, eat. Lin Yi gave most of the fish to Qiqi but only took one for himself. Ew. Why are you only eating one? Qiqi was a little embarrassed and asked. I'm a spiritual practitioner. He just needed to cultivate for a while. You are a physical cultivator, so your physical recovery is slower. Lin Yi said. Then, I won't hold back. Qiqi nodded. The difference between a spiritual practitioner and a physical practitioner was that spiritual practitioners could absorb the qi in the air and turn it into their own qi for their own use. Physical practitioners, on the other hand, had to train their body to achieve their goal. Although external experts, after cultivating a martial technique, could also use the surrounding spiritual qi for their own use when executing a martial technique. However, in terms of recovery speed, they were still inferior to internal cultivators. External martial cultivators exhausted their stamina slowly. This was because martial techniques used the spiritual energy in the surroundings. They did not need to use their own quintessence. There were pros and cons to both. However, if the external experts didn't use their martial skills, then they wouldn't be able to do so. Then Naipeo's thorn arts would lose its effect. Naipeo's thorn arts could reflect 80% of the chi back to 240%, and if a physical practitioner didn't use any skills and just used their physical body to hit Naipeo, there wouldn't be a problem with the reflected chi. However, not to mention that the masters of the Holy Fist Palace did not know this situation before. Even if they knew, they could only hit Zhang Naipeo with the strength of their bodies. It wouldn't deal too much damage to Naipeo. After all, external experts were also dependable. He won by relying on his martial skills. This was also why external experts were no match for internal experts when they were at a lower level. Under normal circumstances, they would be stronger than inner sect experts of the same level. This was also because when external experts activated their martial skills, they mobilized the true energy around their bodies, unlike internal experts who emitted it from their bodies. The higher the level of external experts, the more spiritual energy they could mobilize, and naturally the more powerful they would be. Yang Qiqi had a good meal of grilled fish and she sat on the ground in a daze looking at the cliff. The sky was getting dark, but Yang Qiqi wasn't sleepy. She was trapped here and she didn't know when she could get out. Lin Yi, if we can't think of a way to get out when the time is up, will the five evils chi invade our bodies and cause us to go crazy? Yang Qiqi asked worriedly. I don't think so. I'll walk around again tomorrow to see if there's a way out, Lin Yi said. Okay. Yang Qiqi nodded. She didn't know why, but after going through so many things with Lin Yi, Yang Qiqi trusted him more and more. Lin Yi's words made her feel at ease. The next morning, the sun had just risen and Lin Yi left to look for a way out. But after walking around for half a day, Lin Yi couldn't find a way. It seemed that Tian Shan was very familiar with this place, and if she said there was no way, then there was no way. If Tian Shan was here to accept the inheritance, then she must know a lot more about the Five Evils Mountains than he did. And so Lin Yi gave up after not finding a way. He turned back to the lake and continued to catch fish. After catching a few fish, Lin Yi went back to the place where he and Yang Qiqi were, and continued grilling fish. Yang Qiqi saw that Lin Yi was back and couldn't just sit around and enjoy the fruits of his labor. What can I do for you? Why don't I clean up these fish? It's fine, I'm used to it. Just wait. Lin Yi shook his head and started cleaning the fish with practiced ease. Yanjing City. A pack of cigarettes was quickly finished by Qianli. He tried his best to reduce the amount of cigarettes he smoked, but it didn't take long before there was only one pack left. Qianli picked up his phone and was about to call Mr. Lang when his phone rang first. What surprised him was that it was Mr. Lang. Mr. Lang, I was just about to call you. Qianli smiled as he picked up the phone. Mr. Liu, are you panicking? You gave me the money, afraid that I'd run away? Xiaochun smiled brightly. Haha, how could that be? Mr. Lang and I have a strategic partnership, and our medicine business is worth a few $100 million a year. Mr. Lang wouldn't be interested in $30 million. Qianli really didn't think that Mr. Lang would lie to him. On one hand, it was the hypnotist's work, and on the other, the two companies would be doing business for a few $100 million a year. Mr. Lang wouldn't be interested in this small amount of money. I was just joking, Mr. Liu. I have good news for you. Xiaochun changed the topic. Oh, what good news? Do you have more cigarettes? Qianli paused and asked. Chapter 5979. Ah, it's already booked? None left? Qianli asked, shocked. Mr. Lang, I can't do that. You have to at least leave some for me. I'd rather make less money than keep some for myself. But the profit is very high. The price of a carton of cigarettes is about 10,000 yuan. I can sell it for more than 20,000 yuan. This batch of goods has a total of 2,000 cartons. Once I sell it, I can make a profit of 200%. Xiaochun said. We invested 30 million, including the money we used to bribe the gangsters when we smuggled them in. That's 50 million worth of profit. That won't make much of a difference. Leave me 10, no 20. Qianli had thought that the cigarettes would be expensive, but it didn't seem too expensive after hearing the price. He breathed a sigh of relief and asked for more. 20? I'll try my best then. 10 should be fine, 20 depends on the situation. Xiaochun hesitated for a moment and said, By the way, Mr. Liu, let's split the money we earned, about 13 million yuan each. Shall I transfer it to your company's account? Just this one deal? You won't do it again in the future? Qianli paused. The profit was very tempting to him. He was the conservative type. He could keep his business, but starting a business was a bit difficult. Naturally, he didn't want to let go of this opportunity. Plus, these cigarettes had already become his daily necessities. If he didn't have these cigarettes, he couldn't imagine how he would be able to endure it. So, subconsciously, Tianli hoped that this deal would continue. Crossing the border once and bribing the gangsters is too much. This time, I'm still using my connections. Next time, they'll probably have to pay 20 to 30 million before they're willing to help us smuggle the boats. That way there won't be much profit. I'm thinking about doing it once and then forget about it. Mr. Lang said, after all, our capital is limited. It's just a little bit. It's meaningless to do it again. Is that so? Tianli didn't understand the details of smuggling either. He had always been doing proper business, and even when he was importing, it was through the official customs channels. He had never asked a smuggler to use a boat to smuggle, so he believed what Boss Lang said. But Tianli wasn't quite satisfied. Then should we increase the amount we import each time? Should we talk to those smugglers again? It's not impossible. Firstly, I'm afraid that it will take up too much of Director Lu's funds. Secondly, I'm afraid that Director Lu will think that this business isn't a proper path and you won't be interested in it, Director Lang said. I can look into the funds, but as for this business, I'm not interested in such a huge profit. How is that possible? Tianli said, how about this, Mr. Lang, where are you? I'll go find you and we can talk about it in detail. I'm in the hotel. I'll take Xiao Chui to your company to talk about it. I'll bring you some cigarettes on the way, Xiao Chun said. All right, I'll be waiting for you at my company, Mr. Lang, Tianli said quickly. Half an hour later, Xiao Chun and the hypnotist appeared at Tianli's company, and naturally, Tianli welcomed them warmly in the guest room. Mr. Lang, you're the best. This business has brought in such a huge profit in just a few days. Tianli wasn't someone who hadn't seen a lot of money before, but to be able to earn so much in just a few days, this speed was not to be underestimated. Haha, it's nothing. If it weren't for Director Lu's support, I wouldn't be able to earn so much money. Xiao Chun waved his hand with a smile. But it's not impossible for us to continue investing. Yes, the more you invest, the greater the return. For example, if you invest a few hundred million, the return will be even greater. Chui Mianshi said, not missing the opportunity. That's right, then let's invest 500 million. Let's hope we can earn more money. Tianli didn't know what was going on, but he suddenly had a strong desire to invest. He didn't even think about it before saying it. That's fine, then let's sign another contract and continue this business, Xiao Chun said. All right, no problem, I'll start raising the money in the next 2 days. Tianli's company didn't earn much after becoming the agent of Miracle Dr. Guan's company, but the cash flow was still very strong. When Lin Yi was treating Jianghu, it was hard for House Lu to gather 100 million, but now 500 million wasn't a problem at all. Although most of it was from Miracle Dr. Guan's company, they could still use it once in a while. After all, Lin Yi trusted House Lu a lot. He never checked the accounts or anything like that, so Tianli still had a lot of room to maneuver. The contract is still the same as last time, just changing the numbers, Chui Mianshi said as he took out a contract from his bag and passed it to Tianli. Tianli nodded and looked at the contract. It was the same as last time, but the investment amount wasn't confirmed yet. No problem, I'll sign it now and help you raise the money. Tianli nodded and looked at the contract briefly. Since they had worked together many times, Tianli didn't suspect anything and signed the contract right away. In the next few days, Tianli started to raise money for Xiao Chun. He used the money from the company to buy the medicine for Miracle Dr. Guan's company and some of the money from the customers, and transferred it to Mr. Lang's account. With cigarettes, Tianli's life in the future would be very comfortable. He would smoke every day, fantasizing that the 500 million would turn into 1 billion. If that happened, who would doubt his ability to expand? However, in less than 2 days, Xiao Chun called him again. Mr. Lu, it's me, Xiao Chun said. Mr. Lang, what's up? How's the organization of our goods? Tianli asked. The goods are pretty much organized, but there's something else I want to discuss with you. We're going to do it, how about a big one? Xiao Chun asked. A big one? What do you mean? How did you make it big? Tianli paused. How about this, I'll go with Chui and we'll talk about it in your company. Xiao Chun said. All right, I'll wait for Mr. Lang's arrival at the company, Tianli said quickly. This time, Xiao Chun and Chui Mianshi came very quickly. Less than 20 minutes after hanging up, they arrived at Tianli's company's guest room. Chapter 5980. Yu. Qibing didn't think that Yui would be so stubborn. No matter what he said, he'd be so cold and indifferent. He had no choice but to say, fine, I'll leave then. If you don't want to listen, then don't listen. Yui snorted coldly and answered Qibing's question. Qibing had no choice but to turn around and get in the car. He said to Qikuan, "You drive, my head is broken." "Serves you right, who told you to be a busybody?" Qikuan said sarcastically as he got in the driver's seat, started the car and left quickly. "Mr. Yui, why did you help me?" Sning. Lin Yi was injured, but it wasn't to the point where he couldn't speak. With curiosity, Lin Yi asked. But Yui didn't give Lin Yi any answer. He turned around and left. Yui's sudden arrival, help, and abrupt departure confused Lin Yi. But, among the people present, there was one person who understood why Yui would help, and that person was Yushu. But Yushu couldn't reveal anything. She squatted down and held Lin Yi's hand. "Shield bro, how are you?" "Yeah Lin Yi, how did you get hurt like this?" "I'll carry you back to your room to heal," Meng Yao said quickly. "Okay." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Even if he went back to his room he wouldn't be able to heal. He couldn't use the arts, so how could he heal? Even with General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig, the two spirit beasts from the same sect, Lin Yi couldn't get pure energy from them with his practitioner's arts suppressed. It was a dead end. If Qibing hadn't suggested breaking Lin Yi's Dantian, Lin Yi could have used the Qi Gathering Pill to level up and break through to Sky Class, then he could have used the Art of Dragon Mastery to heal his meridians. Even if he didn't have the pill he could use General Weiwu or Skybolt Pig to recover, but Qibing had messed up Lin Yi's plans. One had to admit that Qibing was quite the schemer, putting Lin Yi in a very difficult position. Meng Yao and Yushu carried Lin Yi back to his room helpless. But Lin Yi smiled and comforted. "Shu, why are you wearing the mid-level golden cicada underwear?" Lin Yi remembered that he had put away the mid-level golden cicada underwear after coming back from the Sky Elixir sect. He didn't think that Shu would have taken it out. Luckily she wore it or he wouldn't have been able to take that punch from Qibing. Although Yui had stopped Qibing, it had to be said that the mid-level golden cicada underwear played a decisive role. As for Yui's appearance, although Lin Yi didn't understand, he was grateful. If it wasn't for him, Qibing would have turned his target to Meng Yao. Yushu had the mid-level golden cicada underwear, but Meng Yao didn't. If Qibing really hit Meng Yao, the consequences would have been unimaginable. "I don't know. She thought it was fun, so I put it on. I didn't think that Prophet Shu was this good." Yushu didn't know that Lin Yi couldn't recover, so her tone was relaxed. There wasn't a trace of sadness. "I see." Lin Yi suddenly remembered that Yushu told him to be careful before he went to the Hidden House Zhao's banquet. He didn't think much of it, but now it seemed that Yushu's prophecy ability was really... At that thought, Lin Yi regretted trusting Qikuan too much. After all, even Qikuan could make mistakes sometimes. But this time, Elder Zhao was willing to sacrifice 200 million to join Lin Yi's side. Lin Yi really didn't expect him to play tricks like this. "Shield bro, I'll be leaving with Yao Yao first. You can heal yourself first. You can tell us what happened today after you're healed," Yushu said. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded. Yushu was about to pull Meng Yao away when Meng Yao stopped in her tracks. "Wait. What's wrong, Yao Yao?" Yushu blinked. Meng Yao turned around and looked at Lin Yi. "Wait Lin Yi, are you hiding something from us? Your injuries, are they serious?" The miss was very clever. Other than the time he resigned, when Lin Yi was injured he always recovered quickly. Even if he couldn't fully recover, Lin Yi's broken arms and legs would recover. But Lin Yi had been home for a while now, and his injuries didn't seem to be recovering at all. Plus, Lin Yi didn't ask for General Weiwu or Skybolt Pig to come. This made Meng Yao suspicious. Lin Yi's injuries might be more serious than she thought. "Oh yeah." Yushu reacted as well, frowning. "Shield bro, what's going on?" Seeing the miss in Shu's expressions, Lin Yi knew that he couldn't hide it anymore. They were starting to get suspicious. Lin Yi could only tell them the truth. "That's right, this time it's more serious than I thought. I'm temporarily crippled." Lin Yi didn't hide anything from these two girls who were closest to him. Lin Yi knew that even if House Zhao could lie to him, Meng Yao and Yushu wouldn't. So Lin Yi told them what happened today. When Meng Yao and Yushu heard that Lin Yi was poisoned, they were shocked and uneasy. Even Lin Yi couldn't cure the poison, what could they do? Besides, Lin Yi's Dantian was broken, and no medicine would work on him. It was the same as walking on the road to death. "Don't worry, it's serious, but it might not be as bad as you think. Maybe there's a solution." Lin Yi saw their sad expressions and smiled. "Do me a favor, call Guan Xueming, Professor Guan, and then call Boss Bai and Mr. Bai. Tell them to come to the villa and think of a solution. With Grandpa Guan's medical skills, the wounds on my body won't be a problem for him. It might take a while to recover, but it'll be fine. As for the meridians and Dantian, I'll need Mr. Bai's help. There's almost no hope of curing the poison. I can't get the food from Zhao Qibing and I can't analyze it." Yeah, I didn't think that Zhao Qikuan would betray us too. Meng Yao complained, if it weren't for him, you wouldn't have gone to the banquet. Chapter 5981. Qian Puguang's words were meant to mock the Blood Cloak ancestor. However, he hadn't expected that the Blood Cloak ancestor would nod his head and say, that's right. The Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect does have a strong background and a strong backer. Of course, we are not afraid that someone will come to seek revenge. Qian Puguang was slightly stunned and then laughed even harder. Did you hear that? These three old guys said that they have a backer and a strong background? Haha, I say, have you heard that the Blood Cloak Underworld sect has a strong backer? No. Dongfang Bideo simply shook his head. What about our friends from the Everyday and Everyday sect? You are one of the oldest ancient sections. Have you heard of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect's backer? Qian Puguang turned to look at Pure Yang Heavenly Venerate and continued to ask. No. Pure Yang Heavenly Venerate also shook his head. Haha, Blood Cloak ancestor, you are really funny. At this time you still want to lie to us. Do you think that we are stupid and believe that Lin Yi can fight people of a higher level? Do you think we will believe it a second time? Qian Puguang said mockingly, since you have a backer we won't kill you first. We'll give you a chance to ask for a backer. Call your backer out and we'll talk to him. Let's see what kind of idiot dares to be your backer. Okay, that's fine. The blood-clothed ancestor nodded seriously. Then he said nothing more. After listening to Blood Cloak ancestor's words, Qian Puguang was stunned, but he still waited patiently for the next part. However, after waiting for a long time, Blood Cloak ancestor did not continue to say anything, so he asked impatiently, where is he? Your backer? Why aren't you moving? He is far away but close at hand. Blood Cloak ancestor made an introduction gesture and pointed at Lin Dongfang. At this moment, Lin Dongfang was sitting with his back to the people, so these people had been in for so long and directly ignored him. What? Qian Puguang's eyes widened and then he laughed until he was out of breath. Aha, I say, are you guys serious? You randomly found a village man and told me that he is your backer? Don't tell me this old farmer is your backer? Yes. Blood Cloak ancestor nodded and said, Mr. Dongfang is the boss behind the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Cough cough cough. Qian Puguang almost burst out laughing. Mr. Dongfang? Don't tell me he's from the Dongfang family? The head of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Bideo, is here. Oh no, his name is Dongfang. As for his surname, you don't deserve to know. Ancestor Blood-Clothed said faintly. Lin Dongfang had never publicly revealed his name in the ancient times. Only a few people who were close to him knew his name. Really? Mr. Dongfang, then stand up and show us why you dare to be the backer of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Since you are the boss behind the scenes, we will let you pay for this. Qian Puguang still did not believe that Lin Dongfang was the backer and the boss behind the scenes of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. The reason was very simple. In his opinion, the old farmer was a temporary scapegoat found by the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Perhaps Ancestor Blood-Clothed and the others were delusional enough to push this person out so that they could be killed by Qian Puguang and the others so that they could avoid their punishment. Humph, they underestimated the intelligence of Qian Puguang and the others. Well, since you all want to talk to me, then I will talk to you. Lin Dongfang smiled slightly and stood up from his seat. At this moment, the laziness of a village doctor was gone. Instead, it was replaced by a kind of domineering and indifference of a superior. Hearing old Lin's pretentious words, Qian Puguang laughed again. Behind him, the people who came with him were basically thinking that the old farmer was a scapegoat found by the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. However, the old farmer did not know that he was about to die. Lin Dongfang stood up and slowly turned around. His bright eyes stared at the people who came to the grocery store. There were new faces and old faces. For a moment he was filled with emotions. You are. The first person who recognized Lin Dongfang was actually Zhong Pingliang. But it was no wonder. How could he forget the person who killed him with one punch? What a terrifying memory it was. The Mad Dragon ancestor, a peak late-stage heaven-class great perfection expert, was actually killed with one punch? Who would believe it? However, this had really happened and existed more than a decade ago. During the years in the tomb, the person in front of him was the Mad Dragon ancestor's nightmare. Even after the Mad Dragon ancestor came back to life with Zhong Pingliang's body, the person in front of him was one of the people he didn't want to see the most in his life. Yes, it was too tragic. Zhong Pingliang looked at the person in front of him and didn't even have the slightest intention to fight back. This was the absolute difference in strength, an insurmountable moat. It was different from the grudge between him and Lin Yi. Zhong Pingliang and Lin Yi, no matter what, had the same starting line. They were both high school classmates. He felt that he had the ability to kill Lin Yi, but this person in front of him, Zhong Pingliang, felt that even if he trained for 100 years, it would be a waste. Even if he really ascended to Heavenly Tao, he probably wouldn't be this person's opponent. After all, this person was said to be a Heavenly Tao master 10 years ago, or maybe even higher. Lin Dongfang looked at Zhong Pingliang suspiciously. He didn't know this person, nor had he seen him before, but he did see the person next to Zhong Pingliang. Guangyo, right? I haven't seen you for more than a decade. What are you doing here? Lin Dongfang smiled at Guangyo Ancestor and asked. Guangyo Ancestor broke out in a cold sweat. He also recognized who this person was. Wasn't this one of the killer Vajra? Why was he here? Didn't he disappear? Did he bring a group of people to Heavenly Tao? But no matter how Lin Dongfang appeared here, Guangyo Ancestor was trembling in fear, but he didn't dare to ignore Lin Dongfang's question. He had no choice, his mind raced. Guangyo Ancestor suddenly saw the bucket of soy sauce in the grocery store and was overjoyed. He quickly said, Mr. Dongfang, I'm here to buy soy sauce. Chapter 5982. The reaction of the Mad Bull Patriarch made the people present stunned, and his performance finally made Dongfang Badeo and another elder of the Black Horse Club, who was silent all the way and did not say a word, recognize Lin Dongfang. Of course, it was not that they didn't want to recognize him before, but they didn't dare to recognize him. After all, there were too many similar people in this world. They didn't want the person in front of them to be that person. If the person in front of them was that person, then he was the behind-the-scenes boss of the Bloodshirt Underworld sect. Then what revenge could they take? It was good enough to go back. This little friend, do we know each other? Lin Dongfang looked at Zhong Pingliang and asked with some doubts. Among them, in addition to Zhong Pingliang, Chen Buoguang of the Black Horse Club, and the Pure Yang Tianzuan of the Day and Everyday sect, he had an impression of the others. He had seen them more than 10 years ago. Zhong Pingliang said the word I 3 times, and he was so scared that his legs went soft and his eyes went black. He fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth, and fainted. He was scared and fainted. Lin Dongfang was stunned. He had never seen the little friend in front of him, but this person fainted directly, which made Lin Dongfang very puzzled. Let's go out and talk. Lin Dongfang didn't want to expose his identity in the village, which was not in line with his purpose of living in seclusion, so he didn't wait for anyone to speak, and took the lead to go out of the grocery store, and the Bloodshirt Ancestor, the Yellow Spring Ancestor, and the Insin Ancestor followed him out of the grocery store. The Mad Bull Ancestor looked at Zhong Pingliang, who fainted on the ground, but he wouldn't laugh at him. After all, the big brother, the Mad Dragon Ancestor, died under the fist of this person. It was inevitable that he would be scared when he saw the person who sent him to heaven again. Picking up Zhong Pingliang, the Mad Dragon Ancestor took the lead to go out of the grocery store. Although the Pure Yang Tianzuan had never talked to Lin Dongfang in the past, he had seen this person's appearance and ruthlessness from a distance, so he was also scared at this time. Seeing the Mad Bull Ancestor go out, he quickly followed. The remaining Dongfang Badeo and the elder of the Black Horse Club also followed out of the grocery store. The president of the Black Horse Club, Chen Buoguang, was very inexplicable at the moment. What was wrong with these people? Why didn't he say anything when he saw an old farmer from the mountains? Could it be that this old farmer was an expert? But even if this old farmer is a peak late-stage heaven rank expert, is there a need to be so afraid? Including this old farmer, the Bloodcloth Yellow Spring sect only had 3 peak late-stage perfect experts and 1 peak late-stage perfect expert. On their side, they had 4 peak late-stage perfect experts and 1 peak late-stage perfect expert. The advantage was very obvious. However, since everyone had left, Chen Buoguang could only be the last to leave the grocery store with doubts in his mind. Only Widow Wang, who had sold a bottle of soy sauce at a sky-high price, was left behind. She looked at the group of people leaving in confusion. Just now, Ancestral Master Wild Bull had bought a bottle of soy sauce and had given her 100 yuan. Widow Wang was stunned for a long time. When she came to her senses, these people had already left. Widow Wang felt that they were filming a TV show. What kind of sect was this? Was this a martial arts movie? After all, these things were too far away for a rural woman like her. She had never thought that these things were real, so she just threw them to the back of her mind. In her opinion, old Lin was probably a guest actor. Otherwise, how could he scold these people with just a few words and make them so scared that they didn't dare to speak? This must have been planned in advance in the script. Otherwise, how could a village doctor have such great ability? Thinking about how she had sold a bottle of soy sauce, she wondered if she would have a chance to appear on TV. If there were really scenes of her on TV, then she would be famous. Thinking of this, Widow Wang suddenly became proud. She hummed a little tune and kept the 100 yuan. Of course she was really ignorant. There wasn't even a cameraman here. How could it be a TV show? But she didn't have much experience, so how would she know these things? Therefore she was prepared to see old Lin again and ask him when the TV show would be aired. Lin Dongfang took the lead and walked in front. His pace was very fast. Although he wasn't a practitioner, his speed wasn't slow. Very soon he arrived at West Star Mountain, not far from the fountain. Lin Dongfang came here with a plan. After all, there were so many people, and with his current stamina he couldn't beat all of them. At most he could beat 2 or 3, but after that he would have to drink the fountain water to replenish himself. Otherwise his body would be abnormally weak like air Gooden. At that time his weakness would be exposed. So this fountain water was used to save his life. Since there was no one else here, Lin Dongfang decided to be frank. He looked at the people behind him and said, "The 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect are my servants. What they do is also tacitly approved by me. If you have any opinions you can tell me." At this time, Pinliang had finally woken up after the long journey of Master Kuangyo, but after hearing Lin Dongfang's words, he almost fainted again. He quickly said, no objections, haha, how could we have any objections? Haha, why didn't you say so earlier? Bloody Shirt, Yellow Spring In Sen, you're all Mr. Dongfang's servants. Then can you take me as a servant too? Haha, little brother is fine too. I don't have any plans to take in little brothers yet. Lin Dongfang looked at Pinliang, his expression becoming more and more strange. Who was this person? Where did he come from? Pinliang's words echoed in the ears of most of the people present. It was no wonder that these people had witnessed Lin Dongfang's power in the past, but there were a few who didn't know who Lin Dongfang was. This was the leader of the Black Horse Gang, Chen Buguang. Back then he wasn't the leader of the Black Horse Gang yet. He was just a normal elder on a mission outside, so he wasn't afraid of Lin Dongfang at all. Pinliang might be scared shitless and wanted to be Lin Dongfang's servant, but in Chen Buguang's eyes, Pinliang was just a strategist, a normal earth class. It wasn't surprising that he was timid. What's wrong with you guys? Who is this old thing? Didn't we agree to kill the gloomy elder together now? Chen Buguang started panicking when he saw that no one was moving. Chapter 5983. Previously, the Murloc had expected to write about 200 chapters for the Heaven Stage Island part. However, the Murloc had done a reader survey and voted on the pages. According to the results, many readers wanted to write more about the Heaven Stage Island and Yanhuang Star parts. Therefore, the Murloc had changed the plan for the School Bells fans and would write about this part of the plot in detail. To be honest, the subscription for the new book was better than the School Bells, but the Murloc would work hard to write for the School Bells fans. Before the end, it would not be less than 2 chapters a day. The Murloc would give the School Bell a perfect and wonderful ending of the trilogy. Li Boyang Boss would end. The 3rd chapter had always been the Murloc's promise. It would be restored when they landed on the Heaven Stage Island. There were 150,000 manuscripts for the Heaven Stage Island part, which was enough to deal with accidents when they could not write. Regarding this part of the transition, the Murloc had written a part of the Secular World manuscript in the first month of the year. He planned to deal with things that could not be updated after the little Murloc was born, but at that time, there were many holes that he did not think of. After all, the book was too long and the Murloc was not a computer. He ignored some things. As a result, when he saw a hole that was not filled in by a reader, the Murloc realized that many parts of the manuscript had to be rewritten. Filling in the holes was much more time-consuming than developing the plot, so the speed could not be sped up. Chapter 5984. Everyone please follow the Fishman's public Weibo, account Urine22. After everyone adds him, you can chat with the Fishman. If you have any suggestions, you can leave a message for the Fishman, and the Fishman will choose the best and adopt them. Also, regarding the latest updates of the School Bell as well as the School Bell's manga, movies and game adaptations, we will inform everyone immediately through Weibo. There will be exclusive manga characters to share. If everyone has any suggestions for the plot, they can all bring them up on Weibo. There were too many random posts on the forum, and although the Fishman would come to read them regularly, it was inevitable that there would be a lot of suggestions that couldn't be seen. Weibo was still very convenient. Let me tell everyone a secret. After a period of time, the Fishman might even choose readers with good suggestions and send them signed books. Chapter 3650 Failure? Translator, Ryuxinji Editor. H2-2 Mr. Although he had never encountered such a problem in the past, the foundation-breaking pill this time was a real 4th-grade pill. Who knew what kind of accidents could happen? Carrying this kind of apprehension, Lin Yi continued on nervously for another 2 hours. Luckily, although the cauldron kept humming, no other accidents happened. This made Lin Yi tremble with fear, and reluctantly let out a sigh of relief. Finally, accompanied by a final humming sound that was even clearer and clearer than before, this time's pill refinement finally came to an end. At this point, even Lin Yi, who was used to staying calm in the face of danger, was sweating profusely from the shock. The first 2 hours were still alright, everything was under control, but the last 2 hours were really too king torturous. If it was a person with a weak mind, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. After calming himself down and stabilizing his breathing, Lin Yi then stood up and opened the godly pesticide cauldron in front of him. The moment the lid was opened, a thick medicinal fragrance instantly spread throughout the jade pendant space. Lin Yi only had to take a sniff and he immediately felt refreshed and relaxed. Looking at the signs, it should be a success, right? Lin Yi looked into the cauldron expectantly, and after carefully rummaging for a moment, he was suddenly stunned. Turning to look at the display on the tablet, Lin Yi finally understood, F***CK. No wonder it had been behaving so strangely since 2 hours ago. No wonder he almost became mentally ill. So this was the source of all the abnormalities. At this moment, at the entrance of the 14th cave at the foot of the mountain, senior brother Kubai was waiting anxiously. If Lin Yi was only worried about the last 2 hours, then senior brother Kubai had been nervous for the whole night. After all, whether or not Lin Yi could refine the foundation-breaking pill was directly related to whether or not he could shoulder Lu Bianren's entrustment in the future. When facing Meng Jueguang, a bitter senior brother in the early stage of foundation building and a bitter senior brother in the peak of the early stage of foundation building had completely different meanings. The foundation establishment barrier-breaking pill was senior martial brother's only hope for a breakthrough. If Lin Yi was unable to successfully refine it, then his hope would be reduced to a bubble. Apart from Lin Yi, if he wanted to refine pills, he could only look for the Dan Hall. Even if Lin Yi had given him 30 pieces of spiritual jades last night, in addition to the spiritual jades he had accumulated, it was still far from enough for the 200 spiritual jades required by the Dan Hall. Not to mention that even if 200 spirit jades were gathered, the pill hall's pill masters might not be able to refine it successfully. While waiting anxiously, seeing that the sky was bright, the bitter senior martial brother was pondering whether he should go to the Spirit Jade Hall to ask for a day's leave for Lin Yi, when the door to the number 14 Immortals cave at the foot of the mountain finally opened and Lin Yi walked out. Senior brother Ku, you didn't stay here all night, did you? Lin Yi asked in surprise when he saw senior brother Ku waiting at the door. Hey, I'm just nervous. Anyway, I can't rest when I go back, so I might as well wait here. Senior brother Ku smiled awkwardly and then said nervously, How is it? Did you succeed? It was rare for senior brother Bitter to be so nervous. Lin Yi couldn't help but shake his head and laugh, causing the senior brother's heart to instantly constrict when he saw this, and he stammered, You failed? But it's nothing much, it's just a dozen or so spiritual jades. Senior apprentice brother thought about it bitterly. If he failed, he would at most lose some materials. It was really nothing much. Lin Yi didn't say anything. He stretched out his hand and 2 snow-white pills appeared on his palm. The fragrance of the pills was overwhelming, and their shape was the well-known foundation-breaking pill. Gulp. Senior martial brother Kubai swallowed a mouthful of saliva. At first he was in disbelief, but after confirming it he was overjoyed and said, You actually succeeded? Junior brother Lin, you're really something. No wonder even senior brother Lu praised you for hiding your strength. To be honest, although he was hoping that Lin Yi would succeed, senior martial brother Kubai still felt that Lin Yi might not be able to compare to the elixir refiners from the pill hall. After all, those people were the mainstream of the north, and while Lin Yi was also a refiner, he came from the common world, he wasn't on the same level as these people. If the success rate of these refiners from the north was so low, then the success rate of Lin Yi, a common world refiner, would be even lower. He didn't think that in just one night Lin Yi would be able to take out 2 foundation-breaking pills at once. It was like a dream. It wasn't that senior martial brother Kubai looked down on the common world of practitioners, but it was the truth. In terms of foundation, the common world of practitioners was on a completely different level from Sky Class Island, and elixir refinement was precisely where foundation was needed the most. According to what senior martial brother Kubai knew, in the common world of practitioners, there was only one person who could look down on the local refiners of Sky Class Island, the miracle doctor, Zhang Liju. What he didn't know, however, was that the Lin Yi standing in front of him right now was Zhang Liju's disciple. Lin Yi grinned and handed the 2 elixirs to Kubai Shixiang. 2 barrier-breaking elixirs. This should be enough to ensure that you can break through the barrier. Unexpectedly, Senior Marshal Brother Kubai only took one and said gratefully, "One is enough for me, you can keep the rest for yourself, you'll need to use it sooner or later." Seeing that Lin Yi still wanted to reject, Senior Marshal Brother Kubai quickly said, "If it was someone else from the pill hall, if they successfully made 2 pills at once, not only would they have to keep one, but I'd also have to pay 200 spirit jades in advance. I'm already getting a huge advantage from this. So please don't reject me, Junior Marshal Brother Lin, otherwise I won't be able to rest easy." "Ah, Senior Marshal Brother Kubai, when did I tell you that I only made 2 foundation-breaking pills?" Lin Yi asked with a smile. More than 2? Could it be 3? Senior Marshal Brother Kubai's brain stopped working. He only provided 3 sets of ingredients, and Lin Yi successfully made 3 foundation-breaking pills in one go. Didn't that mean that he had a 100% success rate? Even if Lin Yi said that using waste jades could increase the success rate, wasn't that too much of an exaggeration? If this were to spread, those so-called refiners from the pill hall would be embarrassed to death. At this point, Senior Marshal Brother Kubai, who was overjoyed, didn't even realize that the 2 foundation-breaking pills that Lin Yi gave him had rings of pill halo. Even if it was the same type of pill, there was a world of difference between those with pill halo and those without. Chapter 5985. Everyone, please follow the Fishman's official Weibo, account Urine22. Once you've added him, you can chat with the Fishman. If you have any suggestions, you can leave a message and the Fishman will choose the best ones. Also, the latest updates on the School Bell as well as the School Bell's manga, movies and game adaptations will be updated through Weibo. There will be exclusive manga characters to share. If you have any suggestions for the plot, you can post them on Weibo. There were too many posts on the forum, and although the Fishman would visit regularly, it was inevitable that there would be many suggestions that couldn't be seen. Weibo was still very convenient. Let me tell you a secret. After a period of time, the Fishman might even choose readers with good suggestions and send them signed books. Chapter 3654, Big Trouble. Translator, Ryuxinji Editor. H2-2 Mr. Before he could finish, Meng Jueguang gave him a tight slap as he scolded. "You're the pervert. If you want to find a pervert, go find him. Why did you come to my room? You idiot, do you know what kind of background this guy has? You even want to eat him? You really don't know how to write, pervert." "Fuck. Ninth cousin, we can talk it out, don't hit me." Meng Tong was instantly confused as he was chased around the room by Meng Jueguang, and almost suffered internal injuries. After a brief moment, Meng Jueguang watched as Meng Tong was beaten into a miserable state. Only then did Meng Jueguang's anger subside slightly. Looking at the curly bear cub sprawled on the ground, he unhappily scolded. "It's fortunate that I returned in time. If not, this little thing would have really been raped by you. You and I would have had to F***ck the wilderness, and not one of us would have had a good time. It's not that bad, right? Isn't it just a curly bear cub?" Meng Tong looked at Meng Jueguang with a bitter expression. "Just a curly bear cub?" Meng Jueguang was instantly enraged as he snarled. "I'll be dragged down by a fool like you sooner or later. Do you know who its owner is? Its owner is called Lon. Mary Lon. Who is that?" Meng Tong was still confused. Meng Jueguang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. He sighed with lingering fear and said, "You don't know about Lon Er's virginity, but you should know about her virginity. Soaring Sky Pavilion Master, please go to the heavens." Meng Tong was scared out of his wits. Unlike ordinary newbies like Lin Yi, Meng Tong was close to Meng Jueguang, so he often heard the names of these upper-class people mentioned by Meng Jueguang. The master of Shangguotian Pavilion was one of the top 3 big shots in the whole North Island. This thing turns out to be the spirituality pet of the granddaughter of Shangguotian Pavilion? After figuring this out, Meng Tong immediately felt that his life was bleak. His life was about to come to an end. He even wanted to eat the spirituality pet of the granddaughter of Shangguotian Pavilion Master. Even if he wanted to find a lover, he shouldn't do it like this. What do you think? You idiot, why don't you use your brain? If this thing didn't have such a background, if the guards didn't turn a blind eye to it, how could it sneak into Lingyu Hall with its little strength? Do you think everyone is like you? Meng Jueguang rolled his eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that this fellow was his relative, Meng Jueguang would have already arrested Meng Tong. If this matter was made known to Lan Er, who was the beloved daughter of the Soaring Sky Pavilion's Pavilion Lord, then he wouldn't know what to do. Then what do we do now? Meng Tong's face was pale as he stammered. Luckily this thing hasn't been nailed by you. Didn't you say that it fainted on its own? Then it shouldn't be injured. Let's just throw it out and pretend nothing happened. Meng Jueguang took a deep breath. In the end, Meng Tong buried his head even lower and said weakly, "It wasn't injured at first, but it woke up halfway and wanted to escape. Then I kicked it, F***ck. Meng Jueguang was speechless. After checking the little guy's weak breath, he even had the thought of killing Meng Tong. What kind of a rented teammate is this? Meng Jueguang unconsciously pressed on the chest of the curly bear cub. As a result, the little guy started to foam at the mouth. Meng Jueguang was shocked and became even angrier. Are you F***king sick? To deal with such a small thing, is there a need to use such a strong hand? This can't be blamed on me. I didn't use much strength. It was just a light kick. Who knew that a spirit beast would be so weak? Meng Tong scratched his head innocently. Actually, his kick was quite heavy. He was afraid that this little thing would continue to make a noise and attract people outside. That would be troublesome. In the end, with this kick, it was even more troublesome now. Looking at the clear footprint on the curly bear cub's chest, even Meng Tong couldn't help but panic. He rolled his eyes and said hurriedly, "Why don't we throw it out? No one will know that I kicked it anyway." You're a fool. Do you think that everyone else is a fool like you? When Meng Jueguang heard that, he scolded him to his face and said with disdain, "After people find this footprint, won't they find someone to compare it with? Let me tell you, with the personality of the young miss, even if she turns the entire Spirit Jade Hall upside down, she will definitely find the culprit who harmed her spirit pet. When that time comes, just wait for her to be punished." Then what should we do? Meng Tong was so frightened by these words that he wanted to cry but had no tears. He said helplessly, "Why don't we secretly throw it out? There shouldn't be anyone who can find it in the wilderness, right?" Originally, it would have been a more reliable solution to directly F***ck this little thing and eat it. After all, even if people wanted to investigate, they might not be able to find out that it was Meng Tong. But now that he knew the terrifying background of this little thing, how would Meng Tong dare to have such rebellious thoughts? Not to mention eating it, even looking at it now made him shudder with fear. At this moment, the only thing he wanted to F***ck was to throw it as far as possible. It would be best if he threw it 108,000 miles away, and never to see it again in this lifetime. Meng Jueguang looked at him with a hopeless expression. Throw it in the wilderness? Do you think you can escape like that? The young miss of the old miss can mobilize hundreds and thousands of experts with just a word. Even searching the entire northern island of Heaven Stage Island is a piece of cake. Moreover, how do you know that she doesn't have any special methods to find spirit pets? Then what should we do? The footprint on its chest won't disappear for a while. We don't have any methods to shift the blame to others, right? Ninth cousin brother, you can't just leave it at the sight of it. Meng Tong said with a sullen face. He was really scared this time. If he could escape this calamity, it would probably leave a shadow in his heart for the rest of his life, and he would never dare to eat spirit beasts again. Shift the blame to others? Meng Jueguang's eyes lit up when he heard this. He slapped his thigh and said, "That's a good idea. Can this work?" Meng Tong half believed and half doubted. Ninth cousin brother, the shoes on my feet were issued by the Welcoming Newcomer Pavilion. They can casually compare the shoe print and know that it was made by a newcomer from the Welcoming Newcomer Pavilion. When the time comes, they can call all the newcomers to compare it. Won't we still be unable to escape? Saying you're an idiot isn't an insult at all. Meng Jueguang unhappily gave Meng Tong a slap on the head and analyzed. Even if the young miss of the old miss knows that it was made by a newcomer from the Welcoming Newcomer Pavilion through the shoe print, there are so many newcomers. It's not like there aren't people with similar shoe size to you. As long as we create a preconceived false impression, when the time comes, who will suspect you? What a fool. To be continued. If you like this work, I welcome you to come to Starting Point and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. For mobile users, please go to M. to read. Chapter 5986. Everyone, please follow the Fishman's public Weibo account Urine22. After everyone has added him, you can chat with the Fishman. If you have any suggestions, you can leave a message for the Fishman, and the Fishman will choose and adopt them. In addition, regarding the latest updates of the School Bell as well as the School Bell's manga, movie, and game adaptations, we will inform everyone first through Weibo. There will be exclusive manga character images to share. If everyone has any suggestions for the plot, you can bring them up on Weibo. There were too many random posts on the forum, and although the Fishman would come to browse through them regularly, it was inevitable that there would be many suggestions that couldn't be seen. Weibo was still very convenient. Let me tell everyone a secret. After a period of time, The fishman might even choose readers with good suggestions and send them signed books. Chapter 3657. What did you say? All the girls around her were fawning over her, and all the boys were chasing after her, making it impossible for her to have any especially good friends. Therefore, this curly bear had become the only person she could talk to when she was lonely. She was completely unable to imagine what kind of state and mood she would be in after losing this little fellow in her life. Left without a choice, Shanghai Laner was even prepared to call the Spirit Jade Hall master over and mobilize everyone to turn the entire Spirit Jade Hall upside down, just to find this little fellow. Right at this moment, Meng Jueguang, who had long been looking for an opportunity at the side, came up behind her in a timely manner. Eldest Miss Shangguan, this humble one is the steward of Welcome Pavilion, Meng Jueguang. During the day I saw a little curly bear here, but at that time I didn't dare to confirm that it was your spiritual pet, so I didn't pay much attention to it. Meng Jueguang reported submissively. What? You've seen Xiao Bai? Only now did Shangguan Laner notice Meng Jueguang and hurriedly asked. Where did you see it? Where did it go? Meng Jueguang pretended to recall for a while before saying. At that time, it seemed like it wanted to sneak into the mining area, but before it entered the main entrance, it was discovered by a new disciple. That new disciple didn't say anything and directly kicked it, kicking it half to death before putting it into a bag and taking it away, saying that he wanted to bring it back to the cave abode to roast and eat or something. Roast and eat? When Shanghai Laner heard this, she was so scared that she almost fainted. It took her a while to catch her breath. She gritted her teeth and said, What's the name of the new disciple? Why didn't you stop him? Don't be angry, Miss Shangguan. That new disciple is called Lin Yi. He's a new rogue cultivator from the secular cultivation world. He doesn't have much quality and has always been arrogant and unruly. I couldn't persuade him no matter how hard I tried, but I couldn't do anything to him because of the sect rules, so I could only let him go. Meng Jueguang pretended to be indignant and said, If I had known that it was Mrs. Pet, I would have saved the little curly bear even if I would have been punished by the sect. Linny? Where is he now? Hurry up and bring me there. If Little White loses even half a strand of its hair, this lady will fight him to the death. Shangguan Laner changed from her usual pure and innocent image of a young girl and fiercely bared her teeth. Okay, I'll lead the way for Mississippi. Meng Jueguang couldn't help laughing in his heart. A little girl was a little girl. She was immediately fooled by a little provocation. Meng Jueguang led Shanghai Laner straight to Lin Yi's cave residence. Meng Tong, who had been squatting at the door and staring at Lin Yi, saw the two of them and hurriedly greeted them. Miss, this is the new disciple Meng Tong. He also witnessed what happened during the day. I asked him to come back in advance to keep an eye on Lin Yi because I was afraid that Lin Yi would really roast the little curly bear and eat it. After all, the quality of the rogue cultivators in the secular cultivation world can't be guaranteed. Meng Jueguang introduced Meng Tong and pretended to sigh. Shanghai Laner was not in the mood to listen to his sigh. She hurriedly asked Meng Tong, Is Lin Yi in the cave residence? How's my little white? Is he injured? Meng Tong glanced at Meng Jueguang and said, replying to Miss, Lin Yi has been staying in the cave residence since he came back. As for what happened inside, I can't guarantee. Maybe he has already started eating? Shanghai Laner was frightened by his words. She hurriedly pointed at Meng Jueguang and said, Then what are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and break the door for me. Yes. After Meng Jueguang received the order, he raised his hand and directly broke the forbidden spell of Lin Yi's cave residence. With his strength at the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment, this kind of thing was naturally easy. Little White. Shanghai Laner hurriedly rushed in. Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong looked at each other with a smile as if they had succeeded in their conspiracy, and followed them in. Things had developed to this point. In their opinion, Lin Yi was already dead this time. What a big sin it was to kill Shanghai Laner's spirit pet. Not to mention this welcome pavilion, even in the whole Heaven Stage Island's North Island, he could not have a foothold at all. Maybe they would tie him up and directly hand him over to the Spirit Beast clan of the South Island, making him pay with his life. However, when they saw the scene inside the cave residence, both Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong were instantly shocked. Whoa. That little curly bear who was supposed to be on the verge of death, was hanging on Lin Yi's body, alive and kicking. It didn't look like it was injured at all, and it looked like it was having fun with Lin Yi. What was going on? Little White, are you okay? Shanghai Laner, who had been so scared by Meng Jueguang that she did not dare to open her eyes, finally reacted at this time. The joy on the girl's face could not be concealed, and her hanging heart suddenly fell to the ground. Woo woo. Seeing Shanghai Laner, the small coiled bear immediately jumped down from Lin Yi's body and climbed onto Shanghai Laner's back with its short legs. It was so agile that it was not injured at all. Behind them, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong could not help but look at each other, and Meng Tong even exclaimed in disbelief, "What the hell? How could it be? It looked like it was seriously injured and was about to die, and I didn't know what I did." Duh. Meng Jueguang hurriedly covered his mouth, and Shanghai Laner turned her head and looked at him suspiciously. "What did you say?" "Ugh." Meng Tong really wanted to cut off his tongue at this time. What kind of broken mouth is this? Can this kind of thing be leaked out casually? This is going to kill someone. Fortunately, Meng Jueguang was quick-witted. Seeing that the situation was not good, he hurriedly responded, "Yes. We saw the situation with our own eyes at that time. How can we not know?" "Is that so?" Shangguan Lan looked at the two of them suspiciously, but she didn't take it to heart. At this moment, the most important thing for her was that the little curly bear was fine. Phew. Meng Jueguang breathed a sigh of relief and glared at Meng Tong fiercely. Fortunately, this lady was easy to fool. Otherwise, if the matter was really exposed, even he would be unlucky. As for Meng Tong, he was almost paralyzed on the ground at this time. He covered his mouth tightly and did not dare to make a sound. Shanghai Laner was worried as she picked up the small coiled bear and checked it up and down. Although the little guy was alive and kicking, the big footprint on its chest was still very clear. Thinking of what Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong said before, Shanghai Laner could not help but stare at Lin Yi angrily and said, "Hey, did you kick Xiao Bai's chest?" "No, when I saw it, there was already this footprint on its body." Lin Yi shook his head and denied. Chapter 5987. Everyone, please follow Murloc's official Weibo account Urin22. Once you've added him, you can chat with Murloc. If you have any suggestions, just leave a message and Murloc will choose the best ones. Also, the latest news about the School Beauty as well as the School Beauty's manga, movies and game adaptations will be sent to everyone through Weibo. There will be exclusive manga characters to share. If you have any suggestions for the story, you can post them on Weibo. There were too many random posts on the forum, and while Murloc would check them out regularly, it was inevitable that there would be a lot of suggestions that couldn't be seen. Weibo was still very convenient. Let me tell you a secret. After a while, Murloc might even choose readers with good suggestions and send them signed books. Chapter 3685. Must be broken. Kang Mingming's strength wasn't that great, but Lin Yi wasn't surprised that he was able to get such a high ranking in a tournament like this. After all, Kang Mingming was a refiner, and he was more sensitive to wood elemental herbs than others. With Su Lingchong's help, it would be hard for him not to get first place. Of course, this had nothing to do with Lin Yi, but Lin Yi was glad that Pinliang was able to get into the top 3. After Blaster Pavilion and Mysterious Pavilion were done, it was finally Blue Cloud Pavilion's turn. However, 4 to 5 people reported their scores, and all of them hovered around 200 to 300 points, completely incomparable to the scores of the newcomers from the other 2 pavilions. The 3 elders' satisfied expressions immediately fell. The Soaring Sky Pavilion and Profound Secrets Pavilion's new disciples burst out laughing without restraint, whereas the bald elder sitting in the middle seat frowned slightly, saying, "Have all the new disciples of Clear Cloud Pavilion fallen to this state? Truly rotten wood cannot be carved. Looks like we should make a suggestion to the Elder Council. In the future, Clear Cloud Pavilion no longer needs to recruit new disciples. It's purely a waste of resources." The 2 elders on the side also nodded slightly. No matter what, 4 or 5 people in a row only had 200 or 300 points. This kind of result was really terrible. Based on this trend, it was almost certain that they could break the average score record. It was just that other people were trying to break the upper limit, while this group of trash newcomers from Blue Cloud Pavilion was trying to break the lower limit. Although the scores of the people after him were slightly better, they only hovered around 300 to 400 points. They were still incomparable to the scores of the Soaring Sky Pavilion and Mysterious Pavilion's newcomers. It was only when Meng Jueguang reported Meng Tong's points that everyone present was suddenly shocked. Meng Tong 1,600 points. 1,600 points. What did that mean? It had to be known that even the highest score of the newcomers from the first 2 pavilions was only slightly over 1,200 points. This score was a huge difference. The other 2 pavilions' newcomers were immediately in an uproar. Even the 3 elders sitting at the top were slightly stunned. Moments later, the bald elder nodded and said, "This newcomer is not bad. He's very competitive. He should have snatched quite a number of points from the other newcomers. It can be considered as a fig leaf for Blue Cloud Pavilion. Hearing the bald elder's praise, Meng Tong could not help but proudly raise his chin at Lin Yi, who was at the back of the line. His provocation was obvious. Lin Yi curled his lips with a faint smile, but he did not comment. And after Meng Tong's stunning performance, the other newcomers once again returned to the 300 to 400 point standard. Besides being ridiculed, it also served as a foil to Meng Tong's rarity. Just as the bald elder had said, this newcomer was very competitive. Among the group of trash rookies from Blue Cloud Pavilion, he was like a crane in a flock of chickens. Xiao Ran 1023 points. After seeing Xiao Ran's points, senior brother Ku was clearly overjoyed. This result was much better than what he expected, where they would all be wiped out. As for Meng Jueguang, he was somewhat stunned. After he reacted, he immediately glared at Meng Tong in dissatisfaction. It had to be known that he had spent quite a bit of effort in order to silence Lin Yi and company in the trial. Not only did he prepare a wood elemental sensor for Meng Tong to ensure his first place, he had also specially mobilized the rookies, so that they would listen to Meng Tong's instructions in the trial. Logically speaking, with Meng Tong leading so many people to deal with Lin Yi and company, as long as there were no major problems, it should have been a simple matter to silence Lin Yi and company. But now, before the most crucial Lin Yi's turn, Xiao Ran's side had already burst out with more than 1,000 points, reserving a spot in the top 3 in advance. He can't even handle such a small matter, what a piece of trash. Meng Jueguang turned his head and scolded softly. Ninth cousin, you really can't blame me for this. There's really a reason for this. I'll explain it to you in detail later. Meng Tong scratched his head awkwardly as he defended himself. There's a reason for this? I want to hear what kind of excuse you are using, kid. Meng Jueguang did not believe that with such a huge difference in strength, there was any reason that could explain his failure. However, it was not convenient for him to speak in this situation, so he could only let Meng Tong off for the time being. Afterward, he would settle the score with this fellow who could not do anything but spoil things. Qiao Hongkai, 500 points. Meng Jueguang's face turned even uglier. Although 500 points was not considered high with so many new disciples in the Clear Cloud Pavilion, the average score was around 300 to 400 points, it was considered a rare high score. He no longer held any hope of silencing Lin Yi and company. The only thing he was thankful for was that he had prepared a wood elemental sensor for Meng Tong. At least he would not lose his first place. After all, a high score of 1,600 points was impossible for ordinary rookies to achieve unless they plunder from other rookies or simply cheat. However, when it was finally Lin Yi's turn, Meng Jueguang was dumbfounded when he saw the number displayed on the basket. He could not react for a long time. Oh, Jueguang, why are you standing there in a daze? Hurry up and report it. Hu Yunfeng glared at Meng Jueguang in dissatisfaction. Lin Yi was already the last one. Everyone, including the 3 elders, was waiting. Oh, okay. Meng Jueguang snapped out of his daze and rubbed his eyes in disbelief. When he realized that it was still the same number, he reported in disbelief, Lin Yi 1,800 points. 1,800 points. The audience instantly went crazy. Meng Tong's 1,600 points had already shocked them. They never expected that there would be an even more impressive result. Holy sh*T. How is that possible? Meng Tong, who was confident in his victory, was immediately dumbfounded. He was already prepared to celebrate first place. The idiot Lin Yi had clearly given Xiao Ran and Qiao Hongkai a total of 1,000 points. How could he still have 1,800 points? Ninth cousin must have seen wrongly. It should have been 800 points. However, when he rushed over to take a look, it clearly showed that it was 1,800 points. This basket must be spoiled, right? Meng Tong stammered as he said to the similarly incredulous Meng Jueguang. The 1,000 points that Lin Yi had snatched had all been given to Xiao Ran and Qiao Hongkai. That also meant that his remaining points had been gathered by him personally. After all, Lin Yi was not like Meng Tong, who had a cheating device like the wood elemental sensor. How could he gather a terrifying number like 1,800 points by himself? There was only one possible explanation. It had to be that the basket was spoiled. Chapter 5988. Alright. You're a man, but when the time comes, this stupid pig will be beaten to death. You're asking for it. Meng Tong laughed coldly as if his scheme had succeeded. Among all the Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciples, the last one to arrive was Murong Zhen. None of the new disciples were dissatisfied with this arrangement. After all, women always had their own privileges at times like this. Not to mention Murong Zhen was an alluring and powerful beauty. When they saw the spiritual pet fluttering beside Murong Zhen, everyone's eyes lit up. Even as men, they could not help but sigh at the sight of it. What a dazzling and dreamy butterfly. When it spread its wings, the size of this butterfly could be said to be astonishingly large. Its body was 3 m long and its wings had a wingspan of 15 m. Its dazzling wings were dotted with specks of sparkling and translucent blue light. At first glance, it was like a magnificent screen that would enchant one's heart. "Butterfly Empress, show them how charming you are," Murong Zhen ordered with a proud smile. As soon as she finished speaking, the giant butterfly, which she called the Butterfly Queen, flew into the air. With a slight flap of its wings, blue light scattered down. It was dreamy like a fairy. "Be careful, there's something wrong with these scale pollen," Lin Yi reminded her softly. Then he brought Xiaoran and the rest out of the range of the blue light. However, the other newcomers were not as vigilant as him. They were still immersed in the beauty of the Butterfly Queen, unable to extricate themselves. After a while, Meng Jueguang, who was the strongest among them, finally realized that something was wrong. He suddenly realized that his limbs were not listening to him. During the month that the newcomers were busy subduing the spiritual pets, he had successfully broken through and was now an expert in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. His level was far above everyone else's. As for Murong Zhen's Butterfly Queen, although it looked dazzling and dreamy, its strength was only in the middle stage of the heaven stage. With the disparity between them, logically speaking, it should not affect Meng Jueguang at all. However, at this moment, Meng Jueguang's limbs were indeed numb. Even if he could barely move, it was extremely strenuous and slow. As for the other rookies who were much weaker, they could not move at all. Seeing everyone struggle in vain yet unable to move, Xiaoran, Qiao Hongkai and the rest looked at each other. They looked at Murong Zhen and the Butterfly Queen with fear. This fellow was not to be underestimated. "Murong Zhen, what are you trying to do?" Meng Jueguang felt that he had lost face after being tricked along with the rookies under the watchful eyes of everyone. He immediately berated with a sullen expression. Murong Zhen covered her mouth and giggled after admiring the horrified expressions on the newcomers' faces. "Senior brother Meng, don't worry. This is just a little joke that I'm playing with everyone. The paralysis effect will disappear automatically within 2 hours, and there won't be any side effects. Don't worry everyone." Hearing that, the newcomers heaved a sigh of relief. However, Meng Tong said anxiously, "Then what do we do for 2 hours? We can't move at all. Why are we having a spiritual pet battle?" He had been looking forward to this day for a long time. He was hoping that the Black Rod Ape would go on a rampage and help him raise his morale. In the end, he was paralyzed to the point that he could not even move. What was there to be proud of? Since it's a spiritual pet battle, it's not like you're the one fighting. Does it matter if you can move or not? Murong Zhen looked at him mockingly. She pointed at the surroundings and said, "Didn't you see that your spiritual pets have already escaped? They are not affected, so why can't you have a spiritual pet battle?" Meng Tong was stunned and he was speechless. Regardless of the spiritual pet's abilities, they had long sensed that something was wrong. Just like Lin Yi and company, they quickly retreated to the side. Only their masters were left standing there in a daze. Now that they had been affected, who else could they blame but themselves for being stupid? If someone else were to tease him like that, Meng Jueguang might have taught them a good lesson. It was a way to establish his authority when he was promoted to the position of third pavilion master. However, the other party was Murong Zhen. She was a capable helper that he would have to rely on in the future. Furthermore, he was her guest, so he could only turn a blind eye and pretend to be magnanimous and tolerant. Since Meng Jueguang did not say a word, the other newcomers naturally did not dare to say anything. Although Meng Tong did not have much of a brain, other than drooling over Murong Zhen, he was actually quite afraid of her. Hence, even when the referee arrived, everyone still looked as though they were paralyzed and unable to move. The spiritual pet battle had begun in such a strange atmosphere. As mentioned before, the final points of this spiritual beast assessment were composed of 2 parts. One was the spiritual beast's level, and the other was the spiritual beast's strength. The spiritual beast's level was clear at a glance, and the points could be calculated directly. As for the spiritual beast's strength, it would be won through a single round of elimination battles. It was entirely dependent on the spiritual pet's own performance. Although such a rule setting seemed fair and reasonable at first glance, strictly speaking there were still some drawbacks and shortcomings. After all, not all spiritual pets were combat-type spiritual pets. For example, a spiritual pet like Lin Yi's Sky Thunder Pig was purely trash in terms of combat power. However, Its unique treasure hunting characteristic determined its value to be far beyond that of ordinary combat-type spiritual pets. Just like Li Jingming's ghost tiger, it was an existence with strategic value. Such a strategic spiritual pet, according to the rules of the spiritual pet battle, was almost impossible to obtain high points. This was actually a very unfair thing. However, since the higher-ups had already given such rules, even if it was not fair, there was not much to criticize. Even if one was dissatisfied, one could only hold it in. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. So what if one was a strategic spiritual pet? If one's fist was not as hard as the other person's, then one deserved to be unlucky and cry in one's own grave. Under the supervision of the referee, the newcomers went forward to draw lots to determine their opponents. Apart from Lin Yi and a few others, the others walked like zombies. Fortunately, they could still move, so they did not embarrass themselves. A1. Lin Yi looked at the number on the wooden lot and searched among the crowd. Finally, he locked onto a newcomer and his lips curled into a smile. At the same time, the newcomer looked at Lin Yi's side and held the A2 tag in his hand. This newcomer was the publicly recognized weakest Jianghu. Chapter 5990. 1 second to remember for you to provide high speed. In such a short period of time, they were actually able to deduce and create a martial technique out of thin air. Although it was only a single move, it was a martial technique that was tailor-made for the two of them. Not to mention creating it, ordinary people would not even dare to think about it. However, not only was Lin Yi able to create it out of thin air, this frenzied 8 trigrams combined palm strike did not have the slightest trace of being pieced together at the last minute. Instead, it had a profound foundation. The exquisiteness of it was not inferior to some traditional martial skills that had been passed down for hundreds or even thousands of years. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Huang Xiaotao wouldn't have believed that Lin Yi had created this martial technique in such a short amount of time. Not only could he increase the strength of others, but he could also refine a golden core. Now, he could even create a martial technique. She admired and worshipped Lin Yi even more. At this moment, Huang Xiaotao was truly dumbfounded. There was actually such a powerful person in this world. Even the legendary miracle doctor Zhang Liju couldn't compare to him, right? In fact, she might not even be as good as Lin Yi. After all, the legend of Master Zhang had only been passed down by word of mouth. As for Lin Yi's miracles, she had seen it with her own eyes. For the rest of the time, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao stayed in the cave and practiced the newly created Frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike in seclusion. Although it was a new creation, it was very easy for Lin Yi to master it. Huang Xiaotao was getting better and better at it, and her cooperation with Lin Yi was also getting better and better. When Lin Yi felt that it was almost ready, the two of them tried to launch a move together. Its power was actually comparable to the peak of Gold Core Realm. If it weren't for Lin Yi's deliberate control, the power of this move would even be enough to pierce through the restriction and walls of his cultivation abode. Huang Xiaotao herself was stunned, while Lin Yi nodded his head in satisfaction. He certainly had confidence in the martial arts technique he had created, but in the beginning he only aimed for the power of the late Gold Core Realm. He did not expect that he had underestimated the power of this joint attack. A frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm strike. The power was equivalent to the full blow of a master at the peak of the late stage of the Gold Core Realm, and the two of them were only at the early stage of the Gold Core Realm. Such a martial arts technique was simply heaven-defying. If the two of them could increase their strength a little more, they would truly be invincible in the Golden Core stage. If they went out in the future with Huang Xiaotao, they could directly launch a joint attack on anyone they didn't like. Any Golden Core stage expert would be crippled even if they didn't die. Soaring Sky Pavilion. After returning from Lin Yi's cave abode, Su Lingchong and Meng Tong were not reconciled at all. They did not intend to let Lin Yi off so easily. It was inappropriate for them to continue staying there, so they specifically instructed Murong Zhen to keep an eye on Lin Yi's Immortal's cave. Once she saw Lin Yi or Shangguan Laner coming out, she should immediately report to them. However, the two of them did not expect that they did not have to wait for Murong Zhen's news at all. As soon as they returned to the Soaring Sky Pavilion's territory, they saw Shanghai Laner. The two of them were stunned on the spot and scratched their heads at the same time. What the hell was going on? Why was the woman on Lin Yi's bed not Shangguan Laner? There were only a few female cultivators in the 3 pavilions. Apart from Shanghai Laner, who else would hook up with Lin Yi? When Shanghai Laner saw the two of them, she turned her head in disgust. She pretended not to see them and was about to walk past them. At this time, Su Lingchong suddenly grinned. He took the initiative to walk up to her. Junior Sister Lan, I haven't seen you for a long time. How have you been recently? Su Lingchong greeted her with a smile. It's nothing. Senior brother Su, why are you looking for me? Shanghai Laner's eyelids suddenly twitched. This guy had not bothered her for a long time. Why did he stick to her like a piece of sticky candy today? He was so annoying. As Shanghai Laner spoke, the little curly bear next to her dragged the big scissors from before and swaggered in the direction of Su Lingchong, cutting wildly. Those who were a little timid would probably be frightened by this little guy. Especially Su Lingchong. Last time, it was this giant scissors that cut off his family jewels. Now this scene was simply like sprinkling salt on his wounds. That was not enough. He had to add a little cumin. Even Shangguan was startled by this scene. She didn't expect that the little fellow would dare to provoke her. She quickly stepped forward and shielded it behind her. If Su Lingchong became angry out of humiliation and wanted to kill the little curly bear, she wouldn't be able to stop him with her strength. However, to the great surprise of Shanghai Laner, Su Lingchong was not angry. Instead, he smiled indifferently as if he did not take it to heart at all. If there is something, then there is really something. I think it is necessary to let junior sister Lan know. You should be mentally prepared first. Su Lingchong pretended to be mysterious. Oh? What's the matter? Shanghai Laner frowned and looked at him. She thought to herself, this annoying guy, what tricks does he want to play? I just returned from Lin Yi's abode and I found a woman on his bed. She had even taken off her clothes. Sigh. Su Lingchong pretended to be regretful as he shook his head. But junior sister Lan, don't be anxious. Some men like to fool around as long as they have a bit of strength. It's human nature. Lin Yi is a man as well, and he has needs in this aspect as well. The reason why Su Lingchong deliberately told Shanghai Laner about this matter was none other than to create trouble for Lin Yi. Since the woman in his abode wasn't Shanghai Laner, then he would use this matter to sow discord and let Shanghai Laner cause trouble herself. At that time, Lin Yi would surely be unable to take care of himself, and even if he participated in the inner court competition, his condition would surely be greatly reduced. Truthfully speaking, although Su Lingchong was an intermediate stage Golden Core realm expert now, and he was proud of his success and had made a strong return, but at least he had learned his lesson, and he didn't dare look down on Lin Yi. Now that he was dual cultivating with Meng Tong, he would surely be invincible in a dual fight, and there was no doubt about this. However, if it was a one-on-one fight with Lin Yi, even though he still had the certainty of winning, he still had to be careful. After all, no matter what, Lin Yi had instantly killed Su Xiaohe, who was an intermediate stage Golden Core realm expert, with a single move. Su Xiaohe wasn't a simple figure, and if they were at the same level, Su Lingchong admitted that he might not be able to win for sure. Thus, it could be seen that Lin Yi was similarly extraordinary and he had to be on guard. So, with this opportunity to discuss Lin Yi, Su Lingchong naturally wanted to make use of it. If he was able to make Shanghai Laner fall out with him directly, or even turn them into enemies, then it couldn't be any better. Even if he couldn't do that, he could at least distract Lin Yi, so why not? Really? That's great. Shanghai Laner's reaction greatly exceeded his expectations, and not only did she not have the slightest intention of getting angry, she was instead extremely happy. To be continued? Chapter 5991. Of course, the reason why Shanghai Tianhua dared to say something like that to Wait wasn't purely because he believed in Lin Yi's strength. Even if Lin Yi really didn't have the slightest ability to resist with his strength, wanting to save Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao was merely a matter of a thought, and there wouldn't be any mishaps. However, in the next moment, Shanghai Tianhua was suddenly slightly shocked, as the situation on the stage suddenly changed. Bang! Under the ninth heaven Poison Dragon Whip's shadow that covered the sky and covered the earth, two balls of crimson-red flames suddenly erupted, and the ninth heaven Poison Dragon Whip that Su Lingchong was so proud of was actually broken on the spot. Its power was so shocking that it was simply shocking. Amidst the exclamations of surprise, the crowd of Golden Core stage experts below the stage finally recognized these two balls of crimson-red flames clearly. Shockingly, they were actually two fire palm shadows, one small and one large, and in the middle, there was a vague shape of the 8 trigrams. They split into two directions and whizzed out respectively, the small one striking towards Meng Tong, and the large one going straight for Su Lingchong. At this moment, Su Lingchong and Meng Tong were still immersed in a state of disbelief and astonishment. Before the two of them could react, they heard two bangs accompanied by the muffled sounds of bones breaking. After that, they were like two kites with their strings cut as they were directly thrown off the ring, and they didn't even have the slightest room to retaliate. The frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike that was created at the last minute actually had such a formidable might. The sound of gasping instantly resounded throughout the audience, and everyone looked at each other in dismay, unable to say a word for a long time. Compared to sending the two of them flying with a single move, what was even more shocking was the injuries on their bodies. Meng Tong's situation was still alright, because the main attacker was Huang Xiaotao. Although it was the same frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike that came from the same source, its might was obviously much weaker, so although Meng Tong was in a sorry state, his injuries weren't considered to be too heavy. The one who was truly miserable was Su Lingchong. The frenzy 8 trigrams palm strike that struck his body came from Lin Yi, and in terms of might, it was at least at the peak of the late stage of the foundation establishment stage. Moreover, it was struck right in the chest, and this young Master Su, who was insufferably arrogant after his powerful return, directly fell to the ground at this moment with bulging eyes, and his breathing was more than it was exhaling. Obviously he wasn't going to make it. Charge! Meng Tong instantly roared in grief and indignation when he saw this, and he couldn't care about his own injuries as he frantically rushed to the side of Su Lingchong, who was on the verge of death. At the same time, a figure suddenly followed closely. It was the person in charge of the inner court competition, Su Yuanjing. After Su Yuanjing checked Su Lingchong's condition, he anxiously instructed, "He's still on his last breath. Bring him for treatment." As anxious as he was the host of the inner disciple competition. No matter what, he could not be absent from the competition. Thus, he could only allow Meng Tong to bring him away for the time being. Meng Tong hurriedly nodded. He couldn't be bothered to look at Lin Yi on the stage anymore. Enduring the pain, he picked up Su Lingchong, who was on the ground, and walked out. The 3 great pavilions had specialized infirmaries where doctors gathered. Moreover, no matter who it was, they would try their best to save Su Lingchong on account of Su Yuanjing. Although Su Lingchong's condition was very weak at the moment, he might still have a chance of survival. However, just as he carried Su Lingchong out of the north arena and reached a secluded area, the mysterious man in black suddenly appeared in front of him. After a gust of wind blew, the mysterious man in black, together with Meng Tong and Su Lingchong, disappeared without a trace. At this moment on the arena, after being stunned for a long time, the referee finally announced the victory of Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao. Everyone below the arena looked at Lin Yi with a completely different gaze than before. This Lin Yi is really King amazing. Someone's mouth twitched as he discussed. Nonsense, what kind of eyesight do you have? You only noticed now. I already knew that this human king is amazing. Previously, in the single battle finals, he deliberately admitted defeat. I could tell at a glance. That's right, I reckon that he simply disdains fighting Su Lingchong one-on-one and is preparing to save it for the double battle. It's just nice to settle it at the same time and save time. That seems to be the case. Wait a minute. Didn't the two of you say that before? Didn't you say that Lin Yi can't possibly be Su Lingchong's opponent? Why did it change now? Grandpa, look at junior brother and senior sister Xiaotao, aren't they amazing? Their combined palm strike is an ultimate move that I practiced with them a few days ago. The worry on Shanghai Laner's face had long disappeared completely. While she was happy for Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao, she praised Shanghai Tianhua. Hehe, little Lon, you just went over to watch them practice, right? Shanghai Tianhua teased with a smile. That's still at the same time. There's also my contribution. Shanghai Laner cutely stuck out her tongue. Shanghai Tianhua immediately burst into laughter and lightly patted Shanghai Laner's head. The gaze that he looked at Lin Yi in the distance was obviously a little more appreciative than before. Honestly speaking, even he didn't expect that Lin Yi's counterattack would actually come so swiftly and intensely. He obviously only had the strength of an early-stage gold core cultivator, but he was actually able to kill the insufferably arrogant Su Lingchong with a single move. This kind of performance was really shocking. If it was said that Su Lingchong was just an ordinary middle-stage gold core expert, then it would still be fine. The problem was that he was also an expert of the gold core stage who had a perfect breakthrough. Both of them were experts of the perfect gold core stage. This sudden counterattack of Lin Yi really made everyone understand one thing with his actual action. Even among geniuses there were different levels. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong were originally the pair with the highest chance of winning the double battle. In the end, they were killed by Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao with a single move. The double battle after that simply became the stage for the two of them. No matter what kind of opponent they faced from the beginning to the end, they were killed with a single move. There was no change to speak of. From the beginning to the end, it was the frenzied 8 trigrams palm strike. By the final stage, everyone present could even figure out the moves of the two of them. However, even so, it didn't change the situation at all. It was just the frenzied 8 trigrams palm strike. Even if they could see the moves clearly, so what? From the beginning to the end it was still the same. This was the absolute difference in strength. Along the way, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao gave everyone a good demonstration of what it meant to be an enemy of the gold core stage. There were a few opponents who, when faced with such a tyrannical pair, did not even have the slightest bit of fighting spirit. As soon as they came up, they hurriedly opened their mouths to admit defeat. In any case, the enemies of the Lin Yi pair were obvious to all. Even if they admitted defeat, it wouldn't be shameful. Moreover, they could also avoid getting injured, so there was no need to stubbornly persist. It was worth mentioning that this included the pair of Yu Zhe and Nan Tianba. Even in their dreams, the two of them wanted to step on Lin Yi. However, the situation was stronger than they were. Even Su Lingqiong had been beaten to death. If they still didn't have eyes and came up, wouldn't that be courting death? Chapter 5992. Show_read. However, at this moment, looking at the people on the high platform, feeling their undisguised majestic aura, Lin Yi actually felt the same feeling as when he was in the back mountain hall. Among the more than 30 people on the stage, the masters of the Yuanying stage were only the lowest level of existence. Among them, there were many masters of the profound ascending stage who were above the Yuanying stage. These people came from the same academy. The East Continent was known as the strongest existence on the Heaven Stage Island, and it really lived up to its reputation. There were really hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Lin Yi had been on the Heaven Stage Island for more than a year, and he had seen a lot of super masters, but compared with the masters of the profound ascending stage on the stage, there was still a considerable gap. Among the people he knew and came into contact with, there were only 2.5 people who could really compare with them, or could steadily suppress the other side. One of them was the Will of Heaven. Although his strength was only at the peak of the Yuanying stage, he was like himself, a freak who could easily kill those who were at a higher level. Not long after he recovered from his injury, he easily defeated the Southern Sky Aurora in the early stage of the profound ascending stage. He could not be judged by common sense. Even among the masters of the profound ascending stage, he should be quite a powerful existence. The other one was the master of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, Shanghai Tianhua, the top boss of the 3 pavilions in the North Island. Although Lin Yi had never seen him fight or even seen him show his aura, his intuition told Lin Yi that with the strength of Shanghai Tianhua, even if he was placed on the high platform, he should be one of the best. As for the remaining half, it was the ghostly thing that was now lodged in the space of the jade pendant. Lin Yi had never seen the strength of this guy, but the other party was also the top elder of the Spirit Beast clan. He was also regarded as the top existence of the Spirit Beast clan. His peak state should not be inferior to these people. Otherwise, if even he could not match him, the Spirit Beast clan would have been wiped out by human forces long ago, and would not have survived until now. However, this damn thing was only a broken primordial spirit, so no matter how powerful it was in the past, it could only be considered half a primordial spirit now. In addition to these 2.5, among the people that Lin Yi knew, there was no one who could compete with these mysterious ascending stage masters. After all, any mysterious ascending stage master, even if placed in Middle Island, was already a top master, and not some common trash that could be seen everywhere. And now, on the high platform, there were no less than 7 profound ascending stage masters, and this was not the most exaggerated. What really made Lin Yi's eyelids twitch was the 3 people sitting in the middle. Their aura was far more majestic and profound than the group of mysterious ascending stage masters. In other words, these 3 people were transcendent existences above the profound ascension stage. As for what realm was above the profound ascension stage, Lin Yi had never even heard of it. Lin Yi was secretly shocked. It was no wonder that so many people yearned for the East Continent. They all wanted to be selected by this Golden Morning Star Cultivator Academy, as there was a super expert above the profound ascension stage overseeing it. This was simply a living signboard. Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and could not continue forward. They could only follow the rules of the crowd and sit down at the back of the crowd. Since they had nowhere else to go, they might as well join in the fun and listen to the discussions of the people around them. Dean Ling Yuanqing actually came in person this year? As expected. Just as Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao sat down, they heard a man wearing a yellow hat exclaim in the front row. That's impossible, right? No matter how important this enrollment is as a dignified dean. It's impossible for him to come in person, right? Did you make a mistake? Someone next to him immediately questioned. Mistake? Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I'll talk nonsense about this kind of thing? There, look at the old man in the middle wearing a white school robe. He's Dean Ling Yuanqing. The man in the yellow hat said with certainty. Lin Yi looked over without batting an eyelid. The old man that this man was pointing at was one of the 3 people that he was paying attention to, a transcendent existence that was above the profound ascension stage. His aura does seem like it, but he could also be a vice dean or something. I heard that the vice deans of the Yellow Morningstar Cultivator Academy are all monsters with incredible strength, not much weaker than the dean himself. The people next to him still did not completely believe him. What do you know? The one in the middle is Dean Ling Yuanqing, there's no doubt about that. As for the vice dean you mentioned, do you see the two sitting next to him? Those are the real vice deans. The man in the yellow hat said with a look of disdain. The two vice deans he was referring to were the two super experts above the profound ascension stage other than the old man in the middle. Linny nodded inwardly. It seemed that the man in the yellow hat was right. Even if it was the legendary Yellow Morningstar Cultivator Academy in the East Continent, with such strength, if they could not even become vice deans, it would be too shocking. Good. You're very knowledgeable, alright? Speaking of which, Dean Ling Yuanqing and the two vice deans beside him are all very secretive. How do you know them so well? That's right, you've never been to the East Continent, how can you recognize these experts? That's right, if you're talking about the two vice deans, it's fine if you can recognize them. It's not strange for them to show up during the recruitment, but this Dean Ling Yuanqing you mentioned, he's never appeared before, right? Could it be that you've seen him before? The people beside him asked curiously. It was not their first time participating in the East Continent Academy selection. They had heard of legendary figures like Dean Ling Yuanqing, but they had never seen him before. It was impossible for them to be as confident as the man in the yellow hat. You don't understand. Of course, I've never seen such an important figure before. But have you guys forgotten? I have a cousin who is an expert in the pugilistic world. I was fortunate enough to see the portraits of some mountain opening stage experts in the East Continent, and one of them was this Dean Ling Yuanqing. The man in the yellow hat boasted proudly to the crowd. Oh, you're talking about that distant cousin of yours who's known as the pugilistic world's inquisitor. No wonder it's not surprising that he knows these important figures. When everyone heard this, they finally came to a realization. It seemed that this inquisitive cousin was also an extremely famous person. Now you should believe me, right? But come to think of it, the Academy selection is such a sensational event, there's no reason for my cousin to not come and join in the fun. Why don't I see him this time? The man in the yellow hat continued to be proud of himself while feeling a little puzzled. Summon the monthly votes for the mobile reading. Mobile readers can vote. If you enter the top 10 there will be a reward. Everyone please support the merfolk. To be continued. Chapter 5993. As he spoke, Cheng Haonan and Wu Baoliang stared at Lin Yi maliciously, as if they wanted to skin him alive. Lin Yi glanced at the two. He was not interested in Long Kiba, but he had to get rid of the other two before he left South Continent. Especially when he saw the latter, he could not help but be slightly startled. He was the target of his trip. Lin Yi had seen Wu Baoliang's portrait on the wanted order from the law enforcement hall. Although it was his first time seeing him in person, he could recognize him at a glance with his iconic triangular yin-yang eyes. Lin Yi had known for a long time that Wu Baoliang would also participate in the South Continent Escort Agency's event, and he had been paying attention. Unfortunately, from yesterday until now, he had seen Long Kiba and Cheng Haonan, but he hadn't seen Wu Baoliang. Perhaps Wu Baoliang was regarded as their last trump card, so he stayed in the inn and did not come out at all. But now he probably saw an opportunity, so he was pulled over at the last minute. This guy is finally willing to come out. Lin Yi sneered in his heart and secretly clenched his fists. After holding it in for so long, he could not help but have some killing intent, but in the end he did not act rashly. Young hero Ling, you decide. Qi Mingyuan looked at Lin Yi. He did not know how Lin Yi did it. He was afraid that it would ruin the plan, so he did not dare to make a decision. Haha, since someone wants to give us points, of course the more the merrier. Lin Yi smiled faintly, not minding it. Such arrogance. Then I'll let you open your eyes and see. Who is giving who points? Long Kiba waved his hand and said to Cheng Haonan and Wu Baoliang, you two, let's go in and see what this kid is up to. After saying that, Long Kiba went straight to Area 30 with his men. There were not many people, only him, Cheng Haonan and Wu Baoliang. Although they were not part of the robbers, they had caused such a big commotion just now. He had already heard everything that was going on inside. It was useless to bring too many people. Wu Baoliang alone was enough. The three of them walked into Area 30. At this moment, this small area that was surrounded by darkness was already a mess. The small cargo ship had been dismantled into pieces of broken wooden planks, floating on the surface of the sea. Even the surrounding reefs had been cut into pieces by Zhen Qi. Moreover, the seawater was muddy. It was obvious that the bottom of the sea had been stepped on by someone, and the sand and mud underneath had all been turned over. What a thorough search. Long Kiba sneered. If it was anyone else who saw this scene, they wouldn't be able to escape. His heart skipped a beat because if even this could not be found, it meant that it would be difficult to find. However, he was not worried at all. Counselor, it's up to you now. The reason why he called Wu Baoliang over at the last minute was because Qing Haonan had said that this military advisor had an ultimate move. It was easy to use it to find things in this kind of competition. It's a piece of cake. Wu Baoliang's aura suddenly erupted. At first glance, it seemed that he was only at the great perfection of the gold core realm. However, immediately after that, the sky and earth within Area 30 suddenly spun. Everything in the area, including seawater, sand, and broken wood, flew into the air as if they had suddenly lost the shackles of gravity. The entire area then became a weightless world. Immediately after, Wu Baoliang slowly clenched his open palms. Everything in the air instantly went berserk and violently collided with each other. Originally, it was only fragmented, but after the collision, it became even more fragmented and even powder. The military advisor is indeed an expert. I've never seen or heard of such a marvelous technique before. Long Kiba suddenly had an eye-opener. If they really fought, although his strength was not weak, it was limited to direct fighting and killing. He did not have such a powerful and magical technique like Wu Baoliang. It's just a piece of cake. This technique is called all things kill. Anything with a weaker quality will eventually be crushed into powder by something with a stronger quality. The treasure chest is made of special dark steel. If I'm not mistaken, its quality should be the toughest. So, after the all things kill is over, the treasure chest will be the last thing left. Wu Baoliang smiled mysteriously. In front of the military advisor's all things kill, including the array, everything will be destroyed. Any concealment method will be ineffective. As long as it is hidden here, it will definitely be revealed. Qing Haonan added. With his relationship with Wu Baoliang, he was clear about these methods. Then I'll wait to celebrate for you. After this round of competition, my Dragon Boat Escort Agency will jump to second place in the scoreboard and surpass the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Long Kiba laughed proudly. That's expected. It will happen soon. Wu Baoliang's triangular yin-yang eye revealed a hint of pride as he commented, however, this Lingyi is quite skilled. He was able to hide the package so well that normal methods wouldn't be able to find it. No wonder Boundless Sea and the others suffered. Isn't this just a small trick in front of the military advisor? The Heavens Equal Escort Agency only knows how to play tricks. They will never be able to show their strength. This time, let them have a taste of kicking an iron plate. Qing Haonan laughed coldly. While the three of them were chatting, the all things kill hanging in the air finally ended. Anything with a slightly weaker quality had already lost its shape. Even the reefs and rocks had been crushed into powder. The pure shall rise, the corrupted shall fall. Under Wu Baoliang's control, the all things kill hanging in the air slowly separated into two layers. Everything that was slightly lighter floated up, and everything that was slightly heavier sank down. During this separation process, anything that had a shape could be clearly seen. The treasure chest had to be among them. Long Kiba, Qing Haonan, and Wu Baoliang all stared at this scene with wide eyes, hoping to find the treasure chest that they had expected. However, even after the separation there was nothing. This. Wu Baoliang was speechless for a long time. Long Kiba and Qing Haonan were dumbfounded at the same time. Just a moment ago they had the demeanor of an expert, and they were so confident and calm. In the end, they still couldn't find the treasure chest? Wasn't this a joke? Military advisor, what should we do now? Long Kiba was completely flustered. Because they didn't get a single point in the second round, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency only got a total of 160 points in the first 3 rounds. Even if they included this round, they would only get 50 points in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. That would only add up to 210 points. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come. Chapter 5994. But good steel should be used on the blade's edge. Linny didn't plan on using the fruit right now. After all, it was a treasure that was hard to find in this world, and he might not be able to find it again in this lifetime. He had to save it for the most crucial moment. At present, Lin Yi felt that it was not the most critical moment yet. He had a faint hunch that even if he did not use the myriad golden dan fruit, he had a chance to break through to the late stage of gold core. Because every time he was tempered by the aftermath of the 5 elements' murderous aura, he could clearly feel the throbbing sign that he was about to break through. However, what made Lin Yi feel a little pity was that although the sign was very obvious and strong, he did not really break through after every time he endured the aftermath. It just remained at the level of the sign. It seemed that he could not break through successfully. Lin Yi knew that this state of eagerness to break through would not last long. If he could not successfully break through before it disappeared, he would have to wait for the next sign to appear. Then he did not know when. Cultivation was like rowing a boat against the current. There were many examples of people who could not break through when it was time to break through, and thus fell into a quagmire. Fortune comes from risk. It seems that you have to take a little risk. The ghost suggested. Understood. Lin Yi nodded. Although he had always been cautious, he would never refuse some necessary risks. Just like now, there were only two ways for him to take advantage of the situation to break through. The first was to take the golden Dan fruit. However, he did not plan to do so, so he could only use the second method, which was to use the ready-made 5 elements murderous aura to force out his greater potential. If it was someone else, they would definitely not dare to do this, but Lin Yi could. Since he could withstand the aftermath of the 5 elements murderous aura, he could naturally go further and try to get closer to the 5 elements murderous aura. Of course, the premise was that he had to master this degree, otherwise it would not be called stimulating his potential. It would be courting death. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi changed to a cylindrical platform next to him. When he stood on it, he could only reach the 5 poison swamp above his head, but now he directly entered the swamp. Sure enough, Lin Yi was immediately targeted by the 5 elements murderous aura. If the 5 poison swamp above him was a pond, and the 5 elements murderous aura were piranhas, then Lin Yi was a living bait. When he stood on the previous platform, Lin Yi, the bait, was still hanging above the water. That was why the piranhas weren't aroused. At most they were splashed a little. But now, the bait was directly thrown into the pond, and the piranhas immediately revealed their ferocious nature. Perhaps it was because of Lin Yi's elemental attribute. To a certain extent, he had the same smell as the 5 elements, so the 5 elements didn't gather around him. Otherwise Lin Yi would have died even if he had 10,000 lives. But even so, the 5 elements didn't gather around him. Just the 5 elements murderous aura next to him was enough to kill him. Previously, when facing the aftermath of the 5 elements murderous aura, Lin Yi was already suffering. Now he was directly facing the 5 elements murderous aura. His whole body could not stop trembling. This was a biological instinct when facing a fatal crisis. Even if Lin Yi wanted to control it, he could not, unless he was already a dead man. Be careful. Don't go overboard. At this time, even the ghostly thing was frightened. Although this was his suggestion, even he couldn't stay calm when it really came to this moment. After all, he was on Lin Yi's body. He could feel the horror of the 5 elements murderous aura. This thing could really kill someone if he was not careful. If Lin Yi died, even he would be unlucky. I know. Lin Yi responded in a deep voice. At the same time, the 5 elements murderous aura slammed into his body. Lin Yi suddenly clenched his teeth until they bled. All the muscles on his body trembled like a sieve. The quenching of the aftermath before was already like being cut by 1,000 knives, but the pain at this moment was more than 100 times. It's coming. Under the extreme pain, the genuine qi in Lin Yi's body suddenly moved wildly spontaneously. It spontaneously formed a resistance with the 5 elements murderous aura outside, and it skyrocketed uncontrollably. The opportunity for a breakthrough had come. The thick barrier in front of the late stage of gold core suddenly loosened under the crazy impact of the genuine qi. The breakthrough was close at hand. Lin Yi did not dare to neglect. He quickly lowered his body and withdrew from the 5 poison swamp. Without saying a word, he jumped down from the high platform and sat cross-legged, concentrating on the breakthrough. First, he was directly facing the baptism of the 5 elements murderous aura. The moment just now was the limit that he could endure. Second, the breakthrough process could not be disturbed at all. Otherwise, if it was light, he would be injured. If it was heavy, he would be possessed by the devil. There were many cases where he even died on the spot. The 5 elements murderous aura could only be used to find the opportunity for a breakthrough. If he wanted to break through while enduring the baptism of the 5 elements murderous aura, it was simply courting death. Even if he was courting death, he should not seek it in such a way. Everything was ready and the east wind had arrived. Lin Yi's breakthrough could be said to be a matter of course. In just half an hour he was reborn without any wind or danger, and his whole temperament was completely new. Although there seemed to be only a thin line between the peak of the middle stage of gold core and the late stage of gold core, the meaning of the two was completely different. Before he was just a typical gold core expert, but now he had reached a level where he could look forward to a higher realm. After entering the late stage of gold core, most cultivators had already begun to prepare for the next breakthrough to the Yuanying stage. Chu Bubi was an example. Ordinary cultivators were still like this, but Lin Yi was the strongest gold core cultivator who had a perfect breakthrough. The process from the late stage of gold core to the great perfection of gold core was much faster than ordinary people. Stepping into the late stage of gold core meant that he was not far from the Yuanying stage. Carefully feeling it? With a new power in his body, Lin Yi took a deep breath. From the peak of the middle stage of gold core to the late stage of gold core, he could clearly feel that the improvement in strength was not just a little bit, it was simply a skyrocketing increase. Of course, Lin Yi did not show too much joy. It was Lin Yi's consistent style to be indifferent. What's more, after seeing the Shishan Old Master, the evil cultivator of the mountain opening stage, and the even more terrifying spirit beast guards of the spirit beast clan, this little improvement in strength was not worth mentioning for those high and mighty super existences. Naturally, Lin Yi would not be ecstatic for this little breakthrough. This trip to the South Continent opened Lin Yi's eyes. The level he saw was far higher than before. Advancing to the late stage of gold core was just a small step, and there was still a long way to go in the future. To be continued.